in an effective way. Boring. Politics is more. Oh boy, my favorite show. Boring. We need to be mad. We need to be angry. We're thinking too much around here, guys. How dare you? That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh my god, dude. That's so big, dude. We gotta have a better ground game to overpower the corporate media, structure, and the propaganda. I'm right on the polling. I'm right on that. That's undisputed in my mind. That's undisputed in my mind. Politics is more complicated than that. Waging political capital in an effective way. Boring. Politics is more complicated than that. That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh boy, my favorite show. Boring. We need to be mad. We need to be angry. We're thinking too much around here, guys. How dare you? That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh my god, dude. That's so big, dude. We gotta have a better ground game to overpower the corporate media, structure, and the propaganda. I'm right on the polling. I'm right on that. That's undisputed in my mind. That's undisputed in my mind. Politics is more complicated than that. Waging political capital in an effective way. Boring. Politics is more complicated than that. That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh boy, my favorite show. Boring. We need to be mad. We need to be angry. We're thinking too much around here, guys. How dare you? That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh my god, dude. That's so big, dude. We gotta have a better ground game to overpower the corporate media, structure, and the propaganda. I'm right on the polling. I'm right on that. That's undisputed in my mind. That's undisputed in my mind. Politics is more complicated than that. Waging political capital in an effective way. Boring. Politics is more complicated than that. That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh boy, my favorite show. Hello. Boring. We need to be mad. We need to be angry. We're thinking too much around here, guys. How dare you? How dare you? That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh my god, dude. That's so big, dude. My my ideological label is my ideas are correct. That's my ideological label. We gotta have a better ground game to overpower the corporate media structure. No, not having a label is not a label. Like if you say like if you say, do you like Burger King or McDonald's more? And I say, wait, that doesn't work. What's better? Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, Sonic's, Zaxby's, or what? What's the best fast food place nowadays? You prefer McDonald's? Dude, what's up? The Pollock, the Politiker, Leo, Chemical, Toilet, Rodrigo, Jay, Cockeyed Rooster, yeah. Ugh. I don't want to be streaming, but I need to be streaming. You know what I'm saying? I'll be moved into school in a couple days. So that'll be where I'm at after I am muted. So I'm moving back into school. So I'll have to find a new way to record videos there, but that'll be okay. I'll figure it out. What's up? What's up, TNT? In-N-Out and Five Guys. I never had In-N-Out, actually. All right. 3 hours of pain and suffering. Vaush versus Destiny. Oh no.
Well, if it isn't Vaush video back on Twitch.
So basically, I think Vaush said something about Destiny's comments regarding Philosophy Tube, because Destiny hates all the online lefties and BreadTube people because they are not like analytically correct enough. They don't care about fact as much when it comes to like economic stuff, and he gets really frustrated with them. So Destiny said there's no place at all for Philosophy Tube, like on the internet, I think. And Vaush said, this is dumb. And then Destiny saw a clip of that. And Vaush recently got unbanned from Twitch. So I think they like escalated that into a full-on debate.
Now we'll see how long that lasts, huh?
Politics.
Talk about Middle Eastern people.
We had a very nuanced discussion about that in a debate panel earlier. All right, what are you talking about? I was reading donos. I didn't get a chance to catch up on the context of this discussion.
Well, I don't know. I only made it like 2 fucking minutes into your. I don't even think I made it that far. You got really mad that I said that people should probably like spend money on things that are important to them. If they want to like make a change, they should like actually do something. And it feels a little bit creepy when like all of these lefties are getting like mega rich on these like content platforms, and they're like hide the amount of money they make, and they don't like seem to be doing anything proactive. It just feels
okay. We got a lot of points built up. All right, so we can take it one at a time. So your argument, let me make sure I'm steelmanning this properly. Your argument is that you think if you're an advocate for a given political ideology and you make a lot of money, that you should probably use that money in responsible ways, such to the effect that you can propagate your political ideology, right?
Yeah, not all of it. You don't have to be poor. And it's not so much that like there should be some minimum spending or whatever. I would just imagine that like if you're a socialist and you truly believe in all of these ideas, that like you would probably try to find projects or things that you could invest in to kind of like, I don't know, further those causes in the world. That's what I would imagine. If you really truly believed about these things, if you really strongly believe in these things.
And you think it'd be a fault against that person if they didn't do that to a sufficient extent?
Or to any extent, yeah, for sure. To a sufficient extent. I mean, we can quibble over like how much but like if they're not doing anything at all, it's like, well, damn, what the fuck?
Right. Okay. So we're talking. This is all about Abigail, right? I think that was the context.
Not all about Abigail. It's about a lot of lefty creators, but I mean, we can focus on Abigail first if you want.
Okay. Okay. Point by point. So you say that hiding income is bad, right?
It doesn't have to be, but if you're a socialist, it feels kind of weird. But yeah.
I don't like hiding income either, but I don't think it has to do with the socialism thing. I just think when people donate to you or sub to your Patreon or whatever, they should be doing so with a reasonable understanding of the type of person they're contributing money to, you know?
It depends if you're a socialist that focuses anger at like rich people in general. So like if you're a socialist who hates and you talk about hating people who have enough money to like buy a nice car, buy a big house, if you talk about that, it is hypocritical for you to be like wealthy and to not use your money in a good way. And by wealthy, I mean, of course, like upper middle class, like $1 million, maybe $5 million. That's pretty hypocritical. But if your biggest attacks on like wealthy people or like rich people are at billionaires and actual people who like have real power in the system, that's very different from just like hating people who can afford better materials.
What type of person?
Oh, like income wise,
so it's interesting to me because like I'll see a lot of lefties will make arguments on it's okay. It's funny to me because I'll see a lot of people will make arguments saying things like wages should all be public. The reason why wages are hidden is because your employer is trying to take advantage of you. And on one end, that's kind of true. However, there are legitimate reasons why some high-paid individuals might want to keep their wages private, like we see every single lefty content creator do. So it's funny that they opt to keep their wages private, but then on the other hand, we'll say things like, well, all wages should be public. That's just the boss trying to screw you over. It's like, well, hold on. It seems like you know why you want to keep your money secret is because you don't want people, like I guess having other demands or expectations of you.
Well, there are differences between the way that pans out when you have coworkers who are being paid wages by a boss, where there might be discrepancies in how much different people are being paid or differences in the contracts, versus like a YouTube channel where you're getting your money off Patreon and you're not inherently tied to a wage from any larger institution, right?
Yeah, but is it really, is the difference there meaningful? Because it seems to me that the reason why we get upset about different wages being paid to different workers is because we feel like, well, hold on, all of you guys are doing similar work. This is bullshit. Why is one of you getting paid so much more than the other? But when it comes to content creation, it seems like, well, hold on, I'm getting paid more than you because I'm more popular, even if you are doing the same work or even less work. So it seems like if anything, that should be an even stronger cause for like being public with like, hey, this is how much money I make.
Well, I think it should be public in both cases, but for different reasons. I do think that sometimes different people doing the same work get paid different amounts, and that making wages public would make it easier for workers to collectively organize. But I also think the reason why you should expose your income if you're a Patreon person is so you can't play up a narrative that you're some basement dwelling, like you're saving up to, you sold your kidney and you're saving up to buy the stitches and you can't afford X and Y when you make.
Yes, I was muted. So during this debate, Vaush is going a really far way to make sure that he doesn't like attack other lefty content creators for not using their money in effective ways. He is like gonna be very charitable to every bread tuber around, and he doesn't want to admit that it might be a little bit weird for a socialist who like hates rich people to act exactly like those rich people and to not care about like organizing or donating money in general. He doesn't want to like give any ground whatsoever on that point.
$20,000 a month. I think that's exploitative. Very often people will.
But then Destiny later, he gets really cringy at the end of the debate. Like Destiny, I would say Vaush Destiny probably won the first half, I guess you can say. And Vaush, if you want to say won, Vaush did better in the second half, I would have to say.
They'll that's not preying on your audience, but they'll manufacture a narrative where they need the money more than they do. I'm
sure,
rich.
It's like girls that are saying like, oh, I'm so single and lonely and blah, blah, blah. And they like try to get guys to donate to them or some shit. And then they have like a husband or whatever. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's a little exploitative.
I'm rich, you're rich, Hassan's really fucking rich. If people are going to donate to any of us, I think they should do so understanding that, I mean, they're not putting a sandwich in our mouths or anything. They should do it because they like the content.
Yeah.
Well, I don't disagree on that. But about the spending money for socialist causes thing.
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, I could brainstorm some things if you want, but I mean, like, I'm not a socialist, so I haven't thought about it much.
Okay. Well, do you have any? Because, I mean, you say putting money towards some kind of project to advocate your political ideology. It'd be easy to make the hypocrite argument with anybody else, but you've actually put a lot of money down for your canvassing.
Well, no, even if I hadn't put any money down, though, I could get away with it because I don't make it like my like mode of economic production is not like a moral argument. I don't ascribe morality to capitalism the same way that like a socialist might say that's like an inherently immoral system.
Well, you ascribe morality to whichever system you believe best brings society in a direction that meets your axiomatic values, right? You think that's capitalism.
Yeah, but like the difference is that like I don't believe that the participation in capitalism is inherently immoral, but I think that some of the outcomes might be immoral. But a socialist would say that the participation in capitalism to some extent could be immoral if you're a capital owner, like just regardless of the outcome. Even if, so like Marx, for instance, would say even in a perfectly equitable society, if the workers don't own the means of production, there's still exploitation going on there, right? So like, so I think that like if you have like very strong values related to like economic arguments, it just feels like you should do something to do that. Yeah. Wait, hold on. I just real quick. Okay, I'm not gonna get like mean with you or whatever, but I just want to point out that like, so like this guy in your chat, Destiny, be like, you claim to be socialist, but you haven't donated your entire income to charity. Curious, man, Phil Wynn, you are really fucking stupid. I'm so sorry that you have to live your existence.
So this guy in your chat just said Vaush Tony W. You want to answer for that?
What's wrong with Tony W?
Oh, I don't like the look he's giving me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, they seemed really disinterested for like this 4-hour conversation, but somehow they lasted 3.5 hours.
Here's something that I think would be really interesting, okay? And now keep in mind, I'm not a socialist, so I don't think about this a lot, okay? But like, this is just off the top of my head. So I think you can franchise a McDonald's for like $1 million or whatever. I think it's about $1 million. I think you can franchise McDonald's. What if you got a bunch of lefties together, you get a loan, like joint loan, and you franchise McDonald's, and like the payout structure and like the ruling of that McDonald's was like a co-op? That would be sick as fuck. And it would be a McDonald's. So it's like the symbol of fucking capitalism. Like imagine successfully running a McDonald's as like a co-op with a bunch of money, and you've got like managers and workers and all this shit that are all like have like democratic decisions in the workplace. Like that would be like one example of like that would be a sick ass experiment. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I can't deny that. I think I need to run back to this participation.
Does Vaush and Destiny debating hurt the left overall? Online, like I think it's just for entertainment at this point. They didn't get anywhere in their conversation whatsoever. If there are hypocritical things to be found with, socialist creators not living the lives of like good praxis machines. That wasn't really exposed in this debate, honestly.
And capitalism thing. I don't know. I can't speak for other people's values. There are a lot of dumb fuck lefties. I don't know how much they get misinterpreted.
Like
but...
they're debating on lefties being dumb, which they both agree with. The thing that annoys me about like Vaush and Destiny is like they get into these like super deep rhetorical like edgelord, like we need to dissect every part of this argument and really use our hypothetical scenarios to own each other. They get into that realm instead of like having productive conversation that like builds. Like, it's always like, what is your moral foundation for this? Oh, wait, Vaush, you contradicted yourself. You said one word wrong. And then Vaush is like, Destiny, are you seriously saying this right now? You seem to be unhinged right now. It's like that back and forth for like 3 hours.
For me personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with an individual maximizing their outcomes within an unethical system like capitalism, especially if they're a socialist, because it increases the likelihood that they'll be able to achieve political and economic power. I would love it if we had socialists who were go-getter business majors, so when the day comes, or something, we have people in legitimate positions of power, as opposed to a bunch of college students and commune.
You understand that, like, with that mentality, you could never criticize Bezos again, though, right?
Well, I don't criticize Bezos. I tend to criticize...
Really?
Oh, okay, hold on. It's entirely possible that I've misspoke. Generally speaking, and I do hold to this, try to criticize the systems that allow people like Bezos to exist. Now, there have definitely been times where I've said, like, fucking Bezos, but I don't really think I levy my criticisms at individuals and how they use the system, you know?
Okay, that's interesting, because, like, so what you're giving me right now is the most capitalist take. So people, actually, Devin Nash made this argument to me a long time ago, which is funny. But basically, the idea is that if you want to do good things, you should live as the most brutal, ruthless capitalist in the world so that you can amass as much money as possible. And then using that money, you leverage it for good causes. So, for example, people like Bill Gates or people like Jeff Bezos. I think Bezos is starting like a fund for, I don't remember the project or whatever, but he's doing like charitable stuff now that he's going to be serving on the board.
Well, those wouldn't meet my criteria for doing good with the wealth that you've achieved. It's good for the world.
Bill Gates would?
I actually think that Bill Gates in some ways has done harm to our understanding of welfare programs, because by privatizing or charitizing, by making charity the means by which we engage in, I know he's done a lot of really good work in Africa. I feel like it assigns a responsibility with regards to those social problems.
I guess it depends, because like throughout history, if your mindset is I'm a socialist and I need to become powerful by myself to change something, typically that hasn't gone well throughout history, I don't think. When people get too much power, they seem to corrupt pretty much no matter what. I understand and I agree with the idea that you should be. I mean, that has happened, but I do agree that in capitalism, the center of power is capital, and if you do have money, you can do more. But you need to make sure you stay pure throughout that entire process, I guess.
Like, what if a billionaire took care of it? And I think those questions or those assumptions have a lot of really negative long-term implications with a prioritization of charity over real effective foundational social programs.
Yeah, and I can understand that, but can you, so these two positions seem odd to me. So what you just said was that it can be dangerous, and I agree with you, by the way, to some extent, that like having billionaires cure diseases and stuff is really cool, but it's also a little bit scary, because it's like, okay, well, hold on, should the job of like billionaires, or like, do we need to rely on billionaires to take care of these problems? Like, that's really scary. I don't know if that's like a positive, but like, how do you square that away with your belief that people should maximize their existence under capitalism so that they can become those very same billionaires that are the ones like solving those problems?
Well, haven't you worked your way out of this snafu before? How do you think you're getting taxed enough? I mean.
Yeah, sure. You can set a good example of how to run a business. I think that is actually kind of cool what Destiny said, like maybe come together and start your own business and make it like a co-op and like prove it can work on a small scale, because that has been done in certain communities, you know, a community owned, some of the most prominent community owned grocery stores are in very conservative parts of the US.
You worked your way out of this snafu before? How do you think you're getting taxed enough? I mean.
Probably not. It'd probably be higher.
Yeah, but you're going to move to a place that has lower taxes. I think you push for institutional change while trying to maximize whatever benefits you can accrue within a system, even if you think that system is unjust. Now, I could be assigning moral weight here that's not justified, but I imagine that you probably think the low taxes on wealthy people we have right now are unjust because they do not accurately reflect the necessary funding of social programs that we need. But you still take advantage of it.
So real quick, so like this is, so a lot of people have a lot of trouble with this distinction. I don't know why. I don't think that paying taxes or not paying taxes, I don't think that taxes have anything to do with morality. I don't care if people pay taxes or don't pay taxes. Like what I'm focused on is, do we have the social programs that we need? Whether or not I'm living in a high tax state or a low tax state has zero bearing on whether or not any of those social programs exist. And I don't make an inherent judgment on the morality of paying high taxes versus paying medium taxes. So I can do whatever I want, and I don't think I run into any hypocritical problems. If the problems of socialists inherently makes moral statements related to capitalism. So
depends on what you mean by inherent. I mean, so do you think it's less moral for a civilization, for a country to not have the wealth necessary to pay out good social programs? Like, is there any
that would be
difference?
bad. Yeah, that would be bad.
Then wouldn't that be you making a moral statement about a society having unjustly low taxes? Because you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, but you're individual. But whether or not you individually pay higher or low taxes has no bearing on that, right? You're looking at the outcome. You're looking at like the entirety of a system, right? Your individual contribution.
I completely agree. Yeah, and likewise, I think that if a socialist makes a decent amount of money, or even gets invested in Wall Street speculation or business, that their actions have nothing to do with whether or not capitalism or socialism is going to be around tomorrow, and that in the meantime they're just doing what they can to further their own interests within that system.
Okay.
And the nice thing, the benefit, is if they do use that power and influence to do good for their social or economic system. Obviously, I think that's a good thing.
Okay, so here's a question that I have for you. Let's say that we have two vegans, okay? Let's say that one guy is a vegan because he believes that it will bring about very positive changes in the environment. And let's say that another guy is a vegan because he thinks that like consuming like dead and tortured and murdered animals is like just...
Thank you for the $5, Cockeyed Rooster. Wait, they brought up Pac-Man and they actually talked. Destiny and Pac-Man talked today. I'll have to check that out because I feel like didn't Destiny go pretty hard on Pac-Man and say he was like being like intellectually dishonest?
ethically wrong, period.
I'm sorry, wait, could you repeat the first one?
He thinks that like consuming like dead and tortured and murdered animals is like just ethically wrong, period.
I'm sorry, wait, could you repeat the first one?
Yeah, first guy is vegan for environmental reasons, and the second guy is vegan because he thinks it's totally horribly wrong to murder sentient beings and then to consume their corpses, right? Do you think that if both of these people occasionally ate meat, do you think that it would mean the same thing to both those people? Do you think both would be equally hypocritical?
That's a pretty tough question to answer. I
It's
imagine
a super simple question to answer.
well, I'd have to put myself in their headspaces. I imagine that both of them would feel hypocritical to some extent, but it would probably be worse for the latter, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, so I would think that so in one case, right, the environmental vegan is not placing a moral like judgment on the act of eating or not eating like an animal, right? He's looking at the outcome related to it. Now, if occasionally he eats meat, he's not really doing much to affect a different outcome, right? If he eats meat every now and then, he's not making a substantial difference in the environment. So he could do it. I don't know if he's really hypocritical. If he's vegan most of the time, that's cool. But like if he's trying to advocate for the change that we're bringing about the environmental change that he's looking for, him eating meat every now and then isn't really a big deal. But if the other guy is ethically vegan because he's opposed to the consumption of animals because he thinks that's murder, well, now him eating meat ever is really fucked up. That's really wrong. Like, well, hold on, you're directly engaging in something that is just ethically not permissible. This is really bad.
Copy.
So I think that the two of these people,
But I'm a
have similar...
consequentialist, so wouldn't both of those points ultimately boil down if both of them were consequentialists? Wouldn't both of those ultimately boil down to when I eat meat, it contributes harm to the world?
I think that even if we were consequentialists, we could still look at these two actions as being like...
Sure, but at the end of the day, that would be the ultimate argument. That disgust with the act of eating meat would be because consequentially you believe that eating meat reinforces some social rule where it's okay to do harm to animals and so on and so forth. You would have to run the logic train a bit, but at the end of the day, it would be about the harm done. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a consequentialist argument.
Yeah, of course. But in the logic train, the harm done, the consequences are different for both people. So for instance, for the first vegan, that's the consequences of his action is he contributes a trivial amount of pollution. That's the consequence. And that's a little bit bad, but it's like not really that big a deal. But for the second guy, the consequence is like he's directly partaken in like consuming part of an animal. And that consequence just right then and there is horrible. The consequences of both actions are significantly different because where they put like the moral weight of what they're doing, right? The first guy just wants to change the system. The second guy thinks that every one of those individual acts is bad.
Oh, sure. Then I think this would be applicable only if socialists weren't stupid enough to take the perspective of the latter person. You don't like the way our society operates right now in a number of ways. You obviously have political opinions. I feel the same way. Our endpoints are different. But at the end of the day, my belief that our society is unethical because it's not socialist, and your belief that our society, you wouldn't say is unethical. I believe that society could be improved with the implementation of certain policies, as do you. And while I believe the current system is flawed, I don't think that the act of flourishing within this system is necessarily a moral crime. Now, I want to be clear, though, because there are like different scales of this. If you get up to being like a mega billionaire, there are ways in which your presence and your wealth and your influence perpetuate systems that like a regular rich person wouldn't.
That's what I was saying. Like if you're a regular rich person, you can have a nice car, a nice house. You're not really a playmaker in the actual system.
Bezos is a regular millionaire is closer to me by a long shot than they are to Bezos. So there's a scale difference there. And if you're up to like Warren Buffett size, I think I could hear arguments about like, okay, well at this point you're so much a part of the institution that maybe you are systemically perpetuating the existence of capitalism. But for a person who's making a bunch of money off Patreon, I don't think that their engagement with the system is perpetuating it. I don't think that they're doing anything but flourishing.
Sure.
So this is basically a debate about if socialists, I just knocked my headphones out, but if socialists make a lot of money, should they be using that money for positive causes? And are they hypocritical if you're like a socialist YouTube creator and you talk about like being a part of the working class, but you never actually use the money you make from YouTube to like organize or anything like that? And I sort of agree with it. Like you should be doing what you can. Like if you can comfortably with your current capital status organize, help people, donate to different organizations, run food banks, maybe help workers strike. If you can provide resources for that comfortably, you should be doing that as a socialist. If you're really going to be on YouTube and stuff talking about this big bravado, like I'm for the working class, we're going to fight this together, guys. We're going to be for the revolution on the streets. You should be doing what you can do. And if you know you have that ability, you should be doing it. If you're like unaware, say you just like got famous on YouTube, say you make a lot of money on YouTube, but you're unaware of like how you can help, or you're like unsure about how you can help. Once you find out, if you do know you can help and you decide not to because of some type of personal selfish reason, but yet you still go on and you talk like a noble socialist on your YouTube channel, I think that is hypocritical.
So I agree with you, and you probably agree with me, and you might even agree with these next few statements. Then, would you agree then, with based on what you've just said, then though, you have to completely, not when I say you, I mean in a general sense for a leftist, not necessarily for you. Like, you have to completely get rid of all of the rhetoric of like criticizing.
No, they aren't just people who believe in socialism. They're people who profit off of selling a message of working class unity when they're not actually doing that. They're making money off of a life they don't live. So, like, if you're going to claim to be a part of this fight, when you make money, maybe try to do something to help that fight. You're like, do something. Like, Kyle Kalinske didn't even vote, but yet he talks like he's he's on the street with working class people. Do something. Like, it's a little bit different from like personally believing you're a socialist, and maybe using your money in a way to maybe you buy yourself a nice car instead of donating it to a food bank. I think that's different from being like a millionaire or something.
You, I mean in a general sense for a leftist, not necessarily for you. Like, you have to completely get rid of all of the rhetoric of like criticizing wealthy people or landlords or business owners in general. That all has to go, because these are all people that are just participating in the system then. So somebody that owns a few businesses, somebody that owns a few pieces of property that he rents out, wealthy people in general. Like, if you're not like a mega billionaire or somebody like perpetuating the system on your own, you basically have to stop criticizing all of these people for being successful capitalists.
Well, there are 2 points to that. If you, I don't know why you would have watched it, but generally, yeah, I do think that a lot of lefties engage in criticism which is too individualist. I think that there are rhetorical benefits to phrases like ACAB, but when it gets people to thinking, oh, cops are bad people, it pulls them away from the institutional criticism. I've talked about landlords before. I despise the commodification of land and housing, but most landlords, I could be wrong in this, I'm pretty sure most landlords are just regular folk. It's not like megafolks or anything. Yeah. A lot of those people make less money than I know my landlord makes less money than I do. And then with businesses likewise. So I think, what did Michael Brooks say? You should be kind to people and hard on institutions. I think that's a really, really good way of going about these things. That being said, there is a rhetorical benefit to aggressive and hyperbolic criticism of people in those institutions if it gets people sufficiently angry, a la ACAB. The goal then would be to get people angry while trying to direct their criticisms in a responsible way.
Do you think that okay, I'm not trying to like make you.
Did that sound weasel?
No, you're not being weasel. I'm just not sure how consistent this rhetoric is, because so the rhetoric you're giving right now is like pretty far removed from what most leftists say publicly. Now, you're not most leftists, and I say this a lot. I don't think that you necessarily give the same takes, but like I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself. I'm not trying to trap you or whatever, but like, because this is like very far removed from normal lefty dialogue. You've basically completely removed your ability to ever be critical of 99% of the participants of capitalism. But it feels like most leftists want to be able to say that like a business owner or a landlord is being necessarily exploitative in like a morally wrong sense.
Well, they are. Sure, a landlord is being exploitative, but the system that we live in requires the existence of landlords. If a person decided to not be a landlord out of conscientious objection, somebody else would be a landlord. And we need landlords to rent.
This is a really slippery slope of an argument. Like, okay, people were comparing this to the debate about like slave wages overseas. So like, if Tesla doesn't pay these child slaves 10 cents an hour, then they're not going to get paid at all. So it's better for them to be child slaves where they're going to at least get food than to die. Because like, if Tesla wasn't there, then another company would be there. It kind of sounds like that argument a little bit. Like, you can justify a lot with this. Like, oh, somebody else will do this instead. So it may as well be a socialist doing it. It's a little bit weird.
As the system exists right now. So even if the role is an exploitative one, it's a one that one must necessarily take. Same with cops, And I say this to people, they'll donate and they'll say... And
the thing is, Vaush is saying like a landlord exploits people. I think if you're like a landlord and you literally do the minimum margins that you can do, I don't think... And you work your own job, that isn't really exploitative, but...
I want to be a cop, but then I became a lefty. Should I become a cop? And my answer has always been, yeah, go for it. We need lefty cops. And if you say no, some dipshit meathead who flunked out of high school is going to take that job instead. So I don't necessarily know if it's inconsistent with my positions. I think that a lot of lefties engage in language which is rhetorically effective, but semantically inaccurate. But if you actually talk with them for a bit, you can get them to flesh out some of the nuances to these positions,
Okay, well...
By the way, as an addendum, there probably have been times that I've railed against cops or landlords or very wealthy people in a way which comes off as essentialist. It's generally language that I try to avoid. But like on a principle level, I do think that the institution should be what you criticize.
You don't think that there are ways that you can exist in that institution as like a better person rather than like you should just be like the most cutthroat, try hard, sweat guy that is like trying to exploit the system to the maximum? Do you recognize, well, not necessarily recognize like it exists and you do say, do you think that there's a distinction between two people that exist in a system like that? Okay, hold on. So
yeah, some people are way better. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so like let me take some statements. So something that you said earlier was that
the stereotypical landlord people hate is somebody who owns like 5 properties and their entire income comes from those properties. And then the stereotype also says that these landlords complain about their tenants not working enough. So like during the pandemic, they're going to talk about this. People couldn't pay their rent. So landlords were going bankrupt because landlords, a lot of them who are pretty big into the game, they might not work like a regular job. Their job might be owning those properties or maybe maintaining those properties as well, which is a job. But if they just own it, that's the stereotype. And then they look down upon working class people when in reality they make money off of owning capital. So they're exploiting people because they own capital, so they have a more powerful position over the people who have to go through the landlords to buy the housing. So they buy, people have to buy housing going through the profit motive and all that stuff.
You ought to maximize your existence in capitalism to better yourself, so you can do more later with your money.
No, there's a difference between a landlord and a property manager, but you can be both. If you are both, that is a job. That is a job. If you own property and you do all the work on it and you're good at it, like if you are good for your tenants, that is a job, like 100%. But just owning properties, that's an investment in which you're like, holding housing from humans and making them
maximize your
pay
existence
for
in
it.
capitalism. To better yourself,
You can
so you can
both.
do more later with your money or something, right?
Property manager and
I
the
think it's nice when
landlord.
people do that. If they don't want to do that, that's fine. But I think it's good when people do that. Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't matter either way.
No. I mean, as ought to, I think that socialists should work to be educated and successful. I don't think it's a moral obligation that every single one of them become like a business major or something. But I do think it's good when they do that. I just don't want to sound like I want everyone to run down that road.
Well, gotcha. So my next question is gonna be like, let's say that you have like let's say you get like a landlord, and like this landlord is like a lefty, and he decides that when the pandemic comes in, he's actually going to go into his savings account and he's going to rate his like 401k a little bit so that he can charge less money to his tenants. Do you think that landlord is just being an idiot? Should he be maximizing his means under capitalism rather than wasting some of his personal money?
No, not at all. I think it's good when people try to act exceptional within the purview of those systems. I would never disagree with that, no. And I have a lot of respect for those people, right? I mean, there's a pretty big difference between, I know landlords who were kind or kinder than they needed to be to their tenants. And I think that's very admirable. I think that if we get too hard on essentialist criticisms, then we preclude the possibility of those people doing good within their means.
Okay, so like that's kind of the thing that I'm looking at. So a lot of people will try to counteract every single time I bring up anything about a socialist maybe spending some money to further themselves. That comic always comes out, where it's like, well, you live in a society yet you participate in it, or you criticize society yet you live in it. I got you, right? But it's like, it feels like some people have the means to be a little bit more productive towards their ideological ends, even in a capitalist system. And it surprises me not to see people do that. Like, I'll get up here and I'll shout and scream about how important I think some things are. And I'd like to believe that, like, if you ever meet me in real life, you look what I do in real life, like, well, I'm trying to live that message out as much as possible. It's not, I don't turn off the stream and then drop a messaging. But it feels like for a lot of socialists, it's like, okay, well, you guys are generating so much fucking money now. Where's it all going? There's got to be some project or something. It feels like you would, I keep saying you, but I don't mean you personally. It feels like
person in mind.
Sure. So like Sean and Jen, like that guy makes a decent amount of money. Or Abigail, Philosophy Tube, she makes a decent amount of money. H Bomber guy, I think, makes a decent amount of money. I'm sure there are more channels. I don't know them all, but like those are like three. Oh, Hassan obviously on Twitch makes. I don't even know why, because I'm like a politics person. Mike from PA Central Committee on Twitch, like that guy makes like a decent amount of money now.
And decent amount of money. That's pretty. It depends where you live. It depends how much you consider a decent amount of money. Like there's a saying like you can't fill up a bathtub that has holes in it. So in this current system, for example, you might say to somebody who's on the left, why don't you voluntarily pay more taxes because you believe people should be paying more taxes? But if I pay more taxes, if I give money to something like charity, I'm basically pouring water into like a bathtub with holes in it because it can't actually fill up. The system is broken. The system can't facilitate positive change. So personally, if I have $1 million and I'm on the left, yeah, help your local organizations, but you're not going to be able to do anything massive with that amount of money. There's no massive amount of charity or organizing you can do with that money. No charity or organizing, like you can't do much with that. So like if you're going to say like I should invest this and try to get myself more capital power in the future, I don't know if that's exactly a terrible thing to do. As long as you're, like I said, you're still involved, you're still walking what you're talking, and you're not simply profiting off of your rhetoric. This is a very specific example of people using their role as like, being against capitalism to make money and, portraying themselves as the normal working class person when in reality they're pocketing money behind the scenes. This is a little bit different from just like any old like, person on the left though.
I'm sure if somebody people can that Brianna girl, but she's kind of removed from the YouTube scene. I'm trying to think of
well, like Hassan makes a couple million per year. But like he brought up Mike from PA. He definitely makes he doesn't make that much freaking money like to make any big impact. Maybe locally he can maybe give a decent donation to a local organization. Like I don't know, but
you hate me with Brianna under any circumstances. I can't speak.
Oh, the Chapo Trap House people. Yeah, where they?
I can't speak to all of these people. I know that. So I'll say this. If a person just wants to make lefty content online and then roll around in a pile of money at the end of the day, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Because the alternative, if the alternative was their absence from the platform entirely, I think that's preferable. I think it's, of course, infinitely preferable they do something nice with that money. I want to make a PAC. I recently, the tech advisor for AOC's campaign reached out to me about getting a PAC for 2022 to maybe help a progressive candidate in a purple district or something. And I thought I could throw some money in there and maybe bully some other people into throwing money in there too. I thought I could bully Hassan because that fucker makes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, are you sending out this message and trying to profit off of this message so that you can help people, or are you sending this message and profiting off of it so you can, you know, so you can improve your own conditions? So like, I'm trying to work to like get money so I can actually like do things. Like I'm at the point where I'm like, you know, coming out of college, I don't have that capital to do anything, essentially. But someone else might be like, I want to make money because I want to get rich on YouTube doing politics or something like that. It's a big difference in like approach, I guess, or like a moral foundation, because you're doing it like Blackfaced America said. You're doing it in your own self-interest versus a more altruistic motive.
7 figures a year. And I think that'd be nice. I think that.
But there's, okay, self-interest, you can debate everything is self-interest, but there is a difference between self-propelling self-interest and collective self-interest. Like, there's a big difference between those two things.
Real. I think that for a lot of people, they didn't really understand the ways in which they could.
If their message does something good.
Projects like that, I'll know, and people will say I'm sucking up.
Well, if you're a consequentialist, you could be like, yeah, that's good because they might be giving a good image to the platform and everything. But if you want to look at it like personally, if you think they're like them as a moral actor, though, probably not very good.
I thought that your canvassing stuff was pretty inspiring.
Yeah, it
maybe
can be valuable.
If we push for that, if we advocate for that more, we can get more action.
You can be morally wrong in why you're doing it, but still be valuable in doing it.
People like Abigail or Sean, because they have enough money and influence to do real good.
Mm-hmm.
I for a bit.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just surprising to me to see like when I look at somebody like Nick Fuentes, like that's a guy that is like trying to do
more effective
real work. Yeah, and not just effective like rhetoric. Like that guy's like out like fucking marching on that. You can I still don't know if he was at the Capitol or if that picture is of me or not. But like I'm pretty sure he was. He was at least outside, right? Like that's the guy that's marching. He's got his own fucking movement of gripers. These guys are showing up at like Charlie Kirk conventions and stuff. Like damn, like that guy's like he's actually like organizing and doing shit. And he's like banned on every platform. Leftists have like all the capital behind them. They've got all the corporate messaging behind them. Like they're in such a good position to raise money on all these platforms. Wait, where's it going?
Okay,
like,
I don't disagree with this. I mean, up until recently, this wasn't even a thing people thought they could do, you know? And the world between making content online and getting involved in IRL politics is, I think it's a wall that a lot of people don't feel they're capable of climbing.
Yeah,
but
maybe they're scared. Maybe they don't think they're capable of it, like Vaush just said.
Clearly, it's a thing that can be done. Well, the only thing I'm saying, because I feel at this point we're just agreeing with each other, is that I wish...
Dude, I'm telling you, in that debate with that forced to vote debate I did, I literally said a lot of people on the left, or no, it was the second one I did with that one guy who said I'm not a real progressive, but the one example I brought up is people on the left act like a socially awkward person at a party when it comes to politics. Like many people, we're very disorganized. We're not sure what we're doing as a movement. I'm not talking about like individuals. Of course, there's individuals who know what they're doing. But as a movement, this young movement, people who have been here, who voted for like Ralph Nader in like 2000, they understand what the hell they need to do now. But I feel like the younger generation coming up kind of is really socially awkward in the sense where they don't know how to act. They don't know how to act within this current political system.
That can be done. Well, the only thing I'm saying, because I feel at this point we're just agreeing with each other, is that I wish he would be more willing to believe that the reason why these lefties aren't doing this is because it's unfathomable or difficult to them, more so than because they're like callous or self-centered grifters. Because I can tell you, and I'd like to think of...
No, it's like, what's wrong? There's problems. Are you mad about it? Yeah. What are you going to do about it? I don't know what I'm going to do about it, actually. That's basically everybody on the left nowadays.
To them, more so than because they're like callous or self-centered grifters. Because I can tell you, and I'd like to think I'm a decently politically involved person, that up until your canvassing, it didn't even cross my mind. Honestly, didn't even cross my mind. So hopefully this is something that we can normalize. I could be wrong. They could be way more cynical than I expect, but...
Okay. I mean, I hope so. I guess it makes me disappointed that, like, I don't know if you did this.
Trailblazer destiny.
But I know that like so many, I know Hassan did this. So many left-leaning people were tweeting out like when like other celebrities were like donating money, and they're like, "You only donated 5 million."
Hey, but that's an issue to me. If you're talking about this rhetoric being effective, if you're talking about these people's influence being effective, if you're on the left and you're talking about left principles, and your viewers don't know what canvassing is, oh boy, dude, I don't care. Now, this is a big thing about the left. I don't care about the theory. I don't care about the Marxism. I don't care about what you're talking about when it comes to labor production value or whatever the hell. We need to be effective. We need to be real. We need to be about organizing. If you're watching a left content creator and you don't know what canvassing is, they're not doing their job. If you don't know what unions are, they're not doing their job. If you only know what philosophy and theory is, I mean, what's the point then? Like, yeah, we're all informed. We all have this ammunition in our heads that we don't know how to use.
So many left-leaning people were tweeting out like when like other celebrities were like donating money, and they're like, "You only donated $5 million. You're worth $100 million. Like you only did this much." Blah blah blah.
Yeah, and that's what happens because people on the left are like, "I know the right answers. Why is nothing getting done?" So they go yell on Twitter. Like, of course we have a lot of right answers. That's not what the world cares about. Like, it's not about who has the right answers. It's about who can more effectively waste power. Really. Like, we can have the right answers our entire lives, but if we can't implement those right answers because the opposing propaganda campaign beats us, then what's the point?
Okay, well, damn, geez, like apparently donating money isn't enough. Like, but meanwhile, like you guys, I'm saying you guys, I don't mean you. Like these guys are doing nothing. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, I just want to be clear that I'm not targeting at you. But
I think a lot of people do that because they don't want less economically conscientious people to think too much of the celebrities for doing so. They don't want the celebrity to be able to build a personality cult around donating 1,000th of their income and being hailed as a hero for years to come.
Well, do you think that's any worse than building a cult of personality around?
Yeah, Destiny didn't even know what canvassing was. This isn't good. Like, why are I think I know why, but why is every content creator online that's involved in politics, why are there no content creators who like came from politics? I know there's some coming up right now, but who came from politics first? It seems to be mostly philosophical like theory people who are getting really popular on these platforms. It's not going to be a regular, because part of it is because people who are actually doing stuff don't have time to be a popular internet guy. Like people, like we know people like Dylan Burns is actually doing stuff in real politics. That's somebody who I can think of right away that's actually doing something. But in general, I would guarantee 99% of these people seem to be like, I don't know. I guess if you're born online, you can be successful online. I don't know.
Reaching for leftist causes over and over again while soliciting Patreon donations. And
we need some old heads on YouTube for progressivism. We need some old progressives. We need some like people who were back in the day voting for like Jesse Jackson or something, having a popular channel. That'd be awesome.
Nothing in real life to further the cause. Is that really that much work? In fact, couldn't you maybe even argue the celebrities doing more, arguably?
Well, the celebrities objectively doing more with the money they have. Let me think. I think they're comparable in one way. The only way in which they're not discomparable. What's the disparate? The way in which they're disparate is that there's already a culture of prioritizing charity over good social welfare programs, and I think that a lot of lefties are very allergic to the conception that charity can solve these social problems. They get very defensive or very reactively aggressive with them. So, and I think that's justified to an extent too, because the number of libertarians that I've heard, or neocons, saying that charity is going to fix social problems, an aneurysm every time. So I think that explains why they lash out there in particular, but I do think they're comparable otherwise, yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Cringe argument about charity. By the way, make sure you drop a like. Oh yeah, Noam Chomsky. Thank you, Connor. Yes, Noam Chomsky demands it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's all I'm saying is it seems like it'd be nice to see people that talk about doing something.
Do you think it would be possible for me to get you off Abigail's back just a smidge? I just feel like the degree of antagonism is unwarranted.
I legitimately think that is one of the worst people on the internet. If they were the best thing that person could do for society is delete all of her videos and tweets.
Hey, why?
Because her takes are dog shit in every sense of the word. They're one of the least informed. They put out some of the finance and econ arguments they put out are like hilarious. They're beyond reproach.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but is there
a video you have in mind? She's one of the what?
Is there a video you have in mind, or like a claim or something?
Almost every older. I remember that her econ.
Yeah, the issue is pizza and gaming. That's why the left is ineffective.
One of the what?
Is there a video you have in mind, or like a claim or something?
Almost every older. I remember that her econ takes were so bad that somebody did.
Yes,
his name
Unlearning Economics. Yeah,
Unlearning Economics. Yeah, that guy did a video on one of her and just briefly brought up one of her prior takes, and then she was like, "This is why I don't actually bring up any real examples because people are just going to nitpick and nitpick."
Where did she say that?
She tweeted it, didn't she? Can somebody?
If that's the case, I do think that's unfortunate. Unlearning Economics videos have been pretty good. I mean,
yeah,
they know more than me.
Abigail literally came out and tweeted.
Those are good
She literally
videos.
came out and tweeted. She was like, "This is why I don't." Oh no! I'm wrong. She didn't tweet. It was at the end of a follow-up video or whatever, where she explicitly said, "And this is why I try to stay away from real examples because other streamers will just nitpick it apart." It was at the end of a video we watched.
So she said that he was nitpicking and biased. Bye-bye.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Gotcha.
And that was I
haven't seen it. I do think.
And then the tweets are like I don't know what it is about lefties and econ that is just so hilariously cringe. I think she tweeted like, "Can somebody remind me of the iPhone tweet?" Oh my god, do you know what I'm talking about?
I know that one time she tweeted that economics is
oh, there was
astrology?
One there. No, that was dumb. But she tweeted like an iPhone costs $20 to make, and then we sell it for $800, and all the rest is imaginary capitalism. Like ignoring everything that goes between the pure manufacture of an iPhone and the actual transportation.
But like honestly, 50% of Apple's market value is the social status. To be completely honest about their like products and everything, and about how much they're actually worth. A lot of it goes into advertising. A good example of this is like Beats headphones. The technology in Beats isn't terrible for audio equipment, but most of the money you're paying for in Beats is the money they spend on advertising for like LeBron James and all the big, artists and stuff like that to rep their headphones. So a lot of the value isn't real value. I mean, that is real value though, right? It is considered real value, but when it comes to like actual like quality,
R&D, the marketing, the like employees that man the store, blah blah blah. Like,
Thank you for the $5, Spencer. You think charity and libertarian argument are dumb, but people like Hassan, Sean, or Abigail donating less to charity than me making 28K is the height of grift. Do we have numbers on like how much they donate or something? Oh yeah, by the way, just a thing I'm gonna say this like every single day, every time I stream. If people on the left, if progressives, if liberals, if anybody, if we cannot get labor unions to work in this country, Medicare for all is not coming, universal health care is not coming. If we can't get unions to come back in some regard, nothing that we want is actually going to get done. I don't have any confidence. If we can't get that done, we're not getting anything done. The Green New Deal, no, we need unions. That's labor. Maybe not traditional unions for like different businesses, but like at least like co-determination or something. If we don't have that labor organization, we're screwed. Like just flat out, that should be like our main, our main issue to fight for. To be honest,
simplistic take. I don't deny that. Have you watched? Okay, I'm not trying to pivot. Have you watched any of her content that wasn't about economics?
No, I tried. Yes. I tried to watch one philosophy or anything, but I have to go back and I'm uncomfortable saying I don't remember, but I felt like her philosophy was dog shit too.
Okay, because I don't have a strong memory of her econ takes. It wouldn't surprise me if they were inaccurate. Lefties,
like she barely scratches the surface of pop philosophy, and her takes on that, like I don't even think we're that good.
They're poppy videos, yeah. Is there a problem with that though? Those videos are very digestible to a general audience.
The problem with ultra digestible pop philosophy is oftentimes it gets a lot of stuff wrong. For instance, Sam Harris,
No, I disagree. I think there is a place for more welcoming content that isn't going to be bare bones, like hard, pedal to the metal type, hard ass shit, That's kind of the role Hassan plays, because he isn't like a debate bro. He's really welcoming. He can get a lot of people in, and he can casually introduce people to these ideas without without being super edgy, without having to make a bunch of weird hypotheticals, without having to do like really dramatic debates or anything. That's a good thing about like Hassan, even if you don't like Hassan. And that's a good thing about philosophy too, and all these people who are very theatrical and more performative in what they do.
Well, let's not compare to that. My problem with Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson isn't so much.
Oh my God, wait. I'm sorry, I had to bring bless real quick. I watched her video on consciousness, and the lack of understanding of almost anything she was talking about was one of the most dog shit videos. Oh my God, it was so bad. Oh, I could even go back and watch it again tonight. It was so bad. Oh my God.
Okay, yeah, bad unions. If we can't get bad unions to be good unions, if we have corrupt unions, any of that, yeah, we need good unions. If you had bad unions, yeah, that's not good either. But like in general, we need to have labor organizing. Maybe we can call it something else. Maybe we don't call it unions. Maybe we can make up a different form of union called like I don't know. We'll call it like we'll make sports teams for it. We'll have like intramural sports teams for different businesses, and we'll all sign up the people. We'll sign up the different workers for their like basketball leagues and stuff. Like, but they don't actually. That's such a smart idea. That's how we can create unions and make sure people actually join them. Create sports leagues that corporations and businesses, the workers there, compete with workers from other corporations and businesses, and have like baseball leagues, have football leagues, have soccer leagues, and have a buy-in price. You have to pay to be a part of this league. That would be, dude, people would pay union dues all the time if we did that. We need to make sports leagues, but for unions. That is the best idea of all time. I'm trademarking it. I'm going to profit off of it like a true progressive. That's a good idea, right? Make sports leagues. And if you sign up for the team, which everybody... You sign up for the team, maybe gaming leagues, right? Gaming teams, kickball, the kickball teams. The corporations will never see it coming. Amazon's going to see flyers up to join the freaking kickball team for a $10 buy-in per month. Little do they know that's going to be the union fees. Little do they know they're going to have a strong union organization right there under their noses. They're not going to know about it because it's going to look like a kickball league. Dude, I'm telling you, this is going to work.
Not sure if
but
I
yeah,
remember that.
anyway, I think all of her videos are dog shit. I think that she's legitimately like a waste of space on this spot.
Okay,
whoever wins the sports is union leader or something.
Okay, hold on.
Sorry, okay,
so,
sorry,
wait, okay, this might just be where we differ here, but my issues with Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris aren't so much that they're wrong, it's that they lead people in the wrong political direction. I think that pop content of all kinds, all pop content, which is 98% of what the average person will be engaging with, is going to be poppy, derivative, simplistic stuff.
I don't think pop content is bad.
As long as it leads people in a good direction, I think it's generally pretty defensible.
I think there needs to be some adherence or conformity to truth. I don't think it can just...
No, you don't need to do the sports. You just have to be on the team. You don't have to do it.
I think it's generally pretty defensible.
I think there needs to be some adherence or conformity to truth. I don't think you can just lie and move people in the right direction. That makes it okay.
What about a simplistic and somewhat reductive video that has the right spirit, directs people towards more substantive work? Genuinely asking.
Wait, hold on, real quick. Also, if Jackie wants to come and talk later, 100% we can do it. Okay, I guarantee that all my trans takes are better than yours. You fuck piece of shit. Okay, what were you saying?
Jackie,
sorry, this person is harassing me in your chat. One of your mods. Okay, sorry. Repeat your last thing again.
What was I saying? Oh, that's one of my mods.
I know.
Oh, okay.
They call me a gnome. Okay.
Anyway,
it was ableist.
wait. To be fair, lots of people. Okay. Anyway, so let's say you've pop content and it's a little misleading, a little reductive, but the message is good. It pushes people in the right direction, and at the end, they have links to resources that you could read up on to be more educated on it. Do you think that's acceptable?
So I just don't know what you mean in terms of reductive. Everything that you said doesn't sound bad. My issue right now is that I think that going forward, something that I'm trying to be very strict on is I think that it's very, very, very important to report factual stuff correctly. Because I think right now, the biggest issue that we're having probably across the world, but at the very least in the United States, is we are widening this chasm of what both sides see as reality. And that widening of the chasm, even if it's for a good cause, I don't think is good. I think at the end of the day, I think that lying a little bit to
I know I'm white, but in my racist town, I'm not white to these people. I am called not white on a daily basis in my hometown. So, I mean, at least in some parts of this country, I'm not white. But sadly, I am white when it comes to anywhere else.
Reality. And that widening of the chasm, even if it's for a good cause, I don't think is good. I think at the end of the day,
it's a sin.
Lying a little bit to sell a good message is actually hurting these good messages so much, and it makes it so difficult for anybody to buy into them.
You think that if we got rid of So let's take the right out of this, because the right doesn't care about misinformation. If we took every left...
Well, the left doesn't either, unfortunately, right now.
Well,
but,
I think that, like, principally, the right doesn't care about misinformation. Leftists, I think, just are very good at misleading themselves sometimes.
I don't know if that's true. I think the right is the same. I think I'm very good at misleading themselves.
Okay, we can discuss that. But that aside, if we were to get rid of all content which has any misleading elements...
Should I do a DNA test so I could go back and get, like, a better scholarship for school or something?
For the advocacy of liberal or left...
No, I'm white. I just don't know how white. Because I do get really tan. People ask me if I'm white sometimes from where I'm from, because they're very white here and they're really racist. But I probably have something. I don't know. I don't know, dude.
Of all content which has any misleading elements.
Here, I'll go back. I'll go back and reevaluate this whole. Here, let me listen.
Widening of the chasm, even if it's for a good cause, I don't think is good. I think at the end of the day, I think that lying a little bit to sell a good message is actually...
So Destiny is making the argument that you shouldn't lie at all, whatever, whatsoever in content, because it's going to lead people down a worse road. You should be 100% on the truth. And Vaush said he cares more about the externalities of it. If you have to fib a little bit for a better argument, then maybe that's what you have to do. I'm pretty sure that's what they're talking about right now.
Across the world, but at the very least in the United States, is we are widening this chasm of what both sides see as reality. And that widening of the chasm, even if it's for a good cause, I don't think is good. I think at the end of the day, I think that lying a little bit to sell a good message is actually hurting these good messages so much, and it makes it so difficult for anybody to buy into them.
You think that if we got rid of... So let's take the right out of this, because the right doesn't care about misinformation. If we took every left...
Well, the left doesn't either, unfortunately, right now.
Well,
but,
I think that, like, principally, the right doesn't care about misinformation. Leftists, I think, just are very good at misleading themselves sometimes.
I don't know if that's true. I think the right is the same. I think I'm very good at misleading themselves.
Okay, we can discuss that. But that aside, if we were to get rid of all content which has any misleading elements for the advocacy of liberal or left-leaning politics, I think that would destroy almost everything. We would be left with NPR-style, incredibly empirical, fact-based, and dry commentary, high-level academia, accessible-only content, and maybe a couple of people left capable of threading that line. Wait, hold on. There are people in chat saying good. We lose if that happens. I think
that this is a bad dichotomy. You can have content that's edgy, engaging, entertaining, aesthetic, that doesn't mislead people or lie.
The expectation that even reductive content must be excised from people on our side of the political line.
I think reductive content is okay.
Well, what's the line then?
The line is when you're misreporting the facts, or if you're like completely misrepresenting something, or if you're being so reductive that you're being incorrect.
Okay, but in this case, I think incorrectness is kind of a gradient. Because even
I'm not, whatever the gradient is, we're way far away from where I would be debating the gradient. Right now, we're just like, people just report things that are just factually not true. That's my issue.
Sure, like, they do that. But, okay, I don't remember enough of these Philosophy Tube videos to meaningfully defend them. The ones
we don't have to talk about Abigail shit. I don't care about her.
I'm liking the most were the idpol stuff. But that aside, okay, I'll ask you. Hypothetical, okay. You can adhere to truthfulness entirely, get rid of everything misleading and dishonest on your side of the political aisle, but it costs you the war.
I don't think so. I think it would help. I think that what costs us the war right now is and I'm going to be totally honest, this is like anecdotal as fuck for me. So maybe I'm wrong here, but like, here's one of the issues that I run into. And I noticed this because I beta test some of these arguments with my mom when I'm in Florida. Okay. When I argue with my mom, I have to immediately own a whole bunch of poorly represented or misrepresented facts immediately. And then by the end of that, I have to tell my mom, like, okay, hold on, listen. Okay, yeah, this was wrong. And yeah, that was a lie. And okay, that was true. But the rest of this is true. I swear to God, Mom.
Where's she getting that info from?
sometimes from left-leaning people.
Is that really the case?
Okay, so this happens on both sides. They both have a point in what they're saying. Ideally, you want to do performative stuff and be rhetorically effective while having the facts. You don't want to lie, but if you need to fib a little bit about something like, for example, if you know you shouldn't be yelling at Jeff Bezos for a systemic issue, it might be good to scapegoat somebody to get people angry at that person, because if people are angry at that person, they might be more motivated to change the system. You can fib a little bit, but when it comes to misreporting stuff, like I see Kalinsky doing pretty often, that is bad. I do agree with that from Destiny's side, but I also agree with Vaush. You need to care about winning as a principle, but Destiny does believe that too. I think they're kind of just they're not really communicating properly here.
Yeah, so I'll go over some of the most popular ones that I hear. I'll go over them. You probably heard these before, right? The one.
Here, just really quick too. If you're on the left and somebody on the right brings up points that people on the left say that may be incorrect, you have to own that, most likely, because people on the left care more about facts in general. If somebody on the right, like say Destiny's situation is reversed, say his mom is very on the left and he's very on the right. If his mom brings up stuff, so say you have a liberal person bringing up to a conservative, stuff Donald Trump said that was a lie. If you bring up to a liberal stuff Joe Biden said that was a lie, there's more of a chance they're going to own that and talk about it and engage with the facts than if you tell a Trump supporter something Trump said was a lie. So from that basis of actually caring about reality, people on the left are going to be at a deficit when it comes to the rhetoric battle, the rhetoric warfare, or whatever you want to call it, rhetorical warfare. So you're always going to be at a disadvantage on the left, and also it's harder to argue for left ideas when it comes to, higher taxes, for example. We need higher taxes because that's better for our collective action through our government, through our people-owned government. People on the right can just say a bunch of simple conspiracy theories, and they can say it so confidently that they usually look better during debates, all that stuff.
The rest of this is true. I swear to God,
Where's she getting that info from?
Sometimes from left-leaning people.
Is that really the case?
Yeah, so I'll go over some of the most popular ones that I hear. I'll go over them. You probably heard these before, right? One of the number one things, easiest misreported fact. Yeah, why do so many people say she was killed in her sleep in bed?
Doesn't matter.
Like, yes,
well,
it totally matters.
To the facts of the wrongness of her murder, does it matter whether she was
even to the facts of the wrongness of her murder? Yeah.
How?
Now, okay, because there's a huge difference in the cops. So I'll describe what I think is reality.
Fly into the building.
Yes,
I mean,
I got a haircut.
Depending on the position of the bedroom, a hallway could be the same distance.
Okay. Hold on. Okay, so this is the facts of the case that I believe to be true based on everything I've read.
Can I address one quick thing from chat? There are a lot of people in chat saying right now, like, why does the truth matter? Whether or not two different interpretations or two different versions of a story meaningfully affect political discourse around that story is a valid question. One of the issues that I have with your content, Destiny, is sometimes it feels like you sacrifice political efficacy for the image of correctness, even if that line between technical correctness and rhetorically or politically efficacious but somewhat misleading is ultimately meaningless.
That's because my goal isn't to get an audience of 20,000 brain-dead lefties that all just want to hear me circle jerk the popular lefty.
My goal is to prevent fascism from winning.
I want to be able to reach, and that's not happening on YouTube, okay? My goal isn't to just get a whole bunch of people that already agree with me and then just give them our version of the facts. I want to be able to have it so that if somebody is in the middle or even on the right listening to me debate, at the very least, I want them to walk away ass mad that everything I said was correct, and at the very least, they're gonna have to wrestle with that.
The people you debate don't give a fuck whether or not they lost to you being truthful.
I don't care about the people I debate.
You just said you want them to leave ass mad.
The people that are fans of the people that I debate. This is more specific.
They just care that you were loud and you talked more than them and you interrupted and you're short
that's not true.
and you have a daughter in your basement.
What people care about is if they have some hero content creator and that content creator goes up and debates someone else and they sound dumb, the person that's a fan of that person will feel dumb.
Yeah, that's the key word there, sound dumb. Sound dumb. It doesn't matter if you have the facts. I can make you sound dumb. I can gaslight you. I can say enough conspiratorial bullshit to sound good in an argument with people who don't know enough about politics. Like, because I know a good amount about certain issues that people don't know. I can pretty much lie about certain things. I have a license to do that. I can make them look bad. Looking bad is different from being correct. These audiences, if you're talking about like debating conservatives on the internet, they care about if you're using Destiny's framing here, that they care about their magical content creator beating Vaush in a debate. It matters more that Vaush makes the other person look bad than it does if Vaush uses facts. Because if Vaush uses facts and drops the rhetoric and stuff, he's not going to make the conservative look as bad as he probably could.
Frustrating experience when your heroic content creator gets trumped by some other guy.
But I agree, you should do both. Like, you can do both. You should do both. Arm yourself with the facts and also the rhetorical tools.
Dumb. The person that's a fan of that person will feel dumb. And that's a frustrating experience when your heroic content creator gets trumped by some other guy that makes it sound like they know more facts.
People being made to feel dumb, especially if you're arguing with conservatives, has less to do with the extent to which you adhere to factual information and much more to do with how much better you look than them. And that's a rhetoric game. I know you don't like rhetoric.
But the factual, it can be two ends of that.
They both help.
They both can help, sure. But it's if you're matched with somebody else that is even somewhat rhetorically effective and you have like bad facts on your side, like, it's going to be really hard for you to win that argument. So like if we're right now, if I were to say, because we both been calling, if I were to say that we were like rhetorically even-footed, right? If I were just spamming this tweet over and over again on my stream, so I haven't shown this to stream, but if I was spamming this one earlier, I think I would have won an earlier argument about you being hypocritical about your messaging. Because this kind of contradicts. Yeah. Well, yeah, I linked to the tweet. You don't have to show it. But like if I were to show a tweet like this like contradicts almost everything that you said earlier. And I'd be like, I won. And then I could hang up and be like, see, he's a hypocrite. Right?
From more than a year ago. Hold on. Remember, being a billionaire is a choice. Extracting surplus labor is a choice. Lobbying politicians is a choice. Not paying a living wage is a choice. Take some responsibility. You have full control of your enterprise. And then it's the smiling, blushing face. I'm pretty sure this is a word for word meme adaptation of one of those being poor is a choice, et cetera things. So you're flipping the script on that. I don't know if the existence of this tweet...
Wait. To be clear, this tweet, I think you believe in the messaging of this. If you say differently, I don't believe you. I think you believe in the messaging of this. But this tweet is completely and totally 180 degrees from what you said earlier, where it's like, oh, well, everybody just lives in the system. They should do what they can to live in the system and to do the best they can. This is a completely contradictory.
There are still bad things that you can do within.
So what Destiny means is you're going to bring up a meme from like 2 years ago and own your opponent. Look at this meme. You contradicted yourself in this meme. Haha, audience. Feel bad. I made your content creator look stupid.
Earlier, where it's like, oh, well, everybody just lives in the system. They should do what they can to live in the system and to do the best they can. This is a completely contradictory.
There are still bad things that you can do within the system, obviously. I mean, there are unethical things.
And as you try to rhetorically own the conservative you're debating, you're going to tell the audience, this is clearly hypocritical to what you said earlier. That's going to be the big rhetorical own from Destiny. The fatal blow to the conservative he's debating. That's going to be what makes him look silly. Yes.
In the system to do the best they can. This is
over.
completely contradictory.
There are still bad things that you can do within the system, obviously. I mean, there are unethical things which are legal. You can legally do those things. So I didn't say everything. But secondly,
okay, we are hardcore.
Wait, no. That's not semantics gaming. I don't think that.
If we want to be very clear, extracting surplus labor, that's literally every single capital owner, right? That's what surplus. All labor is surplus.
Yeah. So wait, hold on. Okay, wait. So you're going to interpret this as Weasley. Do you not think there's any way that this tweet can be read other than a belief that individuals should be criticized extensively for their participation in the system?
You just said that, but earlier you were telling me individuals shouldn't be criticized. You literally said we should criticize the system.
You should focus on the systems. If individuals do bad things, you should criticize them for those as well. But I think.
But hold on. But to be clear, my earlier questioning to you. Okay, so now we're running back to because I asked you earlier. Do you think that participation in the system is bad morally? Because that's why I'm
inherently participation.
And you're saying that it wasn't bad. That's what you said earlier.
But it's not inherently bad. But there are bad things.
You're saying, well.
Wait, hold on. Because I know I'm waiting for the Destiny threads tomorrow, okay? Hold on. The belief that there's nothing inherently wrong with it is different from there's nothing wrong with it are two very different things. Working within the system isn't inherently wrong.
We're like in a Back to the Future time zone.
This is not even close to being semantics. I'm really sorry if you're that desperate to prove your point, but I do think there are things. I do think there are things you can do.
You just attacked me. You said I was desperate. So now I want to focus on one razor clear statement because you were wrong here, and I'll demonstrate because you need to change one of your statements because everything you've said right now can't exist in totality. Okay, you have contradictions. Okay, so I'm looking at the second thing. Extracting surplus labor is a choice. Now I'm asking you a question. Do you understand that all forms of labor, of wage labor, is extracting surplus labor to make a profit?
Yeah,
do you acknowledge that? Okay, so then can you tell me how, if that is a choice, how is it ever okay for there to be a business owner in capitalism?
I'm not entirely sure what you mean.
Earlier, I asked you, is it okay if somebody is a business owner? Is it like a morally wrong thing, or should they just maximize the system of capitalism? Now, earlier in this conversation, you said specifically to me, you said, well, no, I think you should maximize your system of capitalism. And remember when we pointed out the ethical vegan? And I was like, well, just eating meat, that's morally wrong. You're like, okay, well, just participating in capitalism, that's not morally wrong.
Is there a difference between these two statements? Do you think there's a difference between these two statements? The existence of private enterprise is unethical versus it is unethical to be a business owner. Do you think there's a difference between those two statements?
Yes.
Okay. I adhere to the former. I don't have a problem with wealthy lefties owning a business. The tweet that you found here
with the Democratic primary opponents. Wait, am I lagging right now? Wait a second. Did stream die? Wait, nope, it's gone. Never mind. It's back. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. If you had to pick either Vaush or Destiny, to go on the debate stage for the Democratic nomination to look good, who would you pick? Or who would you pick to debate a conservative in front of people? You know, in front of a big crowd of people. I feel like if I had to choose, I would have to pick in front of like regular people, Vaush. I think there's a much better chance Vaush rhetorically is going to have a big buzz. You know, a big what's it called? A big attack line or something. That'll get people on his side. That can convince people to join his side. I don't think if he argues for socialism, he has any chance because that's some bad shit to do optically, obviously. But if he talks like Bernie Sanders or something, it talks about those topics and stops there. He says he's a social democrat or whatever. I think he'd be more effective in that scene than Destiny would be. And this is based off of stuff like the Tim Pool sort of debate that Vaush had with him, and also Destiny. Destiny is really good at like picking apart moral arguments and philosophical arguments and trying to get his opponents into like a, get his opponents surrounded in a debate and trying to make his opponents contradict themselves. But in real life, that doesn't matter. In real life, it matters who can create the best show, who can look good, who can be the person who has the flash, who has the bravado, who can be the person that makes people want to support them. That's all that matters in real life. And I think Vaush can do that much better than Destiny can. Just because, and maybe if you have Destiny going up against like like his style of confrontation is really good for this space, obviously. But in general,
the choice, technically, in this tweet that you found.
Yeah, Vaush is really condescending. I wouldn't pick either, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know if I'd pick either to be a real politician. That might be kind of bad.
Here even says any of these things are bad, only that their choices take some responsibility, etc. To me, I'm sorry, but to me, this wait, hold on. To me, this would be like you saying all tenants are bastards, and me coming in and being like, do you seriously believe that every person who has to rent is a bastard? How can you believe that? 40% of Americans rent. Like to me, this is like a pretty. Like, you're reaching.
I'm not reaching. It is very obvious.
What is the hypocrisy?
The structure of your statement is on the left is a bad thing, and on the right is the implication that you can choose to do different. Being a billionaire is bad.
But think about all the best speakers of all time. They talk like soapbox speakers, right? Like Bernie Sanders, he's basically like, we need healthcare for all. We need to fight for a better tomorrow. Like he doesn't say much other than that. Like that's just. Or do you mean soapbox as in like, when Vaush does that like more like dramatic thing where he's like, I can't believe you just said that, Destiny. Wow, I thought better of you. I can't believe it. Like, do you mean that by the soapbox? Like dramatic, like really intense in that moment? Because we might have a different view of what like soapbox means.
Being a billionaire, extracting surplus labor, lobbying politicians, or not paying a living wage. If you're saying all these things, yeah, they're bad choices.
It just says they're choices.
I can't say Bernie's not a great speaker. All right, let me go back a little bit so I could hear all this stuff. Bernie's a good speaker. He has a rock star vibe to him. And that's what I'm saying. Like, these people, Vaush and Destiny, are better speakers than Bernie Sanders. But there's, like, you just have it. You have it. Like, you have that power to control a crowd. Like, you are, it's like a natural ability almost.
Like to me, this is like a pretty, like, you're reaching.
I'm not reaching. It is very obvious.
What is the hypocrisy?
The structure of your statement is on the left is a bad thing, and on the right is the implication that you can choose to do different. Being a billionaire is bad. Being a billionaire, extracting surplus labor, lobbying politicians, or not paying a living wage. If you're saying all these things, yeah, they're bad choices.
It just says they're choices because it's a rewrite of a tweet where people were saying being poor is a choice. Are you really? I genuinely don't know if you believe these things are like a serious endorsement of the belief that you should criticize individuals.
Okay, here's a question that I have for you. So this
I understand like that you and your community are going to accuse you of being weaselly, but I legitimately don't see a contradiction here.
Everything you're saying right now sounds to me like a rhetorical game, so I'm trying to cut through that. Okay,
sure,
so
all right, let's try it again.
Yeah, no, so I'm going to ask you this question. Of the 2,400 or so, 2,000 or so engagements that this tweet got, do you think that the majority of the people that are engaging with this believe that being a billionaire is bad, extracting surplus labor is bad, lobbying politicians is bad, and not paying a living wage is bad?
Talk about the way your Rittenhouse comments were interpreted by a broader audience? Is that the direction we're going? That not only are we responsible for what we believe in, but what every single person who follows us believes from the things we say?
Okay, before this little debacle, when we talk about good speakers, we need to talk about how far that speech can actually go, who it can convince. Like Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump, I would say Donald Trump is probably a better speaker at this point because Hillary is a better speaker, but Donald Trump can actually get more people to agree with him because he speaks at a 5th grade reading level and he studied freaking Hitler speeches, so he knows how to control a crowd, and he's been a reality TV star his entire life.
And not paying a living wage is bad.
Talk about the way your Rittenhouse comments were interpreted by a broader audience? Is that the direction we're going? That not only are we responsible for what we believe in, but what every single person who follows us believes from the things we say?
If you believe that my Rittenhouse interpretation was bad, then you're conceding then that this is bad. Why did you just spend so much time defending it then? Or are you going to defend my Rittenhouse take now?
No, the argument that I'm making.
Wait. You have to do one or the other.
The point that I'm making.
No, this is what you just walked into. So I said,
but I'm calling you out on hypocrisy.
Okay, wait. If you want to, that's fine. Okay, but we're not talking about my statements right now. Right now, you just tried to whataboutism by saying, well, hold on. If you're going to deal with the consequences of how people interpret stuff, what about your Rittenhouse take?
Okay,
now
so
if you want to say that, that's fine. But I think it's strange that you're going to bring that up when you just tried to defend this over and over and over again, and now you're throwing yourself under the bus to come live under the bus.
No, I'm not. Do you think so? Yes or no? Do you think that it's okay to impugn people for saying or posting or whatever, producing content, which inspires bad interpretations in the people who consume it?
If that interpretation is widespread, yeah, for sure. I think so, yeah.
Okay. Then you recognize that this is something that you and I have both done at times, being streamers who produce a lot of content, incapable of workshopping everything we say and do?
It's totally possible, yeah.
Okay.
My Rittenhouse take absolutely would not fall under that. But I
You
mean,
don't
like,
think anybody of the millions of people who saw that take might have interpreted the wrong messaging?
there might have been a very slim minority, but the overwhelming amount of posters in my subreddit that were talking to other people coming in said over and over again that Destiny said a million times that Rittenhouse was an idiot, that the kid was stupid for showing up.
So,
that even in recent posts, they'll say
I'm
that,
pretty
yeah.
sure the vast majority of people who saw that clip from the outside thought that you were endorsing.
Now, hold on. We're not talking about my clip. I didn't make a 16-second clip of me talking about Rittenhouse. That was your people. So if you want to say that the messaging on that particular clip was bad, I would agree with you. That was incredibly irresponsible. I didn't produce that content.
So
that was somebody else. I'm not going to take responsibility for how somebody else has mishmashed my content together to sell a certain message.
Well, it wasn't a
Nobody
mishmash,
listening
it was
to
just a
anything
segment of it.
it was a 16-second cutout of like a 30-minute conversation. I don't take credit for how people might interpret that any more than I would take credit for somebody thinking I'm pro-pedophilia.
This is such obvious satire. This is such a bad thing to bring up in a freaking debate. I can't believe Destiny actually went so hard on this. Look at this, dude. Come on.
20-second clip out of my AMOC debate where I spent 2 hours arguing in the affirmative for age of consent. So no, I don't take responsibility for that. Absolutely. However, I'm not looking at something that somebody else cut together of your content right now. I'm not comparing.
No, I think it was a fair.
No, it's not just you're reading a tweet. I'm reading your content verbatim, and now you want to compare that against something that somebody that hates me cut up of my content.
What I was about to say was I think that's a decent refutation. That's true. I've certainly been clipped out of context plenty of times myself. So you are of the opinion that people can be held responsible for the messaging that they engage in.
Wait, we both agree with
which we both agree with.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So what perspectives? What irresponsible perspectives?
I changed my mind. Vaush is he is too preachy, and his ideology wouldn't work with regular. We should have a game show actually. Political streamers try to talk to regular people. It'll be like a panel show with like 20 voters, and each of these people will give a speech for like 20 seconds and see which person gets the most votes. We'll have Hassan, we'll have Vaush, we'll have Destiny, we'll have Redacted, we'll have who else can we bring on this show?
You think I'm incurring from this? Can be held responsible for the messaging that they engage in.
Wait, we both agree with
which we both agree with.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So what perspectives, what irresponsible perspectives do you think I'm incurring from this?
I don't know if the interpretation of this is irresponsible or not. It just depends on what you believe. My issue right now is that, so what I'm doing right now is I have a little Vaush machine. I got a little compiler in my head of Vaush code, okay? And you're giving me lines and lines and lines of code. And what happens is I push compile every time you say something, and now I'm running into errors because you've got two conflicting statements.
One statement
sure. So the earlier statement you gave me in this conversation is that you ought to maximize your existence in a capitalist system, and to do so is not inherently wrong.
I never said ought to maximize. That was your language. I think it's okay if people do that.
Okay, my understanding was earlier you said that like it was a good thing to maximize your existence under capitalism because you could use
under utilitarianism, the difference between obligatory and supererogatory behavior is not clearly defined. I think it's a thing that people should do if they want to. I don't think it's inherently unethical to do that. I don't think it's a path that people ought to do. I don't think it's a moral right inherently to do it.
I'll amend that statement then. I don't think it changes my chief criticism, but I'll amend that statement. You said that it would be okay if people maximize their existence under capitalism, even if they were a socialist, because they could employ the money they raise later on to do good things, right?
Sure. Not everything that they would do in the maximization of their existence would be ethical, of course.
Well, yeah, Denim's is hard too, though, because she speaks in like the way you speak on a stream is like a different language. Like I don't know if these people have the proper field training to talk. Like I have to change my own speech when I talk to regular people that aren't you crazy, you political junkies who know what all these things mean. Like you think I'm ever going to use the word like socialism, and even the word authoritarianism is too much to use in a regular conversation with a regular voter. I need to keep it like super 5th grade reading level, very simplified. And you also need to keep it simple while at the same time not sounding condescending with it, which is a really hard mix. You can't be condescending towards people, but you have to keep it simple enough for them to understand. You have to talk straight to them, not above, not too low. But yeah, it's a hard balance. It really is hard.
Sure. But then it sounds like in this tweet that you're defending, I think, it sounds to me like you're saying that merely participating in this system seems to be unethical.
It's a choice.
But it's an unethical choice.
So I don't... Okay.
The reason why we talk about choice is, wait, real quick. The reason why we talk about choices and ethics is because choice is typically tied to agency, meaning you have the choice to do something or not do something. And typically the choices we make are, like in this case, are seen as good or bad. When a moral statement precedes the choice, right?
Do you think the fact that
someone is a choice is you're implying you have some level of agency and you're choosing to do something that is bad?
Do you think the fact that this tweet was meant to mock the wording of a classist tweet has anything at all to do with the context behind its messaging? Like, again, being poor is a choice, having a kid before you're married is a choice, that kind of thing. You've seen plenty of people talking like that. Do you really think that mocking that with this tweet is tantamount to an endorsement of the belief that that all engagement within a capitalist system is unethical?
Not this on its own.
Okay. Now, I acknowledge that there are certainly people in my audience who are of the individual criticism mindset, and that there are people in my audience who probably read this and thought, yeah, fuck billionaires. But to whatever variance their interpretation of my tweet beget, I'm okay with it, because I recognize that literally any criticism that I make of institutions like the police or the wealthy are going to beget and attract those people. I think I do due diligence,
But
but
then we saw Destiny get field training though in his canvassing stuff. I wish we had more recording of him like interacting with voters. I know he can't like record that, but I want to see his interactions with them because I do feel like he does have a different mode as well because of where he's from. He's from Omaha, and he had a background of working class. If you watch his old videos, he said a couple choice words and a lot of them, and he used to be on the right. So his haircut used to be right wing. Thank you for the 5 Canadas. Thank you for the 5 properties in Canada. Derp. Odyssey over. I'll get the cat. I'll get the cat then. I ironically use politics language online, just like I use the words like this is a lit, dude. This is so lit. Are you guys ready to get lit tonight? Litty?
In my videos, talking at length about the necessity of criticizing institutions. I don't think these are ideologically inconsistent, as much in the same way that I don't think that you're a classist because you make all tenants are bastards jokes.
Sure. No, that's not fair, though. That's not a fair comparison. Do you want me to explain why? Also, I have 2 more tweets to submit to the record. And for the record, I didn't want to bring up this initial tweet because I said that I didn't think it was necessary. You're the one that wanted to discuss this, just to be clear.
You brought it up saying you could destroy my argument. I don't feel destroyed. I still believe the things I believe. The worst that I would have to bite the bullet on was that some of the earlier tweets that I engaged in were a little bit more irresponsible with messaging, which, given my history on YouTube, is not exactly surprising. But this tweet in particular, I really don't think is that irresponsible. I don't think it destroys my argument.
Okay, sure. I submit 2 more tweets to the record then that seem to be moving in the same direction.
All right, let's see.
So ACAB.
Are we talking about something else?
Well, sure. So
oh my god, guys, poggers. Oh, poggers alert. Wow, this is so funny. Wow, I'm going to react to videos all day. I'm not going to make my own content. That's me. That is me, though. That is actually me. But people on Twitch literally do stand there for like 10 hours a day and just watch random YouTube videos. They don't even say anything. They just don't talk. You ever watch any of these streams, dude? It's like, all right, guys, today we're watching some video somebody else made, and I'm going to go sit in a different room. Like, streamers literally get up and leave their cameras. They leave the microphone for their viewers to watch another video. Like, I don't know.
ATAB. When I say ATAB, I hope, and I'm pretty sure that the majority of my audience doesn't believe that all tenants are bastards. The landlords, the love for landlord subreddit, that I hope, I don't know about
there are people who unironically are.
There probably are, yeah.
On the Kool-Aid in there, yeah.
It's like the Donald or whatever, right? I'm sure there are some people that start to unironically believe it. So I can't speak to the subreddit, but I'm pretty sure in my community, the majority of my people, and there's probably not.
No, I'm not talking about YouTube videos in general. Like when I'm talking about YouTube videos, I am talking about them in general. I watch political stuff for a reason. I'm talking about unions, canvassing, stuff like that. I'm doing this for a purpose, but these streamers literally watch like videos. I saw Hassan, which was pretty entertaining though. The video was good. I saw him watching a video of an abandoned Nickelodeon hotel. Did anybody see that? Like that has nothing to do with anything. He literally put it on and left and let his viewers watch that for an hour. Like, all right, kids, watch this. It's like a babysitter who doesn't want to take care of who they're babysitting, so they put on a movie or something.
Even a minor, there might be a few, don't believe that all tenants are actually bastards, because that's not rhetoric that I engage in constantly, is attacking tenants. However, most leftist channels do consistently engage in the rhetoric of attacking people that are billionaires, attacking the extraction of surplus labor, they attack the idea behind people or corporations lobbying, they constantly championing about a living wage. It's a little bit different, the joke's there. To say that your tweet is a comparison to me saying ACAB or ATAB or whatever is not really fair, because when I say ATAB, it's very clearly like a meme tongue-in-cheek thing. But when you joke about like, oh, well, you are a billionaire, and that's it's like, well, that's, you also actually.
I just said, again, I know this comes off like I'm trying to be Weasley. It just said being a billionaire is a choice, extracting surplus labor is a choice, etc., etc. It's following the format of a different type of tweet, the type of content that you've seen plenty of times before. I think in the context of Twitter, I think it was pretty obvious what I was doing, especially with the smiley, blushy face at the end. I mean, I don't tweet like that. I mean, I think that's fairly evident. But yeah.
What is the point of the joke then? What's the joke?
Well, the joke is that there are other people who are assigning moral culpability to the poor for their presence in a system and saying that their failures are entirely a product of their own behavior. And the joke is that also, well, not the people succeeding necessarily, but people who are doing well in the system are also doing so of their own volition. Since lefties tend to be critical of the institutions through which these people succeed, their existence in those systems also is a choice. That's the joke. It's like it's simultaneously criticizing their classism while also pointing out the idea that like being these things or the existence of these things is something worthy of criticism.
No, I was leaving for a reason, okay?
Okay, that's... Okay, that's not. I don't think that's how the majority of people would read it.
Well, how do you think the majority of people would view it? I literally just saw a tweet saying being poor is a choice, and I copy pasted.
Yeah. So the comparison, the reason why this joke is funny is because when people are like, oh, being poor is a choice. Well, I was like, that's not true. That's not a choice. You know what is being a choice? Being a billionaire is a choice. Extracting surplus labor, that's a choice. Lobbying politicians, that's a choice. Not paying a living wage, that's a choice. Take some responsibility for your actions. That comes off more to me as that's what the joke is. The joke is you're trying to claim that all these poor people are making choices being poor and dumb. Bullshit. You know what are the choices you're making? It's all this unethical shit that you do under capitalism. That's the real choice, and you need to stop. Take some responsibility. I think 99% of people are going to read the tweet.
Sure. That's
whatever explanation you gave. I don't think anybody's even close to reading it in whatever.
That's legit how I read it. I think that's a good read too. I wouldn't have an issue with that either. That seems like a fairly satirical and hyperbolic criticism. I don't think that it would necessarily lead people down an irresponsible road of engaging in individual criticism. Like if I, like for example, if I tweeted like,
I'm just saying, like,
fuck Jeff Bezos, would you say like you said you criticize institutions, but you don't like Jeff Bezos or something like that?
Well, no, it depends. It's like in the totality. Like I probably said fuck Bezos or something.
Yeah, I don't like.
But I'm saying like when I look like other tweets, like why don't landlords get a fucking job? That's like 4,000 engagement, like 2,000 engagement, or over 1,500 engagement. Like legit seeing landlords crying, screaming, they can't leave each other.
Well, hold on, we can go through these one at a time. So the why don't landlords just get a job thing was in response to various state and local governments implementing legislation to engage in rent freezes or to prevent. I'm sorry, not rent freezes. To prevent. Come on, you know what I'm saying. What? Removal of the tenant from the property. Eviction.
Yeah,
Thank
eviction,
you.
yeah.
To remove eviction.
Okay.
And there were a bunch of landlords writing op-eds about how hard it was for them, which, and I'll say this, I think is a pretty shitty thing to do, because if you're a landlord and you're having trouble paying your mortgage because your tenant can't pay their rent because they got laid off because of COVID, you're both struggling. And I think generally speaking, we should prevent people from being evicted during a pandemic. So I said, why don't landlords just get a fucking job? Because the joke is that a lot of those landlords were saying that the people who were renting from them need to get a fucking job to pay their rent.
I mean, like, I'm sure that we could think of an explanation for everyone who's doing.
No, I don't know why this is controversial. And frankly, wait, okay.
My cat doesn't want to sleep right now. When I stream at 10, that's why I used to stream at 10 p.m. every single night, because the cat sleeps at that time.
I want to be real with this, okay? I feel like I was being pretty forthcoming with my perspective on like ethics within capitalism earlier. These feel like gotcha attempts.
I'm not trying to hold on. Why are you doing the break this case in the event of
do these not feel a bit? You're like pulling years old tweets to say like I could defeat your argument with this or X. That does feel pretty gotcha-y. I don't know what else it would be.
Okay, let me walk back. Okay, I need like a minute and a half to explain this without getting cut off. Okay, because okay.
That's pretty rough, but okay, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Or I don't need that long. Okay. My problem was that when I asked you questions about leftists maximizing their existence in a capitalist system, I expected you to say that in a capitalist system, we should probably condemn people that live it to the fullest. That, like, maybe we can act a little bit more moral in a way that bucks the system. But instead, you went way off in the other direction, where you were saying that, like, well, actually, I think that everybody, even leftists, should maximize their existence in capitalist systems.
I didn't say should maximize.
Okay, or make a choice. I don't know how you want to equivocate that, okay?
I think it's okay for them to become powerful.
You were saying that if a leftist maximizes his existence in a capitalist environment, that it wouldn't be a morally wrong thing to do. It wouldn't be an immoral thing. You were saying that would be okay. And that was interesting to me, because if you truly believe that, then you basically rob yourself of the ability to criticize any individual actor or any group of people in a capitalist system, which is strange to me. Oh, okay, well then we can
there are individual actors who could do bad things, even within the purview. I never said.
Wait, stop. It's not individual actors that can do bad things, like setting their tenant's house on fire. I'm saying that, like, you would have to never criticize anybody that acts in basically a legal manner in a capitalist system.
I never bit that bullet. I don't know why you're assigning that to me.
Because you're saying it's okay to maximize yourself in a capitalist system.
No, I'm sorry. Okay, when I said maximize.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Wait, hold on. I don't know how the fuck we got here. When I said maximize, I mean like it's okay to be a cop or like to get into a business, or if you could like accrue capital that you could invest in political enterprises, I think that's good. But if we're talking about like shorting people's no, nothing illegal. If we're talking about paying people below like a living wage, or running your business in a manner which I consider very unethical, or being a bad cop, like the kind of cop that doesn't rat on other bad cops, that kind of stuff, then I think those things are deserving of criticism. I don't think it's possible for a person to become a billionaire without doing something that would trip my moral flag, because nobody becomes a billionaire without engaging in some pretty ruthless business practices. I mean,
okay. So I'm trying to understand.
What about this is I don't understand.
No,
I generally try to be consistent, but I'm confused about what I'm saying. That's not.
We're moved. We're not even at hypocritical yet. Okay, because we backed up really far.
I haven't
this
backed
is
off
all I'm
any
curious
positions.
about. No. I don't mean backed off like I got you or anything. I'm legitimately just trying to understand, because I don't know if you're trying to figure this out in real time and then give me like a coherent point that you're still working through, or if you genuinely believe this. What I'm trying to figure out is, let's say that I am a leftist, okay? Like a full-blown, I believe in socialism, I want us to work our way towards a communist state, okay? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to enter the world, okay? Am I allowed to participate in a capitalist economy to the fullest extent the law will allow without me committing an immoral action? That's my question.
There are plenty of immoral things you can do that are legal.
Okay, like. Okay, no, I can ask you, because we're still in philosophy. I'm not asking for data-driven answers. What would be an example of like an immoral action that's legal?
I think that there are some business practices that I would consider like better than others. There are certainly better business owners than others. I think that if you're ruthless or cutthroat to your workers, I'll give you an example. People donate the email, I'm a landlord, what can I do? I think charge rent maybe a little lower than what you see in your area. Be kind to the person who rents from you. Make sure to hire a property manager, or to get like services over quickly if something breaks over there. Stuff like that. If now they could like charge rent up as much as they legally can in that area, and even though that's legal, I think that would be bad. I think it'd be good if they did the former and bad if they did the latter. If they did neither, I guess I'm not happy about it, because they would have had the potential to do better.
So, in a socialist environment, how do you even determine like what the right pay of your workers, what the right rent is?
If you are a socialist and you inherently think being a landlord is bad and you become a landlord, you should be the best landlord possible. And I think you're Gucci at that point. If you strive to be the #1 landlord, I think you're pretty cool. You know? That's all you got to do. Be the #1.
Well, like, you just like, I don't understand like what would be moral or immoral.
You mean in a socialist government or?
No. Like if you're a socialist living in a capitalist world and you're trying to make sure that you're not doing something immoral by Vaush's standards.
Well, I don't have like an exact wage line, like 20% above median for the industry or anything. Is that what you're looking for? Wait, I'm actually asking, are you looking for like an actual like hard...
I'm just curious, like, I'm curious. So let's say that houses in an area go for $1,000 a month and somebody charges like $950 a month. I'm curious if I ask you, is that moral? And what I'm trying to figure out, what I'm trying to get at. I'm asking you questions. I'm trying to figure out what your principles are. It's like, what do you actually think makes something like good or bad? Like, what is the right or wrong?
I think that'd be good.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, I don't know how you determine that, though. I'm not asking for like a formula. I'm just curious, like, because earlier...
Because in that case, the landlord would have the market conditions would allow them to charge more, but they choose, out of benevolence, to charge a little less, which makes life easier for another person, maybe a person in need.
Sure. So would another socialist is just charging normal market rates then? Would that person be considered like an immoral actor?
I wish they could do better. I don't necessarily know if I'd say it's
okay.
immoral.
Hold on, wait. I don't care what you wish. I'm not asking like for what is your opinion on Jane Doe's real estate business. I'm asking you in terms of like ethically. Do you think it'd be ethical for like a lefty that owns property in a capitalist market?
Ethically, because if that socialist was taken out, another person could replace them, and not taken out like killed. Like if they weren't there and another person replaced them, we would assume they would also charge the market rate. So their absence would beget no change. Therefore, it would be a morally neutral action. Their decision to maintain the market rate in that area would have neither a positive nor negative outcome. Right?
Okay. The market price is what the market allows you to sell at. And Vaush said if you push the limits, you're bad. But if you have a conservative become a landlord, like a fiscal neocon, whatever, you have them become a landlord and they charge the same price as a socialist who becomes a landlord, does that socialist, by nature of being a socialist, do they have moral responsibility to not do that? Because a conservative neocon is going to be like, okay, this is the free market, baby. But if you're a socialist, don't you, like, if you claim that ideology, don't you have to back that up somehow? Isn't that a little bit different based on who you are? Like, a conservative owns it right away. Like, this is what I believe in. But if you don't believe in it and you're a socialist, but you're still doing it, that seems to be like a negative. I don't know.
Now, the only exception to that would be if there was a socialist who was getting involved in capitalism, but they were doing it in a way which was not only institutionally bad in the way that I think capitalism is, but also they were uniquely doing this. Like, they introduce a new market or avenue that only they can do an ethical action in. I think in that case...
So if a landlord charges market...
Yeah, the socialist probably, but in our hypothetical situation, this socialist is acting the exact same as a landlord of any other ideology would. So they would kick you out too. Like, this socialist is literally acting as a normal landlord. But yeah, if they do something like, if they're better than the other person in any way, then yeah, of course, that'll be the right answer. But we're doing like a hypothetical right now, basically.
Right. If they're a leftist, is that immoral?
No, that'd be morally neutral.
Okay.
I prefer they did a moral thing.
Gotcha.
I don't understand if you're trying to test me for consistency or if you're outraged with the thing that I've said, because
listen, I have not been outraged at any part of this argument.
Do you agree with me? Don't you think it's good when people of means take the opportunity to make life easier for people with maybe a little less?
No, actually, I go a step farther. I think that maximizing yourself in a capitalist environment in a way that violates your principles is actually immoral. So for instance, I'm a big capitalist and I like to make money from sponsored deals. I think that gambling is immoral. I don't like it. I legitimately don't think it should exist in society. So I do not do gambling sponsors on my screen. I'll play poker because I don't consider that gambling, but I don't do like the blackjack and the roulette stuff. I've turned down a lot of money for that. Or the CSGO skins and all the gambling stuff. I turned down all of that because I think that that's like, I don't support that stuff. I think it's immoral even in a capitalist framework.
Yeah,
so that would be an example of me. Okay, but like, I think that somebody that follows through with that is immoral. I would say that action is immoral because that violates your principles. I don't care if you're maximizing on a capitalist framework. I think that there's a deeper principle.
What if they didn't care about gambling?
Well, if they didn't care about gambling, then that's fine. Then do whatever.
So your belief in the morality of an action is determined by a person's consistency?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying about this this argument Vaush is using, like Black-Faced America said. Like, you can justify the U.S. going overseas right now and U.S. corporations taking child slaves because, it's morally neutral. If we don't take the child slaves and mine the lithium for the Tesla trucks, for the Cybertruck, then another country is going to take the child slaves. So it's morally neutral. We're not bad for doing that. We're just not, we're just not good either. We're neutral. Another country can do it too. So why don't we? We'll do the better child slavery, which is Vaush is probably pretty correct, I guess, but like, it's just the real world implications are a little bit weird, a little bit wonky.
No, it's determined by their whatever their first principle, whatever like underlying
Why would
principle.
you care about their first principle? Shouldn't you only
Why
care
would
about your
I-
own? If anyone promoted gambling,
Well,
you would
no,
think
wait.
it's bad.
I care about people's consistency, but when you're asking me like if I care about like a particular action, then we're talking about like what principles that action come from. I guess. I'm
Well,
sorry,
sure,
like,
with anyone promoting gambling, even if a person was pro gambling, would you think it's unethical for them to accept sponsorships for the CS:GO crates or whatever?
From my perspective or from their perspective?
All I care about is yours. Why would you ever care about
I
another
would think it's
person's?
unethical, but I wouldn't think of being inconsistent or hypocritical.
Sure.
I would just think it's unethical.
I don't care if a person's being inconsistent. I just care if a person
Make sure you smash that like button and that subscribe button.
is doing what I think is good. If a person is inconsistent in a way that's good, like for example, what is it? Vegetarians or whatever, help the animals, but milk industry, still got to drink my milk. There is a hypocrisy there, but it's better than them eating meat too. I'm not so concerned with hypocrisy as I am making sure that whatever net behavior they're engaging in is better than what they otherwise would have been doing.
Sure. My problem with people that are inconsistent, I don't believe in inconsistencies. I don't think
You're still you can just it doesn't. Oh my god, you don't have to have either moral, immoral, or amoral. You can have a gradient. You can have like a scale to it, right? Like you're more moral or you're more immoral. You're worse. You're better. But you can still be one of the. You can still be moral or immoral, or you don't have to just have no moral responsibility whatsoever.
Inconsistencies are real. I think that when somebody is inconsistent, what's actually happened is they've just misrepresented their values. So typically, if somebody's inconsistent, what I'm trying to figure out is, well, what is the actual value that you're appealing to? Because it doesn't seem to be what you're saying.
Most people in that respect are hypocritical. Sure. People say and believe lots of things, but they'll do whatever is convenient for them in the moment. I think,
and then it also changes like how I would criticize somebody and the types of claims I would allow another person to make. So, for instance, if some like crazy hedonist guy that lives his life in like a fully hedonistic manner or whatever would tell me like, hey man, like you should just fucking like smoke dope and fucking do whatever, blah blah. I'm like, okay, whatever, bro. I mean, like I guess if you want to say it, that's fine. But
there's different levels of. Aren't there different levels of being moral or immoral? Like if I believe in veganism and I eat, like Vaush just said, if I believe in veganism but I still drink milk because I love, or I still eat ice cream because I love ice cream, isn't that less morally bad? Or isn't that that's less moral because I'm eating ice cream than it would be if I was a vegan and I only had a strict vegan diet, right? Can you do that or no? Or do you have to keep it like one,
if
different categories?
Somebody else would criticize me, like let's say like a Catholic priest that had been convicted for raping 100 children or whatever, was like criticizing me, like saying, oh, like this is immoral, blah blah. I was like, damn, dude, I don't know if you could say shit like that. Like, fuck, like you're insanely hypocritical.
Sure.
Like,
I think hypocrisy is frustrating because it's really difficult to talk to people who are hypocritical, especially people who are openly hypocritical. I mean, you can't do anything
then my
there.
question is, so then my question is, because when I look at your takes regarding landlords, it almost feels like
what takes?
It almost feels
not my words, but the positions that I hold.
Well, I mean, I can never know what positions
based on what I've said. Do you just mean the
just when it comes to this like line of argument, I do say, for example, in the Middle East, it's better for the US to occupy certain territories than it would be for China to occupy those territories. But I'm not saying because they'd be equal. That's why my argument is different for like foreign policy than it would be for like a landlord or for like slavery. Like, oh, if nobody else had a slave, then or if I didn't own the slave, somebody else would. So I might as well own them. It's not the same as if you're saying there's a region in an area and the United States geopolitical interests are going to be different from China's or Russia's. Like that's a different plane of arguments.
Really difficult to talk to people who are hypocritical, especially people who are openly hypocritical. That's you can't do anything
so then my
there.
Question is, so then my question is,
he said not my words based on When
I look at your takes regarding landlords, it almost feels like
what takes?
It almost feels
not my words, but the positions that I hold.
Well, I mean, I can never know what positions.
Not my words.
Based on what I've said. Do you just mean the tweets?
But yeah, no, based on things that I've heard you say and the tweets that I've read, I don't remember specific videos. I have to go back and watch.
There are a lot of landlords who I don't like. That's definitely
true. It feels to me like you're probably in favor of the decommodification of housing. Yeah. And it almost feels to me like you believe that owning property is like an immoral thing, that renting property to other people is an immoral action.
I don't
Okay, that's what it feels like. And I think the majority of your audience that's listening right now probably would have thought that you felt that way, if I had to guess.
No, I've talked about this before. But if my audience is confused on that, then absolutely not. If you have a spare property and you can rent it out to other people, I mean, try to do good with it. But I don't think the problem with what you're advocating for here is it feels like you're giving us a poisoned apple. Like, socialists, wouldn't you like to be consistent? Well, make sure not to participate in any of the systems that beget political and economic power. That'll show capitalism. No, fuck that. My principle is winning.
Stop. And I'm not going to let you get away with this. Okay. So my initial criticism was never that socialists couldn't participate in any system. You're trying to weasel me into like, it feels like I'm trying to ask yourself.
I feel like you misrepresented my positions a couple times. I'm not trying to.
Okay, you can say that I misrepresented you if you feel the way. I'm sorry, but I literally have a notepad right now. I'm trying to write down what you're saying, and you were running it back in real time.
Okay, like, run back.
Because like I'm trying to figure out like what type of behavior you think is permissible. At one point in this argument, you said that you would stop criticizing even Jeff Bezos. Like,
no, I said that I think if you want to like fix capitalism, criticizing. Huh?
Do you agree that earlier you told me that you don't think it's fair to criticize Jeff Bezos? But then you also said that mega billionaires you could criticize.
Wait, okay, hold on. I don't have a problem with criticizing Jeff Bezos or any individual participant, but I don't think that you're fixing capitalism by doing that. Jeff Bezos just stepped down. He got replaced by some other CEO. Criticizing individuals doesn't fix the problem. You could criticize 1 million Amazon CEOs and there'd be 1,000,001. The institutions perpetuate the existence of these rules.
I agree with you here, okay? Sometimes you say a lot of things I agree with. I agree with all of that.
I'm glad.
Earlier, what I said in response to what you just said, and I feel like we're going to do the same argument again.
I'm
I
glad.
feel like if you say that, you essentially lose the ability to criticize any individual actor in capitalism ever, because they're just living their capitalist life, unless they're literally doing something like
That's
illegal.
not true.
If you can't criticize Bezos, who the fuck can you
It's
criticize?
not inherently immoral to participate in these systems, but that doesn't mean you can't criticize people who do if they do something within those systems you don't like. Now, I don't have a list in front of
Wait,
me.
if that's the case,
I know
then what's
Bezos
wrong
has
with
done
you
stuff
criticizing lefties then that don't put their money where their mouth is? In that case, why are we even talking? Then you should be totally fine with me criticizing any lefty that doesn't put their money where their mouth is.
What define putting your money where you're
Like spend their money in a way that I would consider to be more ethical than just hoarding in a savings account and getting rich off of people that are poorer than them, that are being exploited by their bosses.
Wait, hold on. Is it true that you used to sponsor a loot box company? Real life loot boxes. You can win all kinds of amazing prizes: wallets, headphones, tech, games. Real life loot boxes. Drop.
I might have done like one activation once where I gave one away for free, but I don't think I've ever done like loot box stuff.
Okay, I just saw this link with your code and everything.
There was a sponsor that I had once called Loots, but that was just like you like typed in a message and it showed an ad on stream, but it wasn't like loot boxes.
Okay, I mean,
That's Loots. It's like it's not gambling.
I can look into this later. I don't know. I don't care. I think people are complicated. And I think it's okay to wait. Hold on. What was the thing I was responding to? Jeff Bezos.
It seems like you can't criticize any individual ever. Like you just have to accept that all of them are.
Do you? Let me. Okay, hold on. I don't think you should
Yeah, that
criticize
was
a
really
person
cringe.
just because they're participating in capitalism.
That was cringe. Like, Destiny, did you actually have one deal with a loot box company 10 years ago? The loot boxes? Huh. You said you're against gambling.
And I think it's okay to wait. Hold on. What was the thing I was responding to? Jeff Bezos.
It seems like you can't criticize any individual ever. Like you just have to accept that all of them are.
Do you? Let me. Okay, hold on. I don't think you should criticize a person just because they're participating in capitalism, but I think there are things that you can do while participating in capitalism to warrant criticism. Like those landlords writing op-eds about how hard it is to make ends meet when they're trying to evict their tenants. I think that's really scummy behavior. Like
Why is that scummy?
Because in a pandemic, I think it's bad to evict people who can't pay their rent because they were laid off because of the pandemic.
What if you can't pay your mortgage because a tenant isn't paying their rent?
Then I think the institution you should take an issue with isn't the tenant, but rather a government that's unwilling to pay you or to freeze mortgage
You don't have the
payments.
ability to change the government. Why is it the responsibility of the landlord to fight the system, but it's not the responsibility of a lefty to fight the system?
Wait,
the landlord.
Wait, hold on. That equivocacy came out of nowhere. So first of all, what they were complaining about were laws passed to prevent evictions. So to begin with, they already were complaining about the government. They were complaining in the wrong direction. In both ways, they would be complaining against the government, but they were fighting to evict people rather than fighting to have the government provide for them. I think that's pretty
because
shitty.
it sounds like the government was changing a law specifically to make it so that you couldn't evict somebody.
Yeah.
But I'm asking you because it sounds like the landlords are just trying to maximize their system in capitalism.
I don't think all types of why do you? This is what I mean when I say I feel like you're misrepresenting me. I don't think all ways of maximizing your well-being within capitalism are equally ethical. I think there are ways to maximize your well-being which are quite unethical.
Okay, hold on, because you keep doing this thing where you ask a question in a very exasperated manner and it makes you sound rhetorically effective.
I didn't ask you anything.
What's happening here is you don't actually have an underlying principle that you're actually like appealing to. What you keep doing is you keep trying to make an excuse for every single thing to say like, well, here it's okay, here it's not
an
okay.
excuse for. I legitimately don't know if you're listening to a word I'm saying.
I am listening to every single thing you said, but when I repeat it back to you, you're getting confused because you're trying to discover these arguments.
No, because you're repeating. You keep saying that I've said you can never criticize an individual for their participation under capitalism, which I have never at any point in this conversation said, but you've repeated that back to me like a dozen times.
Okay, I'm gonna.
In and of itself, participation, in and of itself, inherently, participation is not a bad thing. You can do those things in a morally neutral or even morally beneficial way. However, you can also do it in morally negative ways.
Okay, what makes it morally negative?
I think that by my standard, a morally negative way of engaging in this behavior would be, well, there are a million out instances, but I would say that I have in my head an image of how a lefty could be a business person or landlord, and if there are ways in which they...
Okay, stop.
I don't have a price threshold.
You can participate in capitalism in a morally neutral way. That's a statement you've made. But you said there's also negative ways to participate. Now, besides like obviously breaking the law, what is a morally negative way? Because it sounds to me like what you're going to say, because this is where you're getting caught. I don't mean calling
caught on anything. I don't have exact dollar thresholds.
You're saying that morally negative equals bad things. You're like begging the question. And then one of the examples that you gave were landlords lobbying the government and saying, hey, you need to undo
people
the law
during a pandemic. Yes.
Yeah. Wait, is it just the eviction now or is it the law? Because earlier you said it wasn't the eviction that mattered. You said it was the fact that it was a law that mattered. So which one is the important thing? Is evicting someone is wrong? Because that's just living in a capitalist.
I said them writing op-eds to try to get the government to revoke laws to allow them to evict during a pandemic. I didn't say the thing you're saying that I said. Anyone who's watching Destiny or Vaush side, you can go back and watch. I feel like I'm being ascribed positions that I don't actually hold.
No, I understand that. But remember earlier,
Are you listening to me?
I am listening to you.
Okay, then listen. Wait, hold on. Then listen. Wait, I don't want this to be repeated. Please,
you're upset
Destiny.
that landlords are lobbying the government. This was one of the statements that you made in that earlier tweet.
Not just that they're lobbying the government. It was that they were writing op-eds.
Lobbying the government. Go ahead.
Well, that's not what lobbying means. They might also have been lobbying. I'm sure there were some institutions that were doing that. But yes, they were pushing to regain the ability to evict unemployed people during a pandemic. I think that's bad.
Okay, which part of this is morally wrong? Immoral. What part of this is immoral?
Do you think
so hold on.
fine?
Wait. Wait, hold on. Unemployed. We're not talking about my position. If you want, after this, we can walk through everything.
I think I've walked through everything. You just keep I say a thing, and then you say, "Hold up, that's not what you said," and then you say a thing I didn't said, and then we've been repeating this for an hour.
Okay,
so I don't even remember why we were initially.
Okay, so your statement is that this is bad. Landlords wanted to evict people unemployed. Wait, sorry, I put people in choice. Landlords wanted to evict unemployed people during a pandemic. Equals bad. Yes.
No, I said landlords trying to get the government to revoke laws to allow them to evict people during a pandemic. I think it's extra nasty if you're trying to fight against the state's effort to prevent people from dying on the streets.
Okay. Which part of this is the moral wrong? So here's what I've written down for you, okay?
Thank you. I got it cut today. Really good barber around town, you know?
Landlords trying to get the government to revoke laws to allow them to evict unemployed people during a pandemic.
Hey, everybody celebrate. My video on my reaction to Tom McDonald on my music page got 21,000 views. Yeah, look at the dislikes. 6.5 thousand dislikes. Let's go. Let's go. Getting the dubs out here. Getting the dubs.
Extra nasty if you're trying to fight against the state's effort to prevent people from dying on the streets.
Okay. Which part of this is the moral wrong? So here's what I've written down for you, okay? Landlords trying to get the government to revoke laws to allow them to evict unemployed people during a pandemic. If the law wasn't there, do you think it would be morally neutral for them to evict?
That's how you found me, Casey? Well, at least something good came out of it. Something good. Yeah, I did like my own vid. What am I supposed to dislike it? Am I supposed to join the crowd? Hated me? Millions of people, well, thousands of people hate me now because I don't like Tom McDonald's music, even though I was really charitable to Tom McDonald in the other videos.
Unemployed people during a pandemic?
Let me think.
Okay, wait, let me reroute. I got distracted.
Which part of this is the moral wrong? So here's what I've written down for you, okay? Landlords trying to get the government to revoke laws to allow them to evict unemployed people during a pandemic. If the law wasn't there, do you think it would be morally neutral for them to evict unemployed people during a pandemic?
Let me think. If there was no law, then I think it would be morally neutral, yeah, because we have to criticize the institutions first and foremost. It's the responsibility of the state to put placeholds and stuff like this. Otherwise, the natural market forces would dictate that they would continue to evict people unabated.
Okay, so the problem isn't trying to evict unemployed people during a pandemic, because this is what you keep hamming up to be very rhetorical. You're saying unemployed people during a pandemic.
I do think it's bad.
Okay, but your problem isn't the fact that they're trying to evict unemployed people during a pandemic. That action would actually be okay. Your problem is that they're trying to revoke the laws.
The action would be bad, but it would be a necessary component of the way commodified land ownership works.
Oh, wait, hold on. So that participation in capitalism would be inherently bad.
No, that participation in capitalism would be as expected. It would be morally neutral. Everyone would be doing it. However, the action which is taking place is still bad as you're evicting unemployed people during a pandemic. So wait, hold on. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Okay, let me try to think of something analogous here. When police officers go out on the beat and they arrest...
Wait, I don't think we need an example. Can we just stick to the tenant?
No,
because we're just making more confusing.
When police officers go out on the beat and they arrest a person for selling drugs, I think that the drug war is cringe and that this is doing harm to society and blah, blah.
Does anybody like Mike and Ike's? Do you like Mike and Ike candy? Let me know.
However, it is the job of the cop to do that thing. And if a lefty was in that position and they did that thing, whether or not they were there, the other person who could have been that cop also could have done that thing. The job, institutionally, is to fix the drug war, not to expect that cops just ignore every drug dealer on the street. Now, if they do that, if they choose to do that good thing, I think that's preferable. But the absence of a lefty there would still incur the morally neutral action, which is adhering to the existing law. Does that make sense?
No. Can I sidestep and ask a question about that? Because I'm so confused.
Sure.
If you can be replaced for doing a particular action, does that mean that any action that you do is always going to be considered morally neutral? That action can't carry more weight because someone else could just step in and do it regardless? So let's say, for instance, there's a bounty board and they pay people to assassinate kindergartners. Now, you could go and accept that job and go kill a kindergartner. Would that be morally neutral because if you don't do it, someone else is going to step in and do it instead?
I don't think that's an institutional role that is obligated to be filled.
What if there's an institution of bounty hunting?
I don't know enough about it. I don't think that bounty hunting works the same way cops do.
Okay, what about the institution of slavery then? We'll go to a real life world. Do you think that owning slaves then in the South, that was necessarily a morally neutral thing because it was just part of the system, and if you were gone, another slave owner would just step up?
No, I think that it's worthwhile to criticize those institutions and the people who participate in them.
No, not the institutions.
Oh, sure, and the people who participate in them.
Just real clear, I'm being very careful to be incredibly precise with my language. I'm asking you to say,
okay,
I'm not talking about the institutions, and I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm asking, do you think it is morally neutral to be a slave owner? For if you weren't a slave owner, someone else would just step up and own your slaves for you. Do you think that would be morally neutral?
No, I don't. No, I don't think slave owning was like a slot thing where like if you aren't owning the slaves and someone else steps up to own this. I don't necessarily know if it works that way. The reason why I'm saying wait, hold on. The reason why I'm saying this about landlords and cops specifically is because the way those institutions work, especially with landowning, literally require that those institutions exist. The way
you don't think the agricultural economic organization of the South required slavery to exist?
Not in the same way. An individual house in a commodified housing system is either owned by an individual or what? That's it. You either own it or you rent it out to some, or a company owns it or something. But with slavery, there wasn't like institutional slots.
Hey, is this what you guys mean in chat by fanny pack? Oh no. Is this a fanny? I have this one, the Dora one. The Dora fanny pack. I recommend it. Good utility.
required. When you're a slave owner, you
But how is it
contribute
not
to...
institutional? They literally have like whole laws on the books.
Yeah,
regarding,
you
like, the
contribute
ownership
to a
of slaves.
demand for slavery in a way that the housing market doesn't have. If you're a landowner and you rent a property, you can't like throw your hands up in the air and say like, nope, I back out, and then like that property disappears. That property.
I don't think that's relevant. I'm just asking because it feels to me like you're falling back on this argument. The argument that you're appealing to figure out if something is worth like condemning or not is whether or not like somebody on an individual level, is whether or not somebody else would step up to replace you. So I think it's fair to say in the South, slavery was a big institution.
It was a big institution, but like if you own a collection of apartment buildings, that someone has to own that. Like you can't, otherwise it turns into a Ranshack tenement. Like someone has to own
slaves in the South. Like if we go before like the Emancipation Proclamation, if we go before like slaves are allowed to be free anywhere, black people are allowed to be free anywhere, somebody has to own those slaves. It's not like you can just set them free, right?
But the only reason slaves were brought across the Atlantic was because there was a market demand for them over here. If people didn't keep buying slaves, then they wouldn't have had the transatlantic slave trade. The way policing and landowning works literally requires those institutions exist.
But if you don't buy those slaves, somebody else will.
Not if there are fewer people buying slaves, they bring less slaves over the Atlantic.
Okay, if you're going to make that argument, then I'm going to say if there are fewer people evicting tenants, then there are fewer tenants being evicted. Or if there are fewer cops making drug busts, then there are fewer people getting arrested for doing drugs. Like that breaks your other two arguments you gave earlier.
It would be good to not drug bust and to not evict those tenants.
No, don't do this equivocation. I'm not saying it would be good, not blah, blah, blah. Earlier you said that the action of evicting a tenant or the action of petitioning the government to evict a tenant or the action of arresting somebody for drugs would be morally neutral because if you were to stop doing it, somebody else
petitioning the government. The whole point of the institutional critique is to get the government to implement laws that make society better. I don't think there's any justification, whether or not you're participating in the system, to fight against those laws when they're implemented.
Earlier it sounded like you were saying that like if a cop arrested people for having a bunch of weed, or if a landlord wrote an op-ed criticizing the government for a law, that these things...
Those are not comparable to me.
Oh, those aren't comparable. I'm sorry. A landlord evicting somebody or a cop arresting somebody for having weed. These two things are morally neutral because if you weren't doing it, someone else in your system would step up and do it. And it seems to me that like if we go back far enough, 300 years ago, whatever, if you own slaves, if you didn't own those slaves, somebody else would buy them. Slavery was a huge part of the early U.S. economy. That was how a lot of our agriculture and shit got done. That if you didn't own them, someone else. So in that case, my question is why wouldn't being a slave owner be moral if that's your way to justify what is morally?
If you walk away from being a cop or a landowner, somebody else will own that land or somebody else will take that police slot. But you can free your slaves. Well, actually, given the laws of the South, it was actually pretty difficult to free the slave. You can not buy slaves. You can just not do that. Slaves aren't a necessary component of the way that economic system worked at all.
Wait, are you sure about that?
Absolutely, I am. And I would challenge any history PhD to come on here and argue that slavery was as necessary and intricate a component of the Southern economy as housing commodification is to our land market and cops are to our criminal justice system.
Why did the South care so much about having slaves?
Because they wanted them, but that doesn't mean that they were institutionally mandated the way our land... Okay, hold on. You do recognize that there was literally no alternative to properties being rented. Not everyone can just buy a house and go to college.
The South literally had a fucking civil war.
That is not, wait,
to defend slavery. Why do you think this wasn't what they felt was
wait, hold on. Do you think...
So actually, in the most concentrated slave areas, I guess, in the country, they actually had the largest amounts of like millionaires and billionaires, or the equivalent to back in the day. They were millionaires, which is wait, what is a millionaire in the 1800s considered now? If you have $1 million back then, what would I'd have to look that up. But slavery made people super, super rich. The economy didn't need slaves to function.
Fighting a war for something is the same as something being institutionally necessary?
I think that it is the most institutionally necessary thing if you're willing to fight a war over it.
No, that's not what institutionally necessary means. The way commodified land markets work literally require the existence of landowners who rent properties. The fact that the South was willing to fight... People fight wars of shit all the time. That doesn't mean the thing they're fighting a war over is an institutional requirement of the way their system works.
I felt like slavery was okay, I'm sorry. I could just be totally wrong. So let me understand. So you're telling me that slavery was just a hobby or a pastime of the South? They didn't actually need it for any of their economic...
I'm legitimately asking, are you acting in bad faith right now? Because I think more of your intelligence than this. Do you really think there's no difference at all between the two things?
$1 million in 1800 is worth $20 million today.
Things we're talking about? I'm actually not kidding. Are you laughing right now? I'm not looking at your cam. I assume you've given up on this conversation because that was extraordinarily stupid.
My assumption is that slavery was an integral part to the South's economy.
It was integral.
Let me finish real quick. Anybody in the South would have said like, we need slaves to make our fucking shit work. It's incredibly fucking important to us. It is so integral to our economy and our way of life and our way of being that we're literally going to fucking fight a war.
Was there a mandated number of slaves in the South?
A mandated number?
If we had a certain number, let's say N number of slaves. We had N number of slaves, and then one slave owner throws up their hands, and they say, I'm fucking done owning slaves. I am going to free my 100 slaves. And now the South has N minus 100.
The Southern economy in the 1800s can function a lot better without slaves than our current economy could function without housing, though. Like, I guess we technically can live in tents, but like the utility that provides is a pretty big deal. Productivity and everything. Is there a
necessary economic counterbalancing effect, which requires that 100 additional slaves be purchased collectively by the South?
I mean, where do you think those slaves went? Somebody else would just buy them up or kill them, no?
Why do you think they bought them up?
Wait, what?
Why do you think there were so many slaves to buy up?
Because people felt like they could put them to economic use.
Okay,
What do
so
you mean?
if people stopped buying all of the slaves, there wouldn't be a market for
Because
the
people felt they can put them to economic use. Wow.
transatlantic slave trade.
Okay, and if people stopped renting all houses, then
No,
there would be
wrong. You have to. That's the
How do you,
thing.
what do you mean? How do you have to?
We
You
can't.
can just make everybody not rent a house. What do you mean?
How?
You don't
Wait,
have
then where would they live?
No. I mean, when I say stop, when I say rent a house or be a landlord, or maybe I'm being unclear. I mean, like rent a house to another person. You don't have to be a landlord.
Then
You can just tell everybody.
so
to be a
everyone
landlord.
has to buy the house they live in?
Sure.
That's not possible for a wide number of reasons that I know.
Wait,
you're
why
familiar
not? If every person stopped like being landlords, the price of houses would fall eventually. Necessarily would have to. If there's not that many dollars chasing them, the prices would come down because people would have to sell eventually. Or
with. You think the way that our
To be clear, hold on,
system
hold on.
functions.
I gotta point this out. I gotta point this out. Okay, I have to point this out because
You're
I
way
can't
smarter than this.
No. Because you keep saying this. So you're
I'm
acting like it's-
frustrated. I feel like I'm talking to a bad faith actor.
No. You made this comparison. Okay.
Can I interest you in a log cabin tent?
You're asking me like, you think that it's possible that everyone can just buy a house? You literally threw as an example of me. Well, everyone could just stop owning slaves. Okay. So no. Okay. I'm not gonna let you pretend like
I'm not saying everyone could. Did I at any point?
I'm not saying my comparison is so unbelievable. That was your argument.
Did I
you're
at
making.
any point
Be real
say
for a
that?
second, okay. Let's be clear. Okay.
So let's be clear. If everybody just stopped owning slaves, if that was a thing that they did, if they just stopped owning slaves, the economic systems within the South, back in the antebellum South, there are ways in which they could accommodate those changes. Because at the end of the day, a slave is just labor that you're not paying or treating very well. There are ways to change that, and we know that because they did. We fought a war, and they lost. And after they lost, and there were no more slaves, a different system was implemented, and it worked. But
Well, in
the
that way, there are ways we
system,
can accommodate the absence of all landlords, though. What do you mean?
we can't accommodate the absence of all landlords in a commodified housing system because the way the modern world works does not allow for every single property a person could be living at to be purchased.
It absolutely could be. What do you mean? The government could assign these houses to people.
Oh, well, hold on. Wait, hold on.
That's
If
different,
that's
though.
the case, if we're talking about the government assigning houses, then I would agree. Because that would be
How
at
is that
least
different from the
partial.
government going south and murdering, or not murdering, but fighting a fucking war with another fucking country?
What
to get
does
them
that
to
have
stop
to do with war? The government divvying
Wait,
up houses would be partial decommodification.
I'm sorry, because I have to get this because you're trying
This
to
is what I'm saying. Like, Destiny might have looked better at the beginning, but like I said this before we started watching. Destiny looked better at the beginning, but Vaush definitely looked better near the end. Like near this section right here. It's a little bit. Destiny's reaching for really edgy hypotheticals here. He brings up a really edgy one later. I actually caught this last night when I tuned in for a second.
the rhetorical thing, okay?
I'm not
You're
trying
trying
you
to
say it's
make it sound
rhetorical
like
thing. I just feel like I'm not being
You're trying to make
understood.
it sound like it's so unbelievable that the government could assign houses to people. That's just unreasonable for me to ask. But the counterexample that you're holding up is that in order to make people stop being slave owners, they fucking had a war over it.
Wait,
So, yeah,
nobody's
you're gonna
talking.
say- you're gonna
Nobody's
say-
talking
you're
about
gonna
the willingness to fight a war over something is not a direct indicator of how institutionally necessary.
Dude, they were willing to storm the Capitol to save Donald Trump, and Destiny thinks the South fought the Civil War for purely economic reasons. Oh my god, class reductionist out here.
It was.
It's
Germany.
an indicator of how institution necessary they thought it was.
How maybe how they thought it was. Germany fought a war over Lebensraum, but they lost the war and they have their current borders. And look at that, Germany still exists. So
And you know
clearly,
what? I bet, you know what? I don't think it would work that well economically, but I bet we could decommodify all housing and have it assigned to the government. That probably work too.
if we did that, then I would adopt your position. If there was a push to decommodify housing or to allow government assignment of housing, then I would change my position and say that it would be unethical to be a landlord, period. Because in doing so, you would be fighting against an institutional move to decommodify housing.
Okay, let's assume then, because we're not going to do this. Let's assume that there is a country or a state mandated 1 million slave minimum, and you owned the millionth slave. Do you think at that point then that it's morally neutral for you to own that slave because if you stop, somebody else would just step up and they would own that slave instead? If it was a mandated minimum number of slaves.
This feels like a bad faith clip moment, but yeah, I think that would be morally neutral. Yeah.
Okay,
If there's literally a mandated amount and so it has to go to somebody.
And if you're the one that owns the slave, it's morally neutral. Okay, that's fine. Because now that's consistent. Okay, so now going back then. Okay, so I'm going to. So you do agree with this statement? Okay. Wait, I'm not trying to trap you. I'm restating this to make
Make sure
sure
we treat the slave well. I think that would be nice.
Okay, but it would still be morally neutral. That's what we care about. Okay. You believe that if you can be replaced in an institution, then any action that you do within that institution is necessarily morally neutral.
If you can
So
be
long as
replaced within an institution, that any action, no, not any action, as long as you're acting the median, as long as what you're doing what's expected, you can do worse or better. You're talking about an incredibly complicated a collection of thresholds. I don't know if you're looking for like a price line or if you're looking for an itemized list of good and bad behaviors. I don't know why you're laughing. I'm trying to answer this to the best of my ability. Do you think this is? Wait, hold on.
You're trying to figure out like a position or a stance on something.
Nothing that I'm talking about right now is I'm trying to flesh out. Okay.
You're adding so many different like qualifiers and
What?
exceptions.
What
and rules.
qualifiers?
Well, you just told me that there's like a number of thresholds along which you can figure out if.
I'm not saying they didn't serve as like obvious. We know the money that they generated, that slavery generated, but the idea that the South fought the Civil War for purely economic reasons doesn't match up with the motivations behind it. They were fine after the war. They just lost a bunch of millionaires and had to restructure everything, of course, but it wasn't purely economic reasons. That's all I'm saying. It wasn't purely because of that. I'm not reducing the effect that slaves have. Like, if we actually look up the dollar amount that slaves helped the U.S. economy.
acting within an institution is even more weird.
You know why? Because that way, the presence of the lefty there doesn't bolster the institution. If another
Not right away, because the current system was built on slavery, but they had a transitional period. It's not like the entire thing fell apart.
person was in their place, nothing would change. That's why.
Okay, so but even if there's a lefty, they're treating his slave poorly. It's not going to change anything if somebody else replaces
It's
him.
absolutely changing something for the slave, dude.
Okay, then in that case, it's not enough to just act normal. Because if you want to say that it's not enough to do that because the slave's being treated horrible, what we should actually get is like a benevolent slave owner or a great slave owner. Okay, I could agree with that, but that
So
means
basically, after slavery, they couldn't hold people captive anymore. I mean, they did in a sense. So sharecropping got really popular. And I think it was called like it was different types of farming where they would contract the people who used to own the slaves would use their wealth to contract a bunch of peasants essentially. And now a bunch of poor people were wage slaves for super low payment essentially. So slavery, as we know it at the beginning, did transition to a more class-based thing, but the economy survived fine because they still exploited people after slavery. So the idea that they fought it for solely economic reasons doesn't seem to be it.
being a normal lefty business owner is not good. You need to go above and beyond. So earlier when I gave the example of charging market rates for your rent, it's not enough to charge market rates. You need to go above and beyond and charge under market
What are
rates.
you
Which one
assuming
is
right
it?
now? I think, well, every time people ask me, I say that you should.
Surfer Dude's high right now. Make sure you drop a like and also subscribe to the channel.
Every time people have asked me this, I do say you should charge below market rates. Are you trying to ask me what percentage below or above expected
I'm not
behavior?
asking you anything even remotely that specific. I'm just trying to figure out.
I don't think I've been.
Well, of course, slavery was mentioned first, but I'm just saying it wasn't purely economic reasons. They weren't literally just thinking that the racism built to at that point. The war wasn't completely like if it was the dynamics weren't simply like all economics. Like the reason the war was fought.
Percentage below or above expected
I'm not
behavior?
asking you anything even remotely that specific. I'm just trying to figure out.
I don't think I've been inconsistent. You've
I'm
spent
literally saying it's not all economics. I'm not saying it wasn't mostly economics. I'm not being absolutist about it like one or another.
an hour probing a set of beliefs that I haven't wavered on in the slightest. I don't know why this is so confusing or interesting to you. I don't even know why we're talking about this. We agreed on the base ideas. We agree that if you're a lefty and you have
Yeah,
access
it was a surplus.
to means, that it is good to do what you can to advocate for your political positions. If a person chooses not to do that, I think it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, at least they're making good content on YouTube. Or bad content if it's you, because you don't like the same stuff that I like, I imagine. And if they do especially bad stuff with the power they accrue through their wealth, then I think that's bad, and you would think that's bad, because you don't like bad things. I don't know why this is so disagreeable. If I really spent the time, I could
If
think about
anything, the worst economic impacts came as a result of them going to war. So, like, yeah, they didn't want to change their naturalist, fundamentalist economic systems because they got poor from the war eventually. And after it was done, that's how most people during the Civil War actually lost their wealth in the South.
for a very long time.
Well, so my disagreement would be that I think that if somebody has,
Yeah, and we see up in the Union, we saw the North have an economy based around workers and based around not slavery, and that economy wasn't being spurred as much as the crops in the South were, and the slavery, but it was still a very productive economic model. If they really cared about economics, they wouldn't have gone to war.
okay,
But I'm not saying it wasn't somewhat economic, of course, but there was a big cultural reason. There was a big fundamentalist reason they went to war for the Civil War. It wasn't just like, oh no, we're going to lose our economic actors. We cannot let them have the slaves because if we set them free, we can no longer have them. It wasn't just, it wasn't only money.
we can forget everything you just said, move to the next stage. I still don't know what you think of the prior stage, so I might come up.
Wait, why did what curiosity do you
Surfer Dude saying, don't say that ever again.
I don't know what you think is good or bad in terms of how you can act in society, but maybe that's not important. The next part of
Can I ask you a really quick question? Okay, hold on. Can I ask you a quick thing? Okay.
Mhm.
Do you think? Okay, wait, hold on. Chat's gonna be me. Do you think child slavery is good or bad?
Do I think child slavery is good or bad? Well, if there's so many ways that we could define this, is going to school count as a slave in general?
No,
child
no,
slavery
I'm not. It's not a gotcha. Okay.
I would say child slavery is probably bad.
Okay, I agree that child slavery is bad. I'm glad we agree on that. Now,
that's good.
There are more slaves around on Earth today than there have been at any other point in human history. They're all over the world. And the supply lines that we get our stuff from, it relies on child slavery. So I think that it's bad that those things happen. That when I buy a thing, when I buy a computer or an iPhone or something, I look at that and it's like, fuck, like this came from a sweatshop or something, or like something misfortune touched this item at some point along the line. Is that a feeling you get? Do you ever think like it would be a better world if that wasn't the case? If I could rely on fair market treatment for everything that I buy?
For sure.
Okay, I completely agree with that. And institutionally, you think we should push for fair labor rights all around the world to the extent that we can?
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
And not only during this time, did they want to hold on to slavery, but they wanted to expand it as well. And one of the reasons the war actually started is because they wanted to expand slavery even more. The South wanted to expand slavery all the way across the West as well, but the North rejected that and met them with opposition. So that's one of the reasons conflict actually arose, because they weren't happy with the current slave state. They wanted more and more and more. They wanted to keep on pulling away. They wanted to keep on eating up portions of that economy or portions of that country using slavery. It was, this market being the slave market being enacted, and then other things upheld it, like Erica said a little bit ago.
Yeah, I think so.
But you think it's probably okay for people to like buy an iPhone?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that's the general vibe that I get here. I think that these institutions are generally harmful and should be institutionally opposed, but...
Okay, I understand this. Let me ask you this question, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree that buying an iPhone that might have been made by a slave at some point, that's an unfortunate thing that we should try to avoid, right?
I don't know if I can criticize a person for getting an iPhone. I mean, if you,
Sure,
I think it's good if you don't.
It'd be nice to avoid it. It's like, yeah, sure. Do you think that that carries the same moral weight as locking a slave in your basement and forcing that child to build you an iPhone? Do you think these two things are the same, or do you think that it's a little bit different? That
No,
one is worse than the other?
I think those are different.
Okay, that's my issue. My issue isn't that a lefty merely exists in a system where maybe he buys something from a child slave. My issue is when they have the slave in the other room working for them. And then when you say, well, hold on, dude, isn't that kind of crazy? You're like, whoa, bro, you bought iPhones that are touched by slaves as well. It's the same thing. That's
Okay.
my problem. My issue isn't that lefties just exist in a capitalist society and are just, you can't help it. My issue is that there are things that you can help.
From my
you could pay
perspective,
workers a lot of money. You could advocate for certain causes. You could put your money where your mouth is or something.
From
But
my
you choose-
perspective, what is unethical about a lefty owning a business?
A lefty owning a business by default isn't unethical, but if they own the business and they run it like any other capitalist,
Sure,
why
okay,
wouldn't
owns a business and has wage slave employees. Okay, what about that?
I think that's unethical. I think that if you own a business, it should be a co-op, and you should be using your money to put up to prove the concept and to run it in a moral way. If you believe that exploitation of workers, that paying a wage and collecting a profit off of your employees is necessarily bad, you should have a rev share, profit share, employee stock program to negate that from happening.
I agree, that is the thing you should do. But again, the difference between
Hold on.
obligatory...
Wait. Hold on. I'm not using the vocabulary here, okay? I'm in Destiny World. I'm saying that it would be unethical.
You know those terms.
I'm saying it would be unethical, in my opinion. If you're a leftist, it would be unethical to run a business where you are a capitalist extracting surplus labor. That would be unethical. Now, I wouldn't like it, or I would prefer not. I say it would be unethical.
I'm sort of in the middle of every topic they talked about so far. Leave out the edgy hypotheticals. I don't care about. I'm not really gonna give an opinion on those other than that they're edgy and shit. But like the actual arguments, the actual fundamental things they're arguing, the ideas and the things about like the leftist content creators and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm in the middle. Like, and on rhetoric, I'm in the middle. Like, should you be rhetorical or should you be caring more about fact? I think you should be in the middle. Yeah, maybe more on Vaush's side for the entirety of this thing, but they both are looking pretty bad here. Honestly, I don't think either of them are really showing It's more about who's doing worse, not who's doing better, if that makes sense.
Ethical. And I think it would be ethical, it would be morally righteous for you to run a business in a way that complies or comports with the ethical system.
Who is the recipient of the harm?
For what?
For that example.
If you run a business, the recipient of the harm would be the workers, the laborers.
And if you didn't start a business, where would they be working?
I don't know, somewhere else.
Somewhere else. And if you started a business and they had an opportunity to work at your place or another, and they chose yours when they could have had another, what would your absence have meant to them and the harm done to their world?
You are the one committing the immoral action.
So there's no actual change in the harm done to the world. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well,
but that doesn't matter, though.
It is the only thing that matters to me.
And like I said before, Destiny had a point at the beginning. He had like a little bit of a point to what he was saying. I think Vaush in the second half is definitely looking much better at this point. So Destiny right away was good. Vaush better at the end, probably slightly better overall. But they both are kind of like, I don't know. It's one of those things, you know?
And because your participation in these systems... No, wait, stop. Just if your participation in these systems, and let's be perfectly clear here, okay? The crime of capitalism is not that there are businesses that are privately owned. The crime is that there is nothing but. Whether or not a lefty chooses to open a business has no bearing on the existence of capitalism, and it also does nothing but, this may sound like a capitalist argument, but I do believe this, expand the opportunities for workers in the region, because they have N+1 places to potentially work at now, furthering their opportunities and potentially giving them a better shot. The implementation of a business only adds utility, it doesn't derive it, whether or not you're a lefty.
The problem is you committing the action that you deem immoral. You can't use the system.
I don't think that's immoral.
Okay, fine. So here's a question. You enter a shady business, okay? Let's say that there is a woman, she's locked in a fucking cage, and it says, not going to be freed until she's raped. You know that no matter what happens, somebody has to rape that woman in order for her to get freed. It doesn't matter if you do it or someone else does it.
Dignify these hypotheticals.
Edgy, unnecessary, wild stuff from Destiny right here.
Okay, fine. So here's a question. You enter a shady business, okay? Let's say that there is a woman, she's locked in a fucking cage, and it says, not going to be freed until she's raped. You know that no matter what happens, somebody has to rape that woman in order for her to get freed. It doesn't matter if you do it or someone else does it.
Dignify these hypotheticals. I get clipped enough.
Well, so with your moral system, whether or not you do the immoral act, oh, you know what? Just because it's you, we'll go for a toned down one. Let's say that you walk across somebody's car, and let's say that on their car seat, you see that their window's down and their wallet's laying on their car seat. If you steal that wallet, are you just as like okay to do it as anyone else because anybody else could walk by and steal the wallet? Like, is it okay for you to do it because someone else will steal it if you don't?
I think those are comparable.
Yes. It's the exact same thing.
So
there's a wallet on a seat in a car. You walk by, the window's down. If you don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it. Do you think that you might as well steal it because somebody else could?
Opening a business and giving wage slaves the opportunity to work and be wage slaves at a different place, forcing, compelling no one, coercing no one, only implicitly through capitalism and market forces, to work at your place. This is the same to you as...
Wait, you're giving the most base libertarian anarcho-capitalist takes right now. When I open a business, I don't force anyone to work for me. They do it by their own volition. You know that's not true.
The only reason... that's why I said, except for the implicit coercion of capitalism.
Hey, one big thing about Destiny too, you want to make a big step into real life politics if you really care about showing your, I don't know, possible muscle, your organizing, really, if you really care about using your position to create change, you are going to stop doing stuff like this. If Destiny doesn't stop doing this like edgy shit, I don't believe he actually cares about actually affecting good change. I think he's being really immature. He's being really immature about it. And because clips like this, you support a mayoral candidate for mayor in Omaha or whatever, you have a big organizing force out. They know they're all from your organization, the DGGers. They bring up this clip. Like, that it makes you a political liability. It really does. It hurts yourself. I think that's kind of, I don't know.
Market system. What's the point of me qualifying if you don't hear?
I'm sorry. It feels like you're getting like ANCAP takes.
No,
like,
you acknowledge that my argument meets the utilitarian threshold.
Like,
you acknowledge that my argument, that what I'm saying doesn't contribute harm to the world, the net utility only increases.
My problem is that if you have an actor with a specific ethical system, I think that it would be morally wrong not to act in congruence with it. So what I'm saying is, so in your world, it sounds like anybody walking by the car, you might as well take the wallet because any other person would be. But what I would say is,
no,
you should just all not.
Wait, what if you just?
Wait, what if you just not?
Yeah. What if just nobody took the wallet?
In that case, you could just not open the business.
Well, then where are people going to work? What if nobody?
Don't worry, he'll tone it down when he turns 40. 30 wasn't old enough yet. I don't care about age stuff too, but like, come on, dude, it's real life shit. Like, if you want to do this, if you want to leave an impact somewhere, then you gotta uphold yourself as if you want to actually change the world. It's not like a off and on switch. Like, you have to live it to own it. You have to, live it to make it reality.
Open the business. You don't have to.
What difference does that make? The difference is people need jobs. Nobody needs their wallet stolen.
That's not relevant here. We're not talking about
yes,
the particular.
It is, because in that case, if everybody refrains from stealing the wallet, nobody steals the wallet and everything is fine. If nobody opens a business, there are no jobs in capitalism.
Yo, Erica, thank you for the 50 dang dollars. Oh, like, you know what? He's taking over. Cash taking over. Thank you. Goodbye. It's his stream now. Goodbye. Have a good one.
It doesn't exist.
Hey, come up here. Come on. No, you have to watch. Yep. All right. No, stop licking yourself. You have to watch.
If there's a $100 bill on the floor, somebody's going to take it. You're saying that if somebody else walks by and takes it, because your argument earlier was, does the net harm or the net good in the world change? Well, if not, then it doesn't fucking matter.
If nobody picks up the $100 bill, everything remains fine. But if nobody opens a business, we don't have an economy, and we all go back to trading rocks for seashells.
Wait, why don't you use the same argument then for the cop? If like the cop shouldn't arrest the person for smoking weed because maybe just no cops could arrest somebody for smoking weed.
Wait. That's not the same. You're conflating good action within...
I'm not
Wait, hold on. You conflated two things there. You did, and you'll recognize it if you give me a second. There's a difference between expecting everybody to act very well within an institution and abstaining from participating in that institution altogether. And the analogies that we're providing, not opening a business and not taking the $100 bill off the ground, or abstaining entirely. Whereas you just said, what if every cop just did really good in their job? I think that'd be fantastic, by the way.
Okay, I'm going to give you this analogy from all three perspectives,
Sure.
okay? And it lines up with everyone, okay?
Sure.
So in World 1, I would say that all three of these actions we can say are immoral, okay? It can be 1, arresting somebody for having marijuana is immoral because you are acting in a way that I think is shitty if you're like a socialist or a moral person, even if you're in that system. I think it's bad. So 1 is arresting somebody for weed, okay? Fuck you. You have a discretion. You have discretion as a cop. You don't have to do that, okay? Number 2, stealing somebody's wallet. You don't have to steal their wallet. Even if someone else can steal it, fuck it. Don't do it. That's bad, okay? And then 3, opening a business and exploiting your workers by collecting wage slaves. You don't have to do that either, okay? That's wrong if you're a socialist, okay? All three of those are wrong. Now, that's on all 3 levels. That's wrong, morally wrong. Now, morally neutral, okay? I guess morally neutral would be the cop, I guess, meeting his quota if he has to arrest somebody because a friend like radioed it in, okay? Fine, that's morally neutral. You're existing in a way you have to exist in the system. Okay. For the lefty, I can't think of a morally neutral way to open a business. I guess maybe you just don't open a business. You just don't do anything. You let somebody else step by and open a business. Or actually, I'm sorry. We'll say the cop doesn't arrest somebody. Maybe somebody else steps by. He never becomes a cop. Okay. Or for the lefty never opens a business. And then, or for the wallet guy like never steals the wallet. He never walks by, never takes the wallet. He just does nothing or whatever. But then on the ethically like high side, like these would be good things to do on all 3 levels. The cop could like, not only could the cop not arrest somebody or not be a cop, the cop could tell somebody like, hey, throw that away. Like there are other cops that come by, right? He could try to help people that are drugs. Like, hey, like go check in somewhere, do something good as a cop, right? Or 2, the lefty business owner could open a co-op. He could open a business and say, hey, we're actually going to do rev sharing. If you work here during rush hour.
I looked up cat noises on YouTube, and apparently this cat was being chased down by a chainsaw murderer because it was screaming. I don't know why that is the #1 cat noise to show up, but you know.
You're going to pay like $6 an hour more because we're making more money. Or for the guy that sees the wallet, the guy could go into the car, take the wallet, and then find the owner and say like, hey, dude, your car was open. Here's the wallet. Like this is all 3 levels of like moral action. So you could either act morally wrong, or you could disengage from the system completely, or you could act morally right. I think that I can encourage people to act morally righteous. I don't think it's fair to say, well, if he doesn't open a business and act in a bad way, someone else would just open the business. No, he could open the business and act in a good way. If these are truly what his ethics are, you could do that.
Would be good.
Yes. But the neutral, the disengagement thing, if you have principles, I don't think that's good. I think that's bad.
So you were incorrect in one respect, which is the assumption that the neutral option for a lefty opening a business would be to not open that business, which I obviously disagree with. I'm sorry, if there's some irreconcilable difference that we're not going to resolve here, then we might as well not waste an additional hour on it. If you acknowledge that when a lefty opens a business, and let's say pays market rate same as everyone else, and the workers are treated fine, really middle of the road, as hard as that is to abstract, all you are doing, in a purely empirical sense, is giving local workers an additional choice, an additional place that they could sell their labor to. An unethical institution, unfortunate, but you're not compelling or mandating or directing any direct harm. If you didn't do that, there would be no benefit to the world. If you do that, you have the potential to enact benefit.
To act in a way that's utilitarian. If you have the means to act in harmony with your principles, then for you to do less.
I genuinely think that your perspective on this issue has been tainted or corroded in some way by the people that you've argued online with.
If it's been tainted or corroded by anything, it's by the fact that I went to a Jesuit high school, and what part of what we taught, I guess, was like that you should live your principles. That maybe that's the corrosion here.
Yes, but the difference is you aren't accurately describing my principles.
Well, your principles is that as long as someone else is going to step up and fuck somebody over, you might as well do it yourself.
No harm is done by
fucking somebody over. Someone else could just do it. Yes, there is harm. It is necessarily exploitative to have wage slaves.
The system is exploitative. Even if they're not working at your place, they'll work at another one.
But if you are participating and encouraging and furthering that system by owning a business and exploit that interaction,
when did you stop being utilitarian?
It's not a,
no, all of the arguments that you've been making have rung deontological to me. If that's your dig, that's fine. But your understanding of what I think is hypocritical or what I think is wrong or incorrect is just not the case. Maybe a lot of other lefties would agree. Maybe a lot of other lefties would say, yeah, owning a business as a lefty is hypocritical. If that's the case, you can roast the fuck out of them all you want.
If you have the means to do something more in harmony with your ethical principles, then as a utilitarian, that's what we should be encouraging everybody to do.
What is the difference between the obligatory good and the supererogatory? What must one do to avoid being bad, or what is simply good to do voluntarily? Nobody donates all of their income to...
No, come on, don't fucking
stop, please, with all the uncharitability you assign me, please, God.
Oh my God, he's bringing up the dog shit arguments.
What dog shit arguments?
I never said you have to donate
I never said you said it. I was trying to provide an example. Everybody believes, well, not everyone, most people believe that you should give to the needy or the poor or the homeless. And very often people give a couple of dollars to a busker outside of their work.
Destiny's arguing right now like a force the voter. Like, do what's principally correct. It doesn't matter about the impact.
Very few people, if any, donate everything. So somewhere between A and B, there's a line. Now, I personally think that we don't have an institutional obligation to provide any given amount to charity, but I think it's good when people decide to do that. As a lefty, I don't think you have any moral obligations apart from the expectations that I would assign other people. It is, to me, additive. It is a benefit. It is an extra good if they use their platform, their power, their voice to advocate for leftism. And it's one I advocate for quite a bit because obviously I want to win. But I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's a moral wrong for a person to believe a thing but not dedicate their life to or even a substantial number of their resources to advocating for that thing. I don't think that's a moral wrong, and I don't think it's hypocritical to open a business. And no matter how many times you try to cram hypocrisy down my throat, I stand by this.
I'm just trying. Okay,
you have misrepresented my positions multiple times over this conversation.
I'm trying to write down what you're saying every time, and it's fucking like morphing in front of me. Okay?
What have I morphed on?
In terms of like, we can go back to the debate. Hold on.
Do we need to go back? Isn't forward the direction we should be going on?
I'm avoiding going back by not saying what I think you've changed on, because then it's going to cost me back. I have a simple question for you, okay? Mm-hmm. Let's say that there are 10 people, okay? Mm-hmm. They're gathered on the beach. And unfortunately today, there's a lost soul, okay? He's 100 meters out. This guy is fucked. And none of the people on the beach, they're not good enough swimmers to go get him, okay? Now, let's say another guy walks by, okay? This guy is called Chad Marks, okay? Some people call him Charles Marks, okay? This guy is a fucking state champion swimmer. And he walks by and he sees that kid out there. Do you think that that guy, with his additional means, with all that he has available to him, do you think that it would be just as morally neutral for him to stand by and watch that person drown as the other 10 less capable people on that beach? Could he simply say, I mean, I don't have like an obligation. It would be good if I did, but like, I mean, I could just sit here and watch it happen. I don't think it's bad. It's just morally neutral if I sit here and watch it. If he has the means.
I don't think these are analogous, but I do think they should go out and save the person.
Okay. Why is that disanalogous?
Okay. Because if they decided not to do that thing, if they decided to abstain, it would cost a person their life. Whereas in the case of a lefty opening a business, their decision to open it would not add any negative utility to the world. So in that case, we're talking about, for a lefty, it's either you abstain and you have nothing, or you participate and you have nothing, assuming you don't do extra bad or extra good. Okay, whereas in the case of the champion Chad Mark swimmer, if they abstain, you have a death, and if they participate, you have a safe life.
That's not at all
Participation and abstinence in these two examples meant very different outcomes.
Well, participation in a morally righteous way, in the swimming one, could result in saving somebody's life. Participation in a righteous way, in the economic sense, could be you opening a business that improves the material conditions of multiple other workers and families. I think those are comparable. Okay. Abstinence, in one sense, is you just stand by and you watch a person drown. And abstinence, which is negative. And abstinence, in the business sense, is you just stand by and you watch another business open up and exploit workers.
Which would be neutral, but the death is negative.
How is that? Okay, I never, ever want you to say again that like capitalism is negative or business owners are bad.
I don't think you understand my argument enough to criticize it.
Because you hit the neutral bullet on basically every single actor in a capitalist system. So wait, let me just clarify this. You believe that any person that opens a business and pays market wages to somebody, all of that capitalist that opens a business, that person is morally neutral. They're not committing a wrong at all, even if they have the means to do otherwise.
What do you mean the means to do otherwise?
Let's say they're very wealthy, or they could run their business another way. But let's say they choose the most exploitative option where they're just paying wages, no stock options, something like that. But it's like normal, but other like shitty.
If they're just so I don't know what you mean by most exploitative. If they just open up like a regular like place, then I think that would be preferable to them hoarding their wealth, if anything. At least that would give other people jobs. I mean, I still think the system would be negative, of course, but now if they were especially exploitative with how they managed that business, like they paid like below market wages, or they union busted, that's a big no-no, or they corroborated with other industries in the area to try to funnel labor towards them, but then drove down the price, like that kind of stuff, then that would be bad. I would not like that.
Okay.
Why are you so obsessed with you? So this isn't even about what's good or bad for society. This
it is about what's good or bad for society.
No, I think you're not a socialist, so you don't care what I think is good for society.
No, I think I'm a better capitalist than most fucking, at least.
Yeah, you are a better capitalist than most better. So hypothetically, you would agree with socialists in a lot of criticisms about wealth inequality.
But I try to live my principles. And I think that it would be unethical for me to maximize my existence in a capitalist society. I've turned down a lot of money for stuff that would maximize my existence in a capitalist, because I think it's unethical to do so. I don't agree that like, because it doesn't further what I believe in.
What have you turned down?
I've turned down a ton of fucking gambling sponsorships.
Okay, you've turned down gambling.
The CSGO skin days. There was so much of that shit that I fucking.
So okay, good. And you've turned down, and I, for my part, have turned down every sponsorship because
why?
It's not a part of my aesthetic. I don't want to.
Okay, wait. Then.
No, I just don't. I don't want to.
Ooh, that's not a good answer. It's not part of my aesthetic. Yeah, that's a little not good. Does he mean that, like, as in like a grifter sense, or
why?
That's not a part of my aesthetic. I don't want to.
Okay, wait. Then.
No, I just don't. I don't want to.
Don't wait. Don't compare that to me. Okay, you're on a lower level there. Okay.
Wait. Why the dick measuring?
Hold on. I intentionally have foregone money that I could use otherwise because it is in accordance with my principles. Okay, you're not doing it because it doesn't fit the aesthetic that you sell on your YouTube channel. Don't compare those.
My principles are that I'm not a cuck and I don't want to advertise.
No, stop. Don't walk back what you said earlier. Okay, whatever aesthetic that you sell, that's called a brand. Okay, so if you're doing something to help your brand, that's different than me making an ethical choice.
Oh, I wouldn't like lose money or followers by accepting sponsorships. I just don't like doing it. Wait, I feel like you're fixating very hard on the language here. The fact of the matter is, I don't care enough about money to do it.
I'm not fixating on the language. I'm talking about the ideas right now.
You're literally dick measuring with me. I was about to enter into a point, and I said like, oh yeah, I turned down sponsorships.
Hey, we're having a conversation about ethical behavior in a particular system, and I'm talking about behaviors that I think I exhibit that are ethical. If you want to call that dick measuring, that's fine. But this is the conversation.
That wasn't dick measuring. It was dick measuring when I said like, oh, I don't accept sponsorships because I think they're cucked or whatever.
It's just not good. Like, this isn't good for my aesthetic, because it plays into the idea that these bread tubers or whatever, that they just want to like virtue signal, and they want to make sure they portray to their audience that they're not like capitalist or whatever in any sense. Like, it's not good for my aesthetic or how I look. But Vaush is pretty open about like how much he makes and stuff like that. Pretty open. He doesn't give any exact numbers, but he does say a lot, and he brings it up a decent amount. Like he says, if you donate to me, just know I'm very well off, which is commendable to do, but it just feeds into that same thing. And it is a really quick reaction. Maybe he said it wrong. He realized after he said aesthetic, he's like, oh shit, I have to switch that to principle. So my principle is not doing these advertisements, not my concern about my aesthetic.
You got mad at me for equivocating. I think that's
because you're trying to say that these two things are similar.
No, I was okay. Wait, I understand. Do you think that maybe if we were having a calmer, conversation and that interaction had taken place, that you would have responded the way that you just did?
Yes. Because I'm trying to be more careful, especially with you, because you've done the rhetoric thing way better than me in the past. So 2021, dude, like, I don't know if you realize you're doing it like intentionally or not. It might be subconscious, but you almost sit there. What are you talking about? To try to imply.
I don't know what you're talking. You're defensive, man.
No, I am defensive because I
don't know what you mean.
So, okay, I can explain it to you.
How do I non-rhetorically talk to you? You engage in rhetoric. Oh, we all do. It's the way you convey information.
No, I intentionally have not engaged with rhetoric.
That's not, wait, I've seen you say this before. You don't know what rhetoric means. Rhetoric doesn't mean that you engage in superfluous language or hyperbolic statements.
No, rhetoric is literally... Rhetoric is just the art of persuasion. That's all it means, persuading somebody for something. That's what
you're arguing with me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It fed into the idea that bread tubers are grifters, but we know Vaush is good on that. It just feeds into that same stereotype, though. So it's like... Was it just unfortunate? Did he mean aesthetic, or did he mean like principle, or did he mean he just doesn't feel like doing it? Because those are three different answers.
That's an act of persuasion.
No, it is absolutely not.
If you genuinely believe this is like fuck, I'm trying to think of examples.
I mean, it could be a little bit of all three.
Argument is literally like propositional and like analytic logic. Okay, that is not.
That's rhetoric.
No.
Wait, I'm sorry. Do you or do you not sell an aesthetic of logical argumentation?
To some extent, sure, yeah.
Okay, rhetoric, the way you phrase things, the way you decide to make arguments, that's not It isn't rhetoric or logic. Rhetoric is just the way you deliver your information. And I have at no point during this conversation sacrificed the sincerity of my argument for the benefit of getting cheap points over you. In fact, if anything, I would say that you laughing and then busting out arguments about raping women in cages or owning slaves is a much more effective rhetorical tactic where you're trying to impugn my argument by reducing it to moral depravity than anything that I've done during this time.
More rhetorical effect.
By the way, when I gave examples, I had the decency to lay out examples that I thought were reasonable, pragmatic, and something we could all relate to. You were the one who went straight to the rape cage.
Playing a rhetorical game incredibly effectively, and
that is your rape cage, Destiny.
I'm trying to play on that level now, so I'm not going to let you walk over.
I'm not playing on any level.
Okay, stop. The disagreement that we had earlier is you asked me, because you said this in a very insulting way. I don't know if you realize that or not, okay? But you were like, what if you actually turned down? You said it. And then I gave an example, okay? I have turned down gambling sponsorships. I also pay exorbitant wages, better than anyone else in the industry. I pay way better than any other person here, okay? So those two things. And then you said, oh, well, I don't take sponsorships either. And I'm like, wait, really? And you're like, yeah, it's part of my aesthetic.
Okay, I don't think you recognize that I wasn't dick measuring with you when I said that.
Stop calling it dick measuring. You're trying to demean, okay, with the comparison, okay? That comparison to me was insulting because I don't not take certain sponsorships because of my aesthetic. I do it because of my principles. Those two things are very different. Okay. That's what upset me.
When I said aesthetic, I suppose you wouldn't buy me saying, as a lefty, I don't like the idea of doing legwork for corporations to advertise products that I don't give a fuck about. But you would say that's walking back, because what I actually believe is that it's purely an aesthetic flourish, and me fleshing it out now that I realize you've been made upset by my language is an attempt at being
weak. The thing is, what I would say is I wouldn't believe you.
That's what, right, that's what I just, yeah, exactly. So I don't care. So we have, so
you don't care, but when you had the opportunity to say it initially, like, yeah, it's my aesthetic, and I think that's probably closer to the reality. I think that it's two things. One is your aesthetic, and two is because you don't have to deal with fucking sponsor bullshit telling you what you can kind of say. That's probably
the latter thing is definitely part of the case. Yeah,
but now when you're trying to come out with like, well, actually, it's because I don't want to do the legwork for major corporations, but I don't believe that.
Okay, I know you don't, because you have assigned me so little charitability during this conversation. It's unbelievable. Can you think of a time during this conversation where I've said that I don't believe something that you've told me? The entire conversation, by the way, has been about you trying to assign hypocrisy to my beliefs. You realize that, right? I have been on the defensive.
And you know what?
The entire time.
You know what? I'm looking forward to Bookfucker going to this. I have tried so fucking hard to understand your positions in this.
What have I said that's confusing?
I've tried to write down. How many times have you said, like, you're smarter than this? Are you acting
I legitimately am disappointed, yes. You can say that's a rhetorical flourish if you like, but I watched your content for long enough to remember when you were better than this. I honestly think your engagement with the online left has made you... The fact that you've abandoned what brings about good or bad utility in favor of, like, holding lefties to some assigned degree of hypocrisy.
I don't know how you turned into such an absurd consequentialist that you became a fucking ANCAP that thinks that, like,
nothing. Do you seriously think anything I've said is ANCAP-y?
100%. You're like, yeah, fuck it. If I don't do this business, someone else is going to do it. I have way higher ethical standards than that. You're the one that's coming, and then you're literally using the like, you're literally using the what about the global poor argument. Do you understand that? When you say, like, if I don't open a business, well, someone else. Like, if I open a business, I'm giving those people somewhere to work. That's what people use as excuses for sweatshops, for slave shops in fucking China. It's like, well,
so do you think institutionally there might have been an alternative to the way that the global North uses the global South?
I don't understand this question.
Okay, so if you're a megacorp or if you're a government, do you think there might have been an institutional alternative to the current relationship that we have with the global poor? Like right now we have this, sweatshops are better than subsistence farming, but do you think there might have been maybe a more stringent advocacy for labor rights or like Western governments?
I think so. Yeah,
okay,
sure.
So the problem that I have with sweatshops aren't guys who are working at the sweatshops or managers at the sweatshops who are counting fat stacks of yuan while smoking a cigarette. What I care about are the people in power who allowed that set of institutional forces to take place there. I feel like I've been incredibly consistent on this point, like on every example given, but we're not even arguing over what you believe or what you think is good or bad. You just keep telling me what it's hypocritical for a lefty to do.
I'm not. First of all, the majority of this conversation has been me just asking you questions and then pointing out.
Which I've answered for 2 hours. 2 hours.
And all I'm saying is that I don't think it's enough to simply exist when the system is unethical.
That's fine. If you disagree with me on that, that's fine. Just stop trying to poke holes in my argument. If your belief is that lefties should do better, that's fine. I could be wrong on this. I don't feel like I've ever impugned your argument on that a single time. I'm only trying to explain how I think. If you think they should be held to a higher standard, then sure. Yes. I don't think you engage with that desire in a constructive...
And I think that if you are a lefty and you make a fuck ton of money in this society, you should do something with it. Act better than a capitalist would. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, what do you mean by should? Because you're apparently not a utilitarian anymore, so I'd like to know what you're saying.
Normative ethics has nothing to do with this conversation, okay? I think that
how does normative ethics not have anything to do with what's good or bad in the context of real-world behavior?
It's because we're not even at the level of discussing normative systems of ethics right now. It's not relevant to what we're talking about, okay?
I'm sorry. Am I misremembering what normative ethics means? Hold on. I'm pretty sure this is directly applicable.
No, because if we really wanted to write this down, we could get to both of our answers using some form of consequentialism or some form of dialectics.
Drop a like for the cat cam.
I've never tried to argue against yours. You just keep trying to tell me, not that you disagree with mine, by the way. If you just disagreed with me, that'd be fine. You keep trying to say that I'm inconsistent, which bothers me, because I try to put a lot of time into the things that I believe, and I've tried to, in good faith, explain them to you. I don't know why you've gone so hard. I have never put so much effort into trying to investigate perceived hypocrisy on the part of another person ever in any instance in my life.
Okay, if you really want to talk about consequentialism that bad, okay? If we were to say
I want to talk about why this matters to you, dude. Why not just care about making the world better?
Have the means to do so, have a higher calling to do so. And I think it is ethically wrong for you to float through life.
Why shouldn't everyone do it then?
What?
Why shouldn't everyone do it? Why should only lefties do it?
Act in accordance with their ethical principles to the
Who
greatest
the fuck cares with people? Wait, hold on. So do you wait, hold on. So for like chauvinists or misogynists, do you think it's ethical for them to like rape people because it's a part of their like internally consistent misogynistic worldview that women are property?
Sure, if that's part of their worldview, then yeah. Then
Okay, wait. So you would prefer? Wait. I need to know the answer.
I got banned from Twitter because I made fun of alt-writers for being fucking like half Persian or half Serbian.
Okay,
or fucking
but there's a difference between. Wait, hold on. There's a difference between making fun of a person for being hypocritical, which is fine and always okay, and saying it's good if a person is consistent, even if their consistent values would lead to a lot more harm in the world. So I just want to be really clear because I don't want to misrepresent you. You think it's good if people are consistent, even if that consistency has them following up and doing things which are unethical.
I mean, I think it's good to be consistent, but I don't think it's good to do unethical things. I don't know how I'm supposed to answer this.
Okay, so consistency.
Yeah, like how old is ContraPoints? How old is Philosophy Tube? How old is Sean? I know Xander Hall is like a year older than me. I mean, I'm young. I'm leveled up, you know? I'm next level young. I'm not really young. I'm only young in age, you know?
Is good, but unethical things are bad. I mean, I guess that's kind of tautological. So you think that lefties,
it's like Pokemon evolutions and stuff like
should,
that.
if they open a business, it should be like a co-op revenue share, that kind of thing, because that's a more ethical. Okay, do you think that would be more ethical for anyone to do?
Not necessarily, because I actually don't think the co-ops are like I don't think that's like the best thing to do. Not necessarily.
I can't imagine what would drive you to be so insistent on advocating that a group of people with a different set of political ideologies be consistent in a way that I don't think you fully understand to achieve an end that you don't even agree with. I actually can't fathom what roads we've walked. I look behind me and I see a maze.
Yeah, old people. Smelly old people. How dare you be old? I'm young. Get owned.
Because why can't we just talk about what's good?
It's so simple. Because if you're advocating for something and you don't live what you advocate for, it makes it feel like you don't
Have
actually.
You seen a lefty ad saying that every single person who owns a business should turn that business into a worker co-op?
Yeah.
Then call them out, not me.
Wait. How any lefty that has talked for the mass decommodification of housing and is shit on landlord.
You can't decommodify housing by being a nice landlord. That's an institutional thing.
No, but you could sell up. You could just refuse to take part in that institution.
How?
By not owning property and renting to other people.
And somebody else, there's a finite amount of land. Somebody else buys it. You don't dictate how construction companies set up suburbs.
That doesn't, just because somebody else would do something doesn't make it moral for you to do it.
Well, it means you're not adding.
Okay, I get that too. If you say something is a neutral, like Vaush said that, didn't he say with Destiny's, with what he set up around the slavery question, that it was a moral neutral to do in the South because it's what the system says to do. But like in today's age, if you're a lefty, you're not being forced to be a landlord. So if you think being a landlord is inherently evil, although consequentially, like if you're a landlord, it'll be the same effect on the world as if, you know, if somebody else is a landlord. Although that is the case, it is still sort of moral, like contradictory, right? Because you can just decide to not be a landlord unless if you are forced to be one. Isn't that sort of how it works?
To harm in the world if you do.
It doesn't matter. It is. Well, actually, because now you're like taking part of and furthering a system. You're driving up prices in that system. You're creating more competition.
Somebody else buys it, then they further prices.
Yeah, but that's one less person chasing that real estate market. Prices are going to fall.
Okay, I don't necessarily think that's how that works.
Well, I would understand you to understand that because this is Finance 101, and it's apparently lefties don't understand.
Why the patronization?
Dude, how many times have you asked me? I thought you were smarter than this.
Because I'm going to be honest with you. Okay, you're right. That was unfair of me.
You're literally telling me I don't believe in supply and demand. That's what you're telling me.
No, I'm not.
So it wasn't morally neutral because so it wasn't morally neutral because it would be contributing to the demand for slaves. But if it wasn't contributing, so if it was not contributing to the demand, then it would be morally neutral, essentially. But anyway, like all I'm saying is, if you think this is an evil thing, you're still participating instead of like withholding from it. Like it's still an evil thing. There's a couple things you can sort of use as, you know, if you don't believe in, if you're a pacifist, are you going to join the military? Even if it's going to have the same consequentialist effect on the world? If you're a pacifist, isn't that morally contradictory?
I'm telling you that I don't believe in supply and demand. I'm telling you that an individual actor deciding to not purchase a plot of land is not going to.
And I mean like active. I don't mean like a medic. You could be. Can you be a pacifist to be a medic? I don't know how that works. Are you like supporting war essentially? If you are a medic and you're. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that'd be considered supporting war. You'd be cleaning up, if anything, like helping heal the evils of it from the inside. I don't know.
Literally, I don't believe in supply and demand. That's what you're telling me.
No, I'm not telling you that I don't believe in supply and demand.
I'm saying you are participating in capitalism, but being a owner, being a landlord by most lefties' standards is worse than being a worker in capitalism. Those are two different things. You're an owner or you're a worker. If you think being a landlord is evil, you can participate in capitalism by not being a landlord, unless if you think every participation in capitalism is evil.
I'm telling you that an individual actor deciding to not purchase a plot of land is not going to meaningfully affect supply and demand.
It would be all lefty people.
We're only talking about individuals. You're only responsible for what you do.
Sure, and you probably, if you believe that an action is inherently immoral, that particular action.
I never said it, but I don't. You keep saying if, but I don't.
You
And,
don't.
yeah, this doesn't apply to Vaush. We're talking about the other people in this conversation because Vaush is sort of like flushing this one out already.
Fine if you don't.
Okay, then argue with other lefties. Why are you saying I'm a hypocrite?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, don't argue with Vaush, but
saying if, but I don't.
You don't. That's fine if you don't.
Okay, then argue with other lefties. Why are you saying I'm a hypocrite? I think they're hypocrites.
You attacked my tweet attacking other lefties. That's why we're having this conversation.
No, I attacked your tweet not because of that. I attacked your tweet because I think you're uncharitable to a lot of lefties.
Was not.
I don't think being a nurse counts as being contradictory, but I don't know if they would. Like, if you're a pacifist, you shouldn't go for active duty. Like, you're going to be overseas participating directly in armed conflict. But not everybody that joins the military, like a very, very, very small minority of people in the military actually do the stereotypical military stuff.
At you.
Thank you so much for the $10, Maxwell. You're curious. Do you think this debate changed any? Nope. Nobody's. This is useless. This shit right here is freaking useless, okay? This is all entertainment value. It's a moral exercise. It's a what? Mental exercise. Like, this is what this is. Like, come on.
I didn't mention you that.
You just spent the past 2 hours accusing me of being
Name one way, and this is about social media leftist content creators. Name one way this applies to real life. Like, what about political power or anything does this have to do with, like, policy or, like, anything that has to do with, like, real change?
To a lot of lefties.
My was not aimed at you. I didn't mention you that.
You just spent the past 2 hours accusing me of being hypocritical. If you wanted to say that other lefties, hey, Destiny, next time, just say other lefties are inconsistent and are willing to further their own interests in a system that they would otherwise individually condemn people for. To which I will say, yes, online leftists are fucking stupid. I get more of their shit than you do now because you don't participate in politics anywhere near as much. Well, you do in real life, actually, more than ever before. But online, I get their shit now more than anyone else. Okay. They're idiots.
Oh, Hacksaw Ridge about that. Yeah, it's a big show. Hacksaw Ridge about the is that a medical personnel story? Oh yeah, that is. Yeah, I forgot.
I know.
Let's go back then and let's reread my tweets after we've had this whole conversation. I'm curious what you disagree with.
Where are your tweets? Where do I?
Tweet the ones that you were going over on stream. Number one,
those yours?
Online socialists. So I'm specifically talking about online socialists, by the way. I even say in this tweet.
Wait, I need to see it. I don't have a good enough. Hold on, I'll bring it up.
I was reading it. Here, I'll link it to you.
I just have it. Yeah, okay, thank you.
There it is. Okay, right there. Okay.
Okay.
Online socialists want you to know how much money they make because they want to constantly trick you into thinking they're on your side. Their rhetoric is much more effective when they can start their calls to action with "we need to" instead of "you need to."
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
No, wait, sorry. I don't have a problem with them doing that. I do have a problem with your tweet.
Okay, what's your problem with my tweet?
Yeah, saying we need to do X is way more rhetorically effective than you need to. Can you imagine if Bernie Sanders was like, you all need affordable healthcare, I'm fine, I'm wealthy. Like, no. If you're a populist, then naturally your statement should ring with the interests of the people. I don't think it's dishonest to do that.
I mean, yeah. But Bernie Sanders did that so he can win. It's all about what your ends are. What are you trying to accomplish by using this populist rhetoric? Are you trying to influence change? Are you trying to win an office? Are you trying to influence policy? Or are you saying this because you know it's going to get you an audience, because you know it's going to get you more Patreon subscribers, more money on your Patreon? When you use language like we are coming together, we are in this together. When Kyle Kulinski like tweets out like we need to take to the streets when he doesn't do anything politically, he didn't even vote, or when like that Sean person does that as well. You know, super tough on Twitter, big leftist, but he never actually is it he? I don't even know. But like they always say that like, you know, other people need to be watching their shit, but they don't.
Do you think that it might come off as a bit disingenuous when you present yourself as a working man that's rallying alongside your viewers?
If you present yourself as a working man, then yes. But if you're forthcoming with your income, as I try to be, and you say stuff like, we need a higher wage in this country, I don't think that's dishonest.
Stop right now. Why are you talking about somebody being forthcoming with your income when I literally at the top say socialists that don't want you to know how much money they make? I'm not talking about that.
Because I think that your tweet gives the impression that like, hold on. Online socialists don't want you to know how much money they make because they constantly trick you into thinking they're on your side. Okay, we can go on this point by point. Okay? First of all, yeah, okay. So first, let's do this. So, because they want to constantly trick you into thinking they're on your side. I think this is a completely inaccurate reading of the reason why they hide their incomes to the point of being, like, delusional. The reason why they hide it is because they're a bunch of dumb fuck online lefty 14-year-old Tumblr exile dipshits who will attack anyone who they say making more than $50,000 a year off of Patreon and accuse them of being traitors to the revolution. Now, I do still think that online leftists should show their income. I've been very clear about that. I've talked about that even to people who hide their income in private. But I don't think it's because they're trying to constantly trick you. I think they're just trying to avoid drama. This assigns a lot of malice and a lot of duplicity that I don't think is present.
Okay, hold on one quick.
Oh yeah, Erica, I shut down all the Discord links last week because the Tom McDonald fans were going to raid the Discord, so I had to close it for a little bit. So all the old links don't work anymore. I have to put new ones up.
Okay. Do you think that this is like, do you think that this reads a little bit disingenuously? looking at the right. My flatmates and I are writing to our landlord to tell them we won't be paying rent in April due to the pandemic. Here's a template you can use if you need to do the same, and a list of things to bear in mind. Good luck. You don't think that this person is like making it sound like they need to get like out of paying rent due to the pandemic, ignoring the fact that they're literally doing this to somebody that is probably making far less money than they do?
I don't necessarily have an issue with people calling for a rent strike and using collective language in doing so. I do think
that's not what we're talking about.
I do think that it's bad that they hide their income, though. I think that's the big definer here. I think that if you show your income, then I think that's totally fine.
This is not the what I'm saying is she is making it sound like she literally like won't be paying rent due to the pandemic, ignoring the fact that the landlord makes less than them.
Oh,
I would say that this is a trick into making somebody think that they're on their side. This is what I'm referring to.
Well,
I think that
she be on their side?
What?
Wouldn't she be on their side? I mean, she's a lefty. What do you mean is she not?
As in, has the same struggles, has the same class problems, has the same like problem affording rent, when that's not the case.
If there is definitely an implication here that they can't afford their rent that I do find a bit unsavory. This is why I really wish they would show their income. But the general, like, we should do X language, I think is perfectly acceptable.
Stop. I don't think you made a comparison. Hold on, I have to do this because I can't wait to get the rhetorical
what are
answer.
these
Sorry.
numbers right here? Here's a template you can use. So here's the minimum amount that Philosophy Tube can make. 7,674 patrons, minimum €2 per month. So minimum 2, definitely they're getting more than 2. There's 10 levels. So one is 2, one is 450. I'm sure one is like 10. So like, let's average it out at 5. So it's probably way more than this right here. Student loan.
Why do you keep accusing me of rhetorical wins?
Because you are. Because you
I'm better at it than you are.
I'm listening for it now and I'm hearing it more, okay? Earlier, you used the comparison of Bernie Sanders. When Bernie says something like, we need free healthcare, we need free blah, 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 Bernie Sanders is not presenting himself as a fellow poor. In fact, I'm almost positive that I've heard Bernie Sanders say, I think word for word, the average American should have the same healthcare that I have in the Senate. I'm pretty sure he said that word for word. I think I've heard Bernie say that.
That would be like the equivalent of showing your income on Patreon.
So this is why I'm calling this a rhetorical win, is because it's a disingenuous comparison. When Bernie Sanders says we need to do this, that's different. I don't think Bernie Sanders would come out and say, we need to go on strike and stop paying our mortgage. I'm writing a letter to my landlord saying I'm not going to pay the mortgage. I don't think Bernie Sanders would fucking say that. That's what I'm talking about. You can try to divert, okay? But Abigail's tweet
come on, man, really?
Abigail's tweet here is not comparable to Bernie Sanders' statement.
Yeah,
Abigail's tweet here is a trick into thinking that she is on your side.
Okay,
that is my first statement.
I
think it has been sufficiently
justified. I don't
justified.
like the use of the term your side because it implies that she has malicious intent or politically disagrees. If you wanted to say the language of this tweet gives the mistaken impression.
I mean, this could be principled. Like, the flatmate couldn't pay up, so they both went in and said, you know what? Neither of us are going to pay. I'll stand in solidarity with the people who can't pay. But, I mean, I don't know. Did this spur patron donations or something? I don't know. Was that the intention? Probably not. I don't think the intentions here were going to be evil or anything like that.
That she's struggling more financially than she probably actually is, then I think I would agree with that. Would you mind this tweet if she had her income that she's struggling more financially than she probably actually is? Then I think I would agree with that. Would you mind this tweet if she had her income publicly known and it was something that she referred to in her videos? Like, I'm quite privileged, but she does it in like a British voice, you know?
No. If she made her income publicly known and she like wasn't ultra privileged, then I could be more understanding.
No,
so
like if she was privileged, but she talks like she's forthcoming with the information.
Oh, I'd be a little bit better with it, but this would still be really irritating to me. But okay. I'd be slightly moved.
That would make it fine by me. I actually, reading over this specifically, I'll agree that I think this language is a little bit irresponsible. I don't really think much harm is being done here because I mean, I'm fine with the idea of collective rent strikes, or I was back at the beginning of the pandemic, you know.
Okay, so going through on the next statement, their rhetoric is much more effective when they can start their calls to action with we need to instead of you need to, despite them never actually doing anything to further anyone's material conditions but their own.
Wait,
I have a problem. What?
Where's this tweet? Oh, here it is. I see. It was the next one. Okay.
Yes. So I think it's a little bit strange if you call yourself a lefty and you present yourself as being poor, and the way that you sustain yourself is with donations from exploited workers that are in a lower material.
I don't think that she portrayed herself as being poor. I don't think a couple of tweets where she.
Do you want to read through her breakdown of the money that she makes and how she tries to lead people into thinking that like?
No, I saw that. I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then she does kind of lead people into thinking she's responsible. Also, remember when she was literally tweeting out like, "Oh no, I can't afford to pay for closed captioning anymore. Like this is horrible."
Well, that was probably just her saying, "I no longer feel it's worth a monetary investment." I mean, I don't close captioning.
Being so unbelievably charitable. I'm just running with what I think are fair interpretations. So you're running the distance right now.
Wait, hold on. What I'm saying is that's probably the reason she tweeted that. I sincerely doubt that she literally couldn't afford to do that. I agree she should be responsible with her wording here.
She made it sound like it was literally business impossible. We can go find the exact tweet.
I don't care enough to dig through that, but I do.
Okay, well, you're important to justify my argument. So if you cared enough to criticize my tweet, so I care enough to justify.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten through these tweets. Hold on. Okay, so hold on. All right. Because they want to constantly trick you into thinking they're on their side. I think this is incredibly uncharitable, and based on somebody who's in BreadTube, by some people's accounts, and who talks to the BreadTubers, I just don't think this is an accurate description of why they do what they do. You assign a lot of malice here. Their rhetoric is much more effective when they can start their calls with action to we need to rather than you need to. That is completely true. That's populism 101. Despite them never actually doing anything to further anyone's material conditions but their own. This is pretty dumb to me. I don't know what furthering other people's material conditions has to do with calls to action. Like this just seems like a limp gotcha. That's why
you don't think it's strange that somebody might say over and over again, we need to do something to improve people, we need to do something, blah, 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 and then meanwhile they just collect hundreds of thousands of dollars.
She was saying we need to do a rent strike. pandemic, and she was advocating for a rent strike. So that seems like the thing to do in that situation. And
so
no, I don't think there's
here's an
anything wrong
example.
with making
Here's an
money
example
on
of something you could do, right? If you're a top 1% earner in the UK, like Abigail is, maybe you could cover your flatmate's rent. That's something you could do instead of going on strike.
She does that. Does she even have a flatmate?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and guess the fact that she said my flatmates and I mean she probably has flatmates, and the fact that she's saying that they're not going to pay their rent due to the pandemic makes it sound like she's not covering the rent. But that's one thing she could do theoretically. Yeah.
Okay.
That pack is pretty cool that Vaush wants to do, but he needs to get a little bit more political. What's it called? He needs to learn a little bit more about politics. Like, for example, when he interviewed Joshua Collins, Joshua for Congress back then, that big meme, and Joshua ended up being a big fraud, and he got less votes than a literal dead man. Destiny actually exposed Joshua Collins. But Vaush, if he has a pack, he needs to make sure he supports people who can actually win, which I think he will do his due diligence if he did do a pack. But the idea that you can interview like Joshua Collins and not realize he doesn't know what he's talking about means you have to sort of like being a political advocate shouldn't be a job. I guess I'm not getting money. I'm never making money in my life. Starving artist, but for politics.
Okay. What is this? So we're falling back on the original argument here, where you can't make calls to action for a rent strike unless you're also spending money on the proletariat?
No, you can do whatever you want. I just think it's strange to be making all these calls to improve conditions and all these calls to do things, but you don't do anything with your own.
I don't think it's strange to say we should do a rent strike. But
yeah, I know he did a video on it, but you don't have 3rd and 4th and 2nd and 5th and 8th and 9th and 10th chances in real life. Like online politics, I guess you have a chance to like see somebody else interview them. But if you and PACs, you don't just throw donations in like right before the election. You need to be coordinated with this stuff when you're pouring money into different candidates.
Again, I don't even know what this means. Like donate to a charity or something.
I understand you don't mean, you know what I mean. I'm being very, very, very gentle with you, but like it's pretty disgusting. Like your whole point is that like I don't think you should have to do anything ethical or in harmony with your principles at all. Like I think you just hoard infinite amounts of money, be a fucking wealth dragon.
You've gotten so angry at me in a vacuum because you don't know what I believe.
I haven't even gotten angry at you. I'm just saying like it is unreal to me how much you are bending over backwards when my whole argument.
What have I bent over backwards on? Say a thing. Say a thing that I bent over backwards.
Try to justify why these people shouldn't have to lift a fucking finger to do anything outside of what we expect.
I've said it's good if they do it.
But
that's not. How is it weaselly to say it's good if they do something?
Because you're trying to make it sound like you think that people ought to, when in reality you think it's just
no. That's why I don't say ought.
Do you think it's fine? Do you think it's fine if people do nothing though and they just live normally? You do.
I don't know about that. I think it's somewhat powerful for somebody with money to come out and say like I didn't earn this or something like to somebody. For example, like a lot of poor people tend to think there shouldn't be higher taxes on the wealthy because the wealthy worked for what they have. And it might be pretty good for somebody who's a political activist or an advocate or somebody running to say, I want to raise taxes on myself. I didn't earn this. You know who does earn it? The people who aren't getting paid. So I want to institute policies that are going to help those people.
But that's not. How is it weaselly to say it's good if they do something?
Because you're trying to make it sound like you think that people ought to, when in reality you think it's just
no. That's why I don't say ought.
Do you think it's fine? Do you think it's fine if people do nothing though and they just live normally? You do because you said it was neutral. Yes. So stop saying you think it's good if they go above and beyond. That's not what I'm talking about.
That is good.
But I'm not saying.
Wait, unironically, do you recognize the difference between an obligatory and a supererogatory action? I can't believe I feel like I have to explain ethics to you. If you unironically hold on. Does utilitarianism as a system, please, does utilitarianism as a system designate which actions a person must do? No. It designates which actions are good. What a person must do is an entirely subjective process that we have to arrive at through a lot of really complicated thinking. It only tells us what is good or bad.
Makes any sense. We don't, whatever this.
Owning a business doesn't necessarily reinforce capitalism more than any other participation. I don't know. Many people on the left think that. Somebody who I actually think is pretty reasonable, Christo Ave, something like that. You probably know who Christo is. I think his channel has like 50K subs now. He does more like Pac-Man type content, but he said in a thread that I commented on that all business owners that can't pay a living wage should be basically thrown out of business, or they don't have a right to survive. Small business owners, even if they bring home working class wages, because I forget what word he used, but it was like these wannabe capitalists shouldn't be able to own this business. And I'm like, okay, because we're talking about minimum wage, and I said how if we literally increased it to $15 right now, which is what he wants, literally we would lose millions and millions of jobs all over the country in rural areas. Cities would be fine, but this is a real economic impact that would happen. We have tons of studies that even say $15 in 2025 is going to lose jobs for certain areas. But addressing small business owners who bring home working class wages as some type of like petite capitalist class, class is such a defeating thing. I don't understand what sense that makes. Like if somebody's bringing home 40K a year and they own a pizza shop, or they bring home 35K a year and they own a pizza shop, I'm not sure we should be treating them as if they're in the owners, in the owner class of society.
What doesn't make sense?
Need to talk about this. Whatever
That's
you just
essential.
It's more complicated than simply own business bad. Like these things aren't like this absolutist, but people on the left, I don't know, they do this a lot. Maybe it's online. Maybe people on the left are too smart for their own good. Maybe people on the left are too confident. Maybe we're like, we know all the answers. We're so smart, idiots, stupid working class. You don't know better. I mean, I say stuff like that sometimes, like, oh, they're too dumb to come together, or like they're being separated by bias and like racial prejudice. They don't come together with immigrants and stuff because they get effed over by the upper class, which they still feed into and love.
Good or bad?
None of this makes any sense. We don't. Whatever this ethics
doesn't
argument
make
is, we don't even need
sense?
to talk about this. Whatever
That's
you just said.
essential. You keep using language like they must or they ought, but these aren't. I don't use language like this.
Sure, but I am. That's what I'm saying. The difference is, I think that there is an imperative.
Yes, you think that if you're a leftist, you must adhere to a set of principles that leftists conveniently don't engage in, which gives you an excuse to be mad at them. We know. It's been the subject of 2 hours of discussion. Nobody has learned anything, and nobody has arrived at a further understanding of any of the issues being discussed here.
Weaseling around of this is like, well, I
I
think
haven't weaseled a single thing. I've owned every position.
Then what do we disagree on?
I keep telling you.
But the minimum wage being $15 an hour literally would kill like 10 million jobs in red states and in rural areas. That is such a that's a real economic impact. That is what would happen. So what plans do we have to make up for that? We literally can't do $15 overnight. The economy needs to adjust. The velocity of capital in the lower ranks of the economy needs to adjust. Like this, as more poor people have money, the limits of what local economies can do changes. Demand changes. Supply, like all this stuff needs to, it can't happen with one big change. Like if we went from 725 to 15 right now, which they're not proposing, but the $15 in 2025 is actually really reasonable when we look at the studies. But if you're a small business owner, for example, in my town, all the small businesses got killed by Walmart. Now, if we raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, you know who can pay that wage? Walmart. Do you know who can't pay that wage? Every small business. So we're basically forfeiting this entire town to Walmart, creating essentially a company town, which is very dangerous. We don't want to lose our sympathies for people just because they're in the owner class or whatever you want to consider it. They're bringing home working class wages. They are hiring people. They're not paying $7.25 in most scenarios. Like this is a real thing we have to be able to confront and adjust to.
We don't. You're the one obsessed with this. I thought we were going to have a chill conversation. I'm just trying to do my Twitch ban. I'm interested in the difference you have.
You don't disagree on it, but when I opened your video, I think I only got like 30 seconds.
I think these are dumb tweets. Yeah.
The stupidest fucking tweet I've ever had. These are the dumbest fucking tweets.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I'd want to talk about like subsidizing, if we can like subsidize small businesses or something, like a PPP loan, but maybe for like any business at any time if they can't pay minimum wage or they can prove it. But then how do you set the limits? How do you determine how much money a local business can take home or how much they're allowed to take home? There's a lot of like, I do like jobs programs. Firefighters are mostly volunteer. I want to get firefighters paid. That's a big thing too. That would open up more jobs because firefighters work a job and they're firefighters, volunteer. So you could kind of do like, if you make being a firefighter a job, these firefighters can stop working their old jobs. So now more people can can work the firefighters' old jobs since they can now be firefighters full time and stuff like that. Thank you for $5, Spencer. How about we just push an Andrew Yang UBI? You know what I would like? I don't know. I like targeted approaches to UBI. I don't like the blanket approach typically. I like how South Korea does it. I don't want people to have UBIs and spend it on Amazon. I think if you have a UBI, you should have to spend it at like certain small businesses. Like maybe the small businesses can apply for I don't know what it'd be called, but to have to be permitted to take payment from the government UBI cards or whatever. I don't think giving money to everybody is the exact solution. I mean, I'd be for that instead of nothing.
incredibly blinded by spite when it comes to your engagement with
I don't
human
think I've
life.
said anything spiteful.
I
If
know
I'm
you
spiteful,
don't. That's why
I'm
it's
spiteful because
blinded.
The number of people that exist on this earth that don't live their principles, but instead just talk the talk.
I don't
That's what
care
makes
whether
me
people live their principles. I care whether people
Yes, I want targeted UBI me only. I agree.
incredibly blinded by spite when it comes to your engagement with
I don't
human
think I've
life.
said anything spiteful.
I
If
know
I'm
you don't.
spiteful,
That's why
I'm
it's
spiteful because
blinded.
The number of people that exist on this earth that don't live their principles, but instead just talk the talk.
I don't
That's what
care
makes me
whether
spiteful.
people live their principles. I care whether
Well, I
people's
do.
net actions contribute to positive utility.
Well, I think that people living their principles, I think, will probably contribute to better net
That's
actions.
spectacular, Destiny.
Okay, cool.
So
Awesome.
anyway, that's why people like Philosophy Tube will brag about not paying rent. She never bragged. She said that she wouldn't in solidarity with the rent strike. You have to express solidarity. You can't do a rent strike saying, I'll pay rent because I'm rich, but you all don't. Ignoring that they're the top 1%
Wait,
of
hold
UK.
on. You absolutely could give a template for doing a rent strike without saying that you yourself are doing
It is
a rent strike.
undeniably more rhetorically effective to say that you are doing it in solidarity with others, and rhetorical
well,
effectiveness
they
is
can do that,
necessary
but
for
I'm
the
not
organization of a
calling
rent strike because you're trying to get a bunch of people in it.
Okay, I'll call them out for being a piece of shit then if they want to. Sometimes I give advice to people in chat for like, hey, like these are ways that you could like, you know, negotiate down debt and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna say I'm gonna sit there and do it or whatever. Like it's
What?
I'm saying that I can give advice for how people can improve their conditions without pretending that I need to do the same thing.
Yeah,
You know,
well, I already acknowledged that I think that the language of the
Destiny's doing a viewer call-in. Well, we already tried once. Somebody sent in a super chat. He read it. He said, "Come in." I joined the lobby. He did not drag me in.
tweet that you linked me could have been more responsible and that she should show her income. However,
Awesome.
I don't think she bragged about not paying rent. And then we go on, ignoring that they're part of the top 1% of UK earners and likely out-earning the person they're paying rent to. They probably are likely out-earning the person they're paying rent to. I don't know why you're saying she's ignoring that. Again, this is like... That's,
ignoring that because she makes an attempt to obfuscate how much money she makes.
I don't think that... I think the language of your tweet is exceptionally uncharitable, and considering how specific you've been with your language with me, I think that you know that. You know that this language comes off spiteful.
You are being charitable to an unbelievable amount. When somebody does an expo, or when somebody does like a transparency report on how much money they make, and they don't use a single fucking number, I'm sorry, dog. I'm coming down real harsh on that one.
Sure, then come down on that.
If you want to put on the kid gloves for that, that's fine. But I'm seeing a lot of bad faith there. If somebody who does a transparency report and doesn't list a single fucking fact or figure while constantly complaining that like, oh, sub-captions are making my business unprofitable, or oh, I'm going on rent strike with my
the 1%?
Then nah, I'm not going.
Top 1% in London is £300,000 a year. I guess it's possible that she makes that.
Oh, I didn't put London earners. I put UK earners.
Oh, that's probably a pretty big difference. But
the good thing I put UK earners instead of London earners then. Well, she might be in the top 1% of London earners. That's possible.
She doesn't. I think the city kind of matters, but it doesn't matter to me.
Wait. So somebody's like, you're the top 1% in America. Like, hold on, I'll be the top 1% in America, but I'm not the top 1% in LA. Okay, what are you doing right now?
Not necessarily cutting lines with top 1%, but the difference in America between making 100K a year in like Wisconsin versus making it in like New York, I think that's a pretty significant difference. Yeah. Like if somebody was like, you make 6 figures, and somebody was like, yeah, it's 100K, and I live in fucking Long Island. Okay, I'm just trying to live. I think that's a pretty significant difference.
If you're a top 1% earner in the United States, you're doing really well, literally no matter where you live.
Yeah, I'm clarifying that there is a 3 times difference between top 1% of UK earners and London earners. I think that's worth like pointing out. Don't want to get in the way of your hate train. No, that's fine. It's okay if you want to be non-specific to allow your audience to assume the worst possible thing. That's totally okay. I know you don't have an issue with that.
If I would have put London, would I need to find out what fucking neighborhood she lives in next? Like,
I think you could average out to a city, and that would probably be okay. But I think that's pretty different from just averaging.
I don't even know what she lives in.
I don't even know why I'm getting caught on this.
That's true.
All right, and it's why online creators will hide their revenue from you.
Yeah, if I could ask Destiny a question, I'd be like, "Hey, man, do you actually want to help real politics? Then stop being a child. Stop being so edgy. Calm down for a little bit, man. Calm down. Take a break from being edgy. Be a little bit, it's life. One big thing that he might not get yet, canvassing in Georgia is cool, but you're not really associated with any real power. Once you get close to real power, you have to worry about that image stuff. So, for example, if you're gonna support a mayoral candidate in Omaha, if that candidate gets close to winning, then they're probably gonna look into how he got a big burst. Where is the fundraising coming from? How is this group here supporting this candidate from out of state? Why are there 50 people here in this city? They might start asking questions. The moment you get close to actually achieving real political power, that's when everything cracks down and it actually matters. He's canvassing right now. But what I'm saying is he might get through this entire thing and never run into that issue because he might never get close to actual power. But the moment he has any type of real pull on anything, all this stuff is going to come up. But like I said, if he never gets that close, it won't come up. Now, I know he doesn't want to be a politician, but he wants to help politicians win. And anything associated with him is going to be bad. Like Bernie Sanders and Joe Rogan. Like, all you have to do is bring, oh my God, there's so many clips of him. Like, it's that easy. That's how easy it is to demonize people in real politics. That's what they're going to use. Maybe the people in this city won't care about that. I don't know. But it's just how it is, you know? Yeah, but it's just like, I don't know, dude. You can't, on one hand, be very committed to changing politics or like to having an effect in politics, and then on the other hand, not be willing to put down this persona at the same time. I know it's too late for his image, but saying I said this thing last night is a lot different from saying I said this 2 years ago. And every time you do it, the cycle repeats.
Pretending they can't afford rent, or why lefties who graduated from Harvard will pretend they're like you because they're unemployed, and then you link Brianna Joy Gray, who I think is a piece of shit, so I'm not going to defend anything that she's done or said.
Like,
it's not altogether...
it's not even like, it's not even being edgy. Like that analogy about the women, and I'm not even going to repeat it, but like, that is way too, like there's no reason you need to say that for anything, for any real human conversation. There's no reason to bring up that hypothetical. It just simply isn't necessary. It's a waste. Like, come on, dude. I mean, he's being a trailblazer, which is awesome. I support it. I don't care about that stuff. I know what real life is actually about. I don't care about the mean words. Yeah, the rape analogy. But, these things, I mean, political, I want change for people. If somebody wants to use their influence, I'd be for it. But it's just how the climate is right now, dude.
Together much different from conservative billionaires who pretend they're quote-unquote just like you, claiming they're fighting on your behalf while they laugh it up all the way to the bank. I think this is...
Vaush, the thing about Vaush, though, he went really PC. Oh yeah, 10-year-old tweets, sure, but it's harder though. Once you go PC, it's a little bit easier to clean your image. Like Vaush, ever since he he started getting rich, you notice he started like trying to not be as edgy, but he's drug into it as well. Yeah, I illegally voted for Biden, so I can't run for anything. I'm just saying, dude. Like, it'd be good for the, I don't know, maybe his viewer base doesn't follow the same like tactics. Because, like I said before, I've criticized him before for this. Like, I think he can be a really positive influence in this media space and in real life. But there's just a couple things about, like, I don't know, is it pride? There's just a couple things.
It's pretty insane. To say that a bread tuber who doesn't display income on Patreon is like a conservative billionaire who lies to the people while laughing it up to the bank. I understand the underlying logic, but this is a
yeah, it's like you turn on the stream, like, oh wait, this guy can't be that bad. You turn on the stream, you see Destiny say that to Vaush, and you're like, what? Huh? Like, that's not effective politically. I mean, it's good for your arguments, I guess, if you want to. But that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing about that Vaush thing, that people think he's like a child pedo or whatever when he did that. Analogy when Destiny talks about incest. Like, these things are supposed to be like logic breakers, right? Like, your brain is supposed to break because people can't justify why they're against these things. They can't prove why they're wrong about these things, or they have to dig really deep to prove why they're wrong about these things, and they typically can't. But for real life conversations, nobody's going to receive that well from the outside, or even if you talk to them using that, direction and tactic.
Ridiculous.
It is absolutely apt. When you are selling lies to your people and you're pretending that you're some poor
lies?
person.
Hey man, I'm only on here for another couple months and I'm skirting. Unless if something big happens and then I could actually make money, but I need to like the doomsday clock. 8 more months.
Basically any fucking thing having to do with economics or finance, any lefty post ever.
Wait, hold on.
Of this channel.
What does the content of the videos that are being made have to do with this argument?
Because conservatives tell lies to get people to believe some ideological basis, and
they're
then
not lying. When people like philosophy too make inaccurate, trust me, as a person who's recently made inaccurate takes, they're not done because, at least not with these people, they're not done because they're deliberately trying to make a cheap buck off of misinformation. They're usually doing it because they're just wrong.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm sure there's a ton of conservatives who feel the same way.
There are a lot of conservatives.
They're just like doing it because they're wrong.
Yeah, there are conservatives like that, and you know that. I've listened to. I'm sorry, I feel like every time I get on this tangent,
I know. I think that there are a lot of people that go out of their way to like blatantly misrepresent something because it's ideologically convenient for them.
There absolutely are. But do you wait? Do you think that Brianna Joy Gray and Abigail Thorne are in the same basic ballpark when it comes to misinformation?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, that's unbelievable to me.
Yeah,
I think that if you look at
unbelievable would be the adjective I would use to describe both of them. I wouldn't believe a single thing either of them says. I think both of their content is wholly worthless.
I honestly think that if you can't tell the difference between those two people, then you've lost the plot and you can't meaningfully comment.
Okay,
on
you know what? I don't have a fucking girlfriend living here. I can do whatever the fuck I want to say. Link me one good philosophy video right now, and I'll watch it on fucking screen when we're done talking. Find me one decent.
I have to
thing.
like sit here while you watch it.
No. I'll do it after we're done talking. I'm super curious. Find me one video because I have suffered through the garbage tier content that is philosophy tube, and I've suffered permanent brain damage as a result of it. But I'll do it one more time. I'll jump back into the
Okay, so while there are videos from philosophy tube that I really, really like, and I'm happy to recommend them to you, I have a feeling that your audience probably isn't going to like them very much either. I just want to say that doesn't really have anything to do with what I was just saying. So I'll recommend some to you if you want. But first of all, the reason why I think that Brianna Joy Gray is a grifter and a general piece of shit is because if you look through her content, if you look through the shit she says, tweets, videos, panels, whatever, we reveal not only
yeah, I mean, at the very least, all my videos are going to be taken down from this freaking channel. Are you kidding me? I'm not leaving. How many hours of footage of me talking must be on here? Oh no. Oh no. Too bad people are reposting my music videos.
wrong, but a persistent and motive-driven dishonesty, a hypocrisy which underlies almost everything they do and say, a categorical indifference to criticism or to growing as an individual. Whereas with philosophy too.
Hold on, wait, you described. Oh, you were describing Brianna because that's not like Abigail.
I know. Whereas with
and
philosophy
Abigail
too.
literally said, "I don't even like gentle criticisms of my content. I'm so irritated by the other lefty guy that was making, like the unlearning economics guy. She was upset about his video."
I'm not. Wait, I genuinely don't trust your interpretation of this event. Do you have a link to a tweet or a video?
Okay, sure. Can somebody give me? You guys were linking it earlier. Can you guys give me the link to her video where she is? I'm saying upset, but where she's like irritated that somebody that unlearning.
Oh, this would be from a live stream segment, wouldn't it? If
there
it's
you go.
meta.
Yeah, wait, we can just watch this. It's a 20 now. It might be clipped, but let me know when you're ready. We'll start it at the same time. Okay.
Okay. All
right. Ready?
Okay. Oh, this was posted from Unlearning Economics. Well, I trust them.
No, I just hate people hearing me out of context. Like, if I post a video, that's why I stopped doing prepared content, because I hate it. I'd rather be able to talk back and forth with people, because I hate having, like, because people always offer rebuttals. I'd rather deal with it right there, instead of seeing something in the comments that I'm like, oh, that's dumb. But people are actually believing this, so I want to debunk it. But, like, it's rough. I don't know what I'm doing. It's not... It just doesn't make sense for... I don't know. It's whatever.
Hold on, it's 22 seconds. Okay, 1, 2, 3, let's go.
We'll get into the details of how UBI might work today, because I found that when I discuss an actual policy idea in a video, people tend to think the video is essentially about arguing for that policy. And then a bunch of earnest, well-meaning people make reply videos to me that I'm afraid I don't watch, in which they presumably own me with facts and logic. But I'm not trying to write policy.
Okay. Gotcha.
Tell me this doesn't sound salty as fuck about incredibly gentle videos that Unlearning Economics is.
I don't think it sounds salty as fuck. I think it sounds salty. I think this is bad. But I don't think this comes anywhere near like Brianna Joy Gray. There are people in your audience on Mclaughlin, but like I've said the same thing. I get a lot of response videos too.
Yeah, I
like,
agree.
I don't have time to watch
But
them.
like, okay, for example, with this channel, we've had a consistent like 105 viewers for this entire thing, and it's been 3 hours so far, and I haven't gained 1 subscriber. Like I'm just not growing. It's not up to me. It's up to the algorithm. I really just don't have a chance to, I don't know, to compete. Like I'm not in like I was saying, I'm not in the in group. I'm not in the in social group. I'm not getting on. I have to go on the Prime case because he's really cool. He does those panels that you just walk onto. But I'm not getting. Yeah. Oh, thank you for subbing. But Thomas is a new viewer. But like in general, I don't know. Like I'm not getting invited on all those you know, all those stuffs, all that stuff, you know, the panels and shit.
Well, most of them are made by Nazis, so they're probably not worth watching.
Why are you doing this comparison? Do you think
because I don't think
no, hold on. You just did the rhetorical thing again. You don't notice you're doing this. Maybe you just like assume this.
It's not rhetorical. It's just how I talk.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not trying to strategize.
You literally just like,
wait,
oh, yeah, I don't watch reply
Thomas has been here for a while now. I've seen you before.
Wait, you know, a lot of them are Nazis.
No, that, okay, wait, sorry. Okay, I
no, but that's the thing, Pedro. We wait, what? The P and O are silent. But I don't. Wait, I don't P and. What? I don't know what that means. But that's the thing. You can't be involved. The reason I think there's a clear reason why there's not more people who are involved in local politics, who are big on YouTube. I think there's a clear reason. Like you can't do both. Well, Vaush already had a viewer base off of Destiny. I'll keep hustling. No, I'll keep hustling and bustling. But my music channel, I'm relying on the music channel, you know? The music channel, it's going to blow up the music. I have to make the music channel. Look at this. Check this out. I have 200 subscribers on here. 200 subscribers, yet I'm getting like over 1,000 views, 2,000 views, 21,000 views.
I will be fully transparent in the future. That was an attempt.
Yeah, the progressive voice took forever to take off, and now his channel's dying. So
I need to point
that
out
was a sneaky debate tactic. It was an attempt at lightening the mood slightly. I'll say this: I don't like it. I don't think you're charitable enough to tell the difference between this and the type of stuff that Brianna Joy Gray does. I mean, do you wait? I need to be real, man. I watched you watch this. I didn't watch it on my own. You watched the Bad Faith podcast where Brianna Joy Gray and Virgil Texas talked to Chomsky. Have you? There's a right answer to this. Have you ever watched anything from Abigail that even came close? That was even in the same universe as the degeneracy on display with those two dumb fucks besmirching the name of Noam Chomsky?
Probably not, no.
Okay. I was kind of expecting you to say they were the same, but they're...
Abigail's content is generally non-confrontational. She's not going to bring on somebody to like, because in order to get to that level of degeneracy, you need to like demean somebody like else. And I don't think
that's beyond. I don't think she could do that. I don't think she's capable.
Yeah, probably not. But all I'm saying is, I don't know if I'm saying like one is necessarily worse than the other. What I'm saying is that Abigail contributes nothing meaningful whatsoever to public discourse, and if she deleted all of her videos, the world would be better for it. Okay. Now, maybe Brianna's takes are like more infuriating, or whatever, but Abigail offers nothing of value to the world of online content or political discourse, based on everything I've ever seen and how horrendously incorrect her takes are on almost everything she talks about.
Okay, so I've seen the I've seen the Unlearning Economics video on the video that she did on the housing market, and I agree that
Mhm.
video never seemed that good to me. There are some other videos that she's seen. You said you didn't like the one about consciousness. I remember there was a video of hers that I saw where I felt there were some issues. I just don't remember the specifics. But to this to you, those instances, this is contributing nothing of value. This is
Or anti-value, like they mislead people, or yeah.
Who do you?
Hey,
like
you know
the
what?
most?
You know what? I will fully admit, maybe there is something of value that I've just missed, and maybe only every video I've seen has been fucking horrible, atrocious trash. And that's why I'm excited for you to link me a video after
What
this.
about the
We'll
work
watch
video?
And I'm like, what?
The work video. I saw your stream watch it. I thought it was a pretty fine video. That's the video from which we just saw that clip. I saw chat being absurdly.
Oh
your
my
chat-
god! I remember jumping
All
around.
right, let's talk about YouTube analytics for 1 second. So, you said the Progressive Voice gets 5,000 views a video. That's really good. His channel's not dead. But he's been at 74.9 thousand subscribers for a long time. He doesn't gain subscribers. He actually was at 5,000 and he lost 200 subscribers. That's why he was at 74.k subscribers. That's why he was stuck there. Now he finally gained 100 after all these views. And by the way, I get around with because you guys are an awesome like collective group that I actually like build a relationship with through the streams and shit, and Discord and all that stuff. People come back to my channel, so I get like 700 to 1250,000 views on everything, or not 1250,000, but you know what I'm saying, like over 1,000 views per video with 4,000 subscribers. He gets 5,000 views per video with 75,000 subscribers. That's how many I'd be getting if I had 16,000 subscribers. So yeah, his channel's dead because he built it off of drama and never actually built content and never actually built a persona or anything. So yeah, I mean, you can build a channel quickly, I guess, but you have to. Well, I'm 20. I'm 20 years old, so.
Found you my Tinker's furnish. Was this the one where she was complaining about like doing data entry and
But
shit?
she was dressed like Scrooge, right? I think, or it was like a Christmas thing. Or something?
I black parts of this video from my mind. I don't know
really
if this
wasn't
video
as bad
gave,
as you remember.
I don't think it gave like bad information. It was just like a horrible, worthless
How?
fucking video.
Wait, horrible, worthless. Why the emotional investment? Horrible and
No, I
worthless.
don't have that much of an emotional investment. It was
You care enough to call it horrible and worthless to say she should
what
leave
was
her
the one,
channel.
fuck, what was it? I'm trying to think. She made like an analogy to like a bar owner like not doing any work or not having any value. Just everything.
Well,
Anytime any
an owner, well, by definition, an owner doesn't do work. They can manage, and that's work. But the act of owning in and of itself isn't work.
Okay.
I mean, you leverage the capital. There's like some back end stuff, but the actual act of ownership is not labor.
A lot of the time,
Your chat
it's
is
not
question marking,
based-
but this is incredibly straightforward.
Wait, okay, just this is a class thing from my background. Maybe in Beverly Hills they're all franchised, but in the place where I came from, a lot of owners that own small businesses are full-time workers.
Then
They have to.
yeah, then they're workers. I said the
Okay.
act of owning
Gotcha,
in
I
itself.
understand.
Yeah.
But I'd be really careful to like clarify that. But also, the act of owning, I guess it depends on if you're literally just like a capital owner versus like an owner slash like CEO.
Well, no, but that's what I mean. Yeah, just an owner. The act of owning is not labor. But most owners, especially small
Sure.
businesses, they do
I
labor.
remember her saying a bunch of incredibly stupid things. Like somebody brings up like the fact that she thought that she like poured like a $10 like beer means that she should have gotten paid $10. Like,
Okay, I recognize. I know even a lot of Marxists misunderstand. That's even in Marx's calculations of surplus labor, he took into account the factors that upkeep on the industry would have. That the surplus value is not literally exclusively just what you're paid and then the total value.
I agree that this is a dog shit video game.
No,
So
it's a video which misrepresents some issues, but I think ultimately has a compelling story to tell on alienation from labor. But you can't see that.
okay.
I haven't yet to find a single content creator who has never produced something I found objectionable.
I'm not saying that the problem is I find some of it. I'm saying that most of what they post is just ideological dribble that is just not rooted in reality.
Dribble.
That anytime it has to do with econ or finance is cringe and horrible and bad, and that even some of their philosophy takes are mind-numbingly fucking stupid. So like,
Okay, the reason is I can't risk having hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of me talking online if there's not a return for it, because I can affect good change and I need to have a job to do that. I can't, you know what I mean? Like, being 20 doesn't help me because I'm leaving school soon. So I'm going to be going into I'm turning 21 in like freaking 4 weeks. But the thing is, I'm at a crucial point where you transition from like, college to the workforce typically, or maybe college to working on a campaign like John Fetterman's running in Pennsylvania. Dude, if I can find a way to get a job on that campaign, I'd have a heart attack. That'd be amazing. But I can't do both. It doesn't work that way. I'd have to restart and make sure I say everything perfect. Make sure I stay on message for everything. I can't be, I can't talk with this online lingo as I've been doing. But it's just how light, IRL.
Specific videos I can't say, just charitability dictates everything
No, I don't drink at all or smoke, actually.
here, because something that I would say is like,
That's
that
how
was
I got my superpowers.
a mistake, but overall the video's good. It's something that might lead you to say, this video is indefensible, it's bad, we're never going to see it
You
again.
know somebody that I disagree with a lot with the last video, but you know what I like this other presentation? Cuck philosophy. That guy is based.
Yeah, Cuck
Or
philosophy
they-
is pretty basic.
Yeah, his stuff, and I totally disagree with his last video. And you know what? I actually think some of his last video was wrong and bad. I think so. But for the most part, I would watch his videos and I would enjoy them. I like his content. I think he does a really good job. And I picked up some really fucking interesting concepts and I learned stuff. I think that's like a valuable
And you
content.
like Unlearning Economics? Who I think Unlearning Economics is a socialist. I forget, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he is.
No,
But
no, I don't drink, and I'm not planning on it. I'll drink when I turn 30. No, I can't drink till marriage. I can't drink.
He seems like he understands at least like basic.
But I'm also not getting married, so.
I don't like hate socialists.
Socialists were the original people to understand.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with socialists that like understand econ. We might disagree
Well,
sometimes.
a lot of socialists don't understand econ very well.
I'm aware, but then they try to explain it.
Well, yes, of course, but the internet is full of people who explain things poorly. But sometimes I feel like I see a different degree of charitability from you with regards to the types of information that people present. Now, I don't have a stellar memory.
Nazis? Am I charitable to Trump? Please tell me which people I'm charitable with.
I generally think, yeah, actually, I think that's what made you different. You were charitable to the Nazis. You didn't just like name call or anything. You actually listened to their arguments long enough to realize how dumb they were, and then you took apart their arguments. Yeah. Charitability doesn't mean you have to like them. Charitability and
yeah, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying I have to like reevaluate what I'm doing. I have to have like an actual plan. Like, you know, like right now I'm just like throwing shit against the wall. I'm reacting to random ass videos, but like when I do this stuff, I need to make it very substance based, and I can't be going into like I'm not even gonna comment on what Vaush and Destiny talk about in those dumb hypotheticals that don't matter for real life.
sense that you assess their. Why is your chat question?
No, I'm not anti-marriage. I'm just not a socialist. I'm not social, you know.
Marking me.
Because the frustrating thing, Vaush, is just how wrong you are. When I set out on the lefty arc, I have never been more gentle with people in my entire fucking life, and people lost their fucking minds.
Yes, you know how I felt about the lefty arc to begin with. You're perfectly aware.
I'm just saying that like I was so gentle. And now you know what? And towards the end, if anybody would watch our last debate with Allsup and Striker or whatever, I don't think anybody would say that like we were making a big effort to understand. Like, we just destroyed them. It was just a demolishment.
At that point, I feel like the structure of that debate necessitated demolition.
Sure, and most of my debates basically
your conversations.
There's not anything left for me to discuss like in a general.
I understand that. So I feel like you moved off my point a little bit. First of all, I'm still genuinely curious why chat question marked me when I said that you opened by being charitable to the far right, because that's literally how you understand the arguments well enough to be able to confront them. If you're uncharitable, then you don't know if what you're criticizing is legitimate. That's the problem that I have. And I'm not charitable to everyone I argue with, and you've long stopped being charitable to lefties. And sometimes I think that's justified.
I'm charitable to every person that comes on and wants to have a reasonable discussion. Every time.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know,
I'm not anti-marriage.
That's on my part, but I feel that way about everyone you talk to except me.
Look at the conversations I had with the two.
I'm not anti-drinking. I think I'm gonna smoke before I drink. It's much better.
Joel fucking
much better for you.
Both of those were I was incredibly gentle, even though he's a fucking piece of shit both times.
He's not a piece of shit. He just rambled post on Twitter. That doesn't make a person. This is what I mean. It doesn't make a person a piece of shit.
You're telling me I have the rest of my life when we almost just got overturned by fascism? Fascism almost overtook America. Thank God Joe Biden voted out fascism. We voted out fascism. We're all safe now. Thank God. But we were so close. Trump is literally Hitler. But like unironically, he is literally Hitler. I mean, but yeah.
Ramble post on Twitter afterwards.
When you walk away on Twitter and you act like some fucking inbred degenerate dipshit who couldn't understand a single thing I said, but you didn't have the fucking gall to say anything when you were talking to me.
I watch Rachel Maddow every day. Chris Hayes is my progressive hero.
Makes you a subhuman piece of shit.
Okay, so let's pull back on a couple of the adjectives there. Okay, so what he actually did is he ramble posts. He posts like a drunken person talking. And then
he trivialized the fuck.
He initiated that, and then he came on to you and he talked with you, and you debated better than him, of course, because you're good at that, and he doesn't do that. And then he went off, and clearly he wasn't happy with Mussolini. He pontificated afterwards. What he did was essentially the Twitter equivalent of ending a call and then like shit talking the person you just talked to. I don't think that makes a person a scumfuck, subhuman, degenerate. Like, why?
Oh, I understand, not for you, because I have a high. This is why I don't have any friends like this. I have a really high standard for what I consider to be a good person. If you listen, you know what? I would never call you a scumfuck, degenerate, subhuman, because at least when you disagree with me, you say it right now, and I'm okay with it. I respect that if you say it right now. But if you would have pretended to agree with everything I said and then immediately ran to Twitter and talk shit afterwards, nah, fuck that shit. That's like
there might be reasons why people do that.
Yeah, because they're subhuman, inbred, dipshit, fucking.
Maybe they're a little bit intimidated by you.
Well, then don't talk to me at all. Fuck off.
If you don't want people who are intimidated by you to talk to you, then you lose out on a lot of content. Don't you think it would be better? The issue that I have is that I'm sorry. The issue I have is it feels like you
sorry, that's so funny though. This is such a funny sequence. Like, do you think they might be intimidated by you? You think they might be intimidated by you? And Destiny's like, well, just don't talk to me then. Just don't talk to me.
Yeah, because they're subhuman, inbred, dipshit, fucking.
Maybe they're a little bit intimidated by you.
Well, then don't talk to me at all.
Don't talk to me at all.
Well, if you don't want people who are intimidated by you to talk to you, then
he's like a kid I play on like Call of Duty after I kill him and I trash talk him on Call of Duty. He's such a gamer, dude.
Lose out on a lot of content.
He dresses like a 10-year-old Minecraft player.
The issue that I have is that I'm sorry. The issue I have is it feels like you and I have two different standards by which we measure the worth of a person. For me, I measure the worth of a person, generally speaking, they're sufficiently progressive, good, they bring about good politics. And you measure the worth of a person by a set of principles and consistencies. And I think that's fine. But what bothers me is when it seems like you lump together fairly good people with bad elements to their behavior, with genuinely fucking bad people. And it feels like when you're unwilling to distinguish between them, like I think Brianna Joy-Grain Philosophy being an excellent example of this, that you distort the perception of these people in the minds of your audience. I saw that work video.
I want that to happen.
You want distortion? I thought you liked honesty.
No, not distortion, reality. I think that people get away with way too much irresponsible shit online, and I think way more people need to be called the fuck out for it. Okay. I think it's disgusting. The level of misinformation, people can post videos to millions of subscribers, and it's just blatantly incorrect, and everybody's okay with it. That blows my fucking mind into smithereens. And I don't think that it should be some kind like, we need to be nicer. I honestly,
it's not just about being
right now, should be forcibly fucking deleted. And they should have to start over, and if they keep posting misinformation, they're just banned from the whole internet forever.
Nobody can be the arbiter of that decision. If I looked over your content for long enough, I'm sure I'll find enough things that would trip my moral flags to be willing to assign that standard.
I'm not talking about moral flags right now. I'm talking about people that are just posting blatantly, grossly misrepresented, horrible
misinformation. It's a moral judgment, how harmful.
Shit, you're right, dude. You're right. I forgot that's why Trump isn't talking. I was thinking, like, why isn't Trump doing interviews? But he's not doing interviews because he can't hold himself back before the impeachment. He's, oh no.
Misinformation is.
I'm not talking about the part. I'm saying somebody gets some shit wrong over and over and over and over. That's my big issue.
Okay, so wait.
Anybody that streams politics on YouTube, I hate, including myself.
Do you think there's any difference then between people who post misinformation about COVID-19 and people who post misinformation about Super Smash Bros. Cheat codes that would allow you to play Sonic in Melee? Obviously, we have to make moral
actually owning myself
judgments about what types of misinformation are worthy of condemnation.
Sure, but the types of misinformation that I would want to be deleted wouldn't depend on just, only the misinformation that's bad, but the other misinformation can stay. Because the misinformation that stays rots us to the fucking core, and that's what makes the misinformation that's bad later on permissible.
Do you think that the far right online and the online left engage in comparable degrees of misinformation?
Absolutely, at this point. I'm fucking embarrassed to say it. Yeah, 100% I believe so at this point, yes.
What could move you off of that position?
If I could talk to any bread tuber and I could just have a 2-minute conversation with them and feel like they understand like basic things like, so here's something that would blow my fucking mind. It would blow my fucking mind. If I could ask a bread tuber, hey, what do you think might be an advantage to renting property from a landlord versus buying it? And I could have like a 5-minute conversation and they actually understood the pros and cons of the buying side and the pros and cons of the renting side. It would blow my fucking mind. I would
really think that they wouldn't. I feel like Joel, if you would.
No, I don't think he would. I think he would fumble and I think he'd be and I don't think
do you think if I talk to some people?
I gotta go eat some food. I'll be honest. Oh, I'm too small to hate? Dang. True. When you get big, do you hate Xander Hall? Do you hate the Progressive Voice? They're streamers. They're pretty small. What about Demon Mama? Do you hate her? I guess she's a little bit. She has more she got a lot of subscribers lately, I think. Last time I saw her channel. Probably burgers, Borgers, you know. If anybody has any, look at the Trump mask jiggling over there. Imagine require. Yeah, I don't eat food. I'm lying. I'm going to. When I get this might not be worth it. I was gonna say when I get to school, I might journey. I might try out like streaming for like 8 hours one day, but I don't think that'd be worth it because like I mean you want to hear the don't wanna mukbang. True. All right. Everybody have a good night. Here's the Discord. It's up there. Called me Jonah. You don't even know who I am. How dare you? Oh wait, where's the cat at? Bye, cat. Oh, he's awake now. He looks disturbed. Meow. All right, I'm gonna go feed the cat too. Brave Dubin, maybe. Look at the cat. He's so cute. He's so cute. He doesn't even know. He's looking right at you. David Pakman videos like daily news? I don't know, maybe. I used to do that stuff. Yo, Progressive Voice in Destiny was hilarious. I have to, maybe I'll watch that on stream one of these days when I'm bored. All right, goodbye. Why does he have a bell? Because I can know where he is at all times. He's a sneaky little cat. My first single, I'm not dropping any more singles. I don't want the Tom McDonald fam to raid me. I told you already. They dislike bomb all of my videos, so I'm not posting ever again until those videos are done in the algorithm.